The story begins in a game house, where people are commenting that once again Kangxi managed to take first place on the new map. The map had just been released in the game Dungeon Craft, a game where each player can create their own dungeon, and even so, he was already at the top of the ranking. The other players keep wondering how he always manages to do this every time new content comes out. One of them comments that he must be using bots to play in his place. Kangxi's friend, who was listening to everything along with him, notices the comment and calls attention to it. They say he uses bots, but at the same time they find it strange that he is always there eating at that game house, even though he has a lot of money. Kangxi replies that the food there is good, simple as that, and casually mentions that he got first place again, so it is better for the others to start preparing themselves. One of the guys says he talks as if it were easy to be in first place, which only increases the suspicion that he is practically a bot. Deep down, Kangxi thinks that technically they are not entirely wrong, because the only real fun he has is playing and beating the maps. Later, while saying goodbye to his friend, he reflects that if someone asked why he is so obsessed with that game, the answer would be simple. In the real world he controls nothing, but inside the game, everything is possible. In the game he can create, delete, and modify anything with a click. Things that are impossible in real life, like moving power poles or reorganizing an entire city, would be solved in seconds inside the game. While crossing the street, a truck suddenly appears heading toward him, and he thinks about how annoying it is to live in this reality, where not even a simple object can be removed whenever you want. The truck brakes at the last second and does not run him over. Kangxi comments that he almost ended up in another world, almost entered an isekai. The driver asks if he is crazy, if he is trying to kill himself, but Kangxi simply points at the traffic light, which was green for him. The truck driver looks confused, asking when that changed. He keeps thinking that everything would be much more convenient if he could edit reality the way he does in the game, create the world the way he wants. At that moment, a metal beam comes loose from a nearby construction site and falls toward a child playing nearby, unaware of the danger. Kangxi judges the situation absurd, but understands that this is the only chance to truly control something. He decides to act, and jumps to save the girl, thinking that at least his own body he can command. The beam hits him directly. As everything goes dark, he realizes that this is the cursed real life, where there is no delete button. After losing consciousness, he finds himself in a strange place, as if he were in an astral plane, surrounded by something that looks like absolute emptiness. He imagines he is inside a black hole, and wonders if he died. A voice echoes and a massive figure appears before him, a three-eyed celestial being, who asks how the hell of Oblivio was, and says that now it is time to face reality. Kangxi reacts irritably, asking who he is and what that Oblivio is supposed to mean. The being explains that death is merely a means to reincarnation, and that he will receive a second chance to recover his memories. Confused, Kangxi asks him to speak in a simpler way. The celestial being tells the Obliviated to open his eyes, and suddenly something invades Kangxi's mind. He awakens in another body, completely desperate, alone in a room that seems to be part of an ancient castle. When he looks at himself in the mirror, he sees the appearance of a demon, and realizes that the reflection is himself. He questions whether he really died, and if he is now in an isekai, like an anime. Everything feels too real to be a dream. He understands that the first thing he needs to figure out is where he is. The castle has a medieval style, and seems old and silent. While he is still trying to understand the situation, someone asks how long he intends to keep whispering to himself. Before he can react, a blade pierces his chest. He can only spit blood. The one responsible is a woman with a manic expression, who laughs while asking if he thinks he is going to die. The pain is intense. The blade pierced his chest bone. Kangxi asks why she did that, and she responds simply. She hates him and wants to get rid of him. When it seems like everything will end right there, someone disarms her. A man with long hair appears holding a whip. The woman, called Seldera, questions why Tarme is there again. Tarme tells her to stop, reminding her that the injured one is her own brother. Confused, Kangxi tries to understand who those people are. Tarme approaches, calling him Kella, and comments with false affection that Seldera is mistreating him again. Then he tells him to drink a liquid, implying that it will help. Kella, still trying to grasp his new reality, assumes it is a healing potion, and drinks some of it. Right after, he spits it all out. His throat starts burning from top to bottom as if it were on fire. The liquid is not medicine, it is poison. Caldera asks if he is going to die, even though she herself wanted to kill him. Tarme observes that he is clearly in pain, but it does not seem like he is going to die, which is a shame, because that poison recipe was a failure. Caldera does not understand why they are doing that to him, why he has to suffer like that without even knowing the reason. Suddenly the doors open, and the demon king Hel Kuldan returns from his hunt for heroes. Caldera and Tarme react immediately, asking if their father has already returned. Caldera freezes when he hears that, trying to process the word father together with the title Demon King. Hel Kuldan asks why he is hearing so many sounds coming from that wing of the castle. Kella stares at the man, and tries to accept that he might truly be the Demon King. Keldon tries to apologize, shifting the blame onto Kella, but the king simply grabs both of them by the neck, one in each hand. He declares that it is a humiliation to hear screams and groans of pain echoing through the castle of the Demon King. The two beg their father for forgiveness. Kella begins connecting the pieces and realizes that those two are his siblings, which means he is the son of the Demon King himself. Hel Khaldun states that he only wants to hear two kinds of sounds inside his castle: the birth of a great demon and the sound of an honorable death. Then he steps on Kella's head without hesitation. The three of them are pushed to the brink of death under the crushing pressure of the king. As he struggles not to lose consciousness completely, Kella Kella concludes that he truly reincarnated in another world, and to make it worse was born as the son of that monster. He thinks this is the worst thing that could have happened to him. The memories of the body begin to surface. He remembers crying in front of his own mother after his father shoved a fork into his eye. His mother comments that it must have hurt a lot, and upon hearing that Tarme poisoned his food, replies that he should strike back and return the favor, the way a demon would. Kella says that if he did that, he would die. His mother responds that then he should kill them first. She tells him that Hel Kaldun killed his own siblings at 12 years old to become the Demon King. The lesson is clear: if someone tries to kill him, he must kill first. To prove her point, she takes a dagger and stabs her own son in the stomach, saying that this is how a demon does it. While he cries in pain, she asks if he understands. The memory ends and Kella wakes up in his own bed. A subordinate asks if he is alright. He realizes that those are the memories of Kella Kaldun, the original owner of the body, and notices that the wounds are already completely regenerated. Apparently, this body has absurd regenerative abilities. The subordinate informs him that he slept for quite a long time, and that the family meal will happen soon. She is Rin, his personal attendant. During childhood, Kella was always timid compared to his siblings, and ended up being despised by everyone. Rin went as far as choosing the clothes he should wear to parties, but did not even bother helping him put them on. He comments that he heard his brother's attendant helps him get dressed, and Rin replies that if he wants, he can dress her instead. He cuts the conversation short, saying he can dress himself. The memories continue showing how Rin pushed her tasks onto him, telling him to clean his own blanket while she rested. On another day, she slept in his bed, and then placed a doll in her spot to pretend she was working. The new Kella grows angry when he realizes how the original owner of this body allowed himself to be intimidated by a mere attendant. He decides that now he will truly take control. All this time, that body was kicked around and treated like trash. His new life is not so different from the old one. The weak are crushed. At the family meal, he takes his seat at the table. Hel Kaldun comments that he is late. Kella feels his father's overwhelming presence and understands why he is the Demon King. He apologizes and sits down. Keldura's reception is to throw a knife into his leg. The pain is immediate and she laughs at him, commenting that he seems low on energy and should eat plenty. Kella maintains his composure because he knows he cannot let anyone realize that something inside him has changed. While eating, he notices that the food is poisoned again. Tarme comments that he prepared a special soup for him and asks if it tastes good. Kella answers that it does. Deep down, he understands that those demons are not his family, they are enemies. He concludes that this situation will not last much longer and that he needs to act before they try to kill him again. Kella always wanted to complete a real achievement. In his past life, with his strategic mind, he was the best map designer in Dungeon Craft. But outside the game, he was just another shaken up guy who never reacted. He never did anything. He never controlled anything. And he almost died in a useless way. He refuses to repeat that here. Consumed by anger, he grabs the poisoned soup and says Keldura should try it as well. Without hesitation, he throws the bowl straight into her face. Then he decides to return the gift she gave him earlier and hurls the knife into Tarme's shoulder. After that, he turns to Hel Kaldun and questions whether those happy family meals have not already run their course. He flips the table over and declares that from now on, each of them should eat alone. The entire hall falls into shock. Deep inside, Kella challenges all of them. Later, even after being trampled by his own father to the brink of death because of his audacity, he recovers in an absurd amount of time. The regeneration is fast, almost frightening. He feels a different strength within himself and realizes he truly is the son of the Demon King. Now he wants to test the limits of that ability. Rin warns that it is almost time for the demon power class and that he needs to hurry. He tells her to be quiet, saying he already knows. She finds the change in attitude strange. From the memories of the former Kella, that class used to be one of the worst possible experiences, but now there is no reason to avoid it. In the training arena, the instructor informs them that Keldera and Tarme will not participate that day. Only the other students remain. Keldera recognizes all of them through his memories. They used to intimidate him and take every chance to beat him. They are demons in the purest sense, the strong crushing the weak. In recent memories, Keldera watched the beatings and said they were going too easy on him. Since she had authority there, the others obeyed and hit even harder. The former Keldero never wanted to fight. That body had a soft heart. Now everything is different. The instructor asks what the class's last duel was. One of the bullies answers that it was between him and Kella, mockingly correcting himself to Sir Kella. The atmosphere immediately grows tense. The instructor decides to repeat the duel. The students comment that he will be beaten almost to death again and ask him not to cry like before. Kella grows irritated. He does not know what is worse, the taunts around him or the idiot in front of him. He realizes his current life and his past one are far too similar. Before, he had neither money nor strength. He was underestimated and humiliated. Now that is over. When he concentrates energy, the pressure shifts the entire environment. The students become frightened. They ask since when Kella has had so much mana. The opponent can barely move under the weight of his aura. Kella warns that he will take it easy and that he will throw only one punch. The blow lands directly and destroys the face of the demon named Rude, who sinks into the ground as if he had been crushed by a mountain. He cannot even react. Silence takes over the arena. The instructor is in shock. Rude loses teeth and eye and cannot speak properly. Kella asks what he had said earlier and questions whether he dares to speak that way to the son of the Demon King. Rude apologizes to Lord Kella. He replies that he does not want to see another mistake in front of him or someone will die. Everyone is terrified. terrified, trying to understand what just happened. Kella calls the instructor, who is already nervous just from being summoned, and asks whether the class will continue. The instructor answers yes. Rin, watching from a distance, concludes that he is definitely different. Hill Khaldun himself also observes the class in silence. Later in the demon castle, Seldera is furious inside a recovery bath, complaining that that bastard dared to throw poison potion in her face. Tormi tells her to calm down and focus on the treatment, reminding her that she does not possess the same absurd regeneration as Kella. Seldera admits that this is strange. Why is he the only one with such high regenerative power? Tarmi concludes that Kella has gone through some kind of transformation. Something in him has changed. Tarme realizes that Kella is completely different. He notices something even stranger. It was the first time he saw his own father smile while watching what Kella did in the arena. Kelladera doubts that the smile was for him, but Tarme insists that this is exactly why the situation is not normal. He suggests that it might be better for them to join forces, even if she would rather die than ally with Kella, because together they could deal with him before things spiral out of control. Kelladera accepts the idea coldly. If they are going to act, he will be the first to die before drawing their father's attention again. Meanwhile, Kella is in class. The instructor projects a magical hologram of the former demon king Turk Khaldun, whose appearance is brutal and insane, the true portrait of a demon. The instructor explains that Turk was the most powerful of his era, and only died because of a cowardly scheme, a betrayal organized by the Celestial Guild and other opportunistic guilds that took the chance to tear away part of the demon kingdom. Kella's memories confirm this. The guilds surround the demon territory and keep the king practically trapped inside his own castle. He thinks that because of those cursed guilds, he lives like someone confined in a fortress that was supposed to represent power. The instructor reinforces that the Celestial Guild, the greatest since its founding, organized the massive attack to support the king and crush the enemies. Everyone must strive in combat class. The class recites in unison for the honor of the demons. Later, Kella watches the castle horizon and understands that he cannot remain idle there. If he stays in that place, he could die at any moment. He asks Rin whether his father will be away for 3 days, and she confirms. Then he reveals that the castle has a serious weakness. There is no strategic architectural map capable of using the terrain to their advantage in combat. The guilds are exploiting neglected territories around them to attack. He decides he will use this time to map the entire region and deliver to his father a plan that will allow them to destroy every enemy. He will assume that role. Unlike the real world, there he can create a map just as he did in Dungeoncraft. He orders Rin to prepare a secret office in the castle basement immediately, a space where he can work without his father knowing. She asks what the office should look like, and he replies that it only needs to be functional and hidden. Meanwhile, Hel Khaldun himself, immersed in a recovery bath, thinks that he cannot let his son slip from his sight. Before it is too late, he needs to confirm something personally. When Kella goes down to the basement, he finds an improvised space and complains about its poor condition. Rin justifies that since it had to be secret, it was the best she could manage. He corrects her firmly, saying that next time she can do better. He realizes that he is treating her with more authority and that it is beginning to have an effect. Rin in turn feels fear and finds the change strange, yet at the same time she feels drawn to this new posture. He seems different, more dominant, more decisive. Kella orders her to bring coffee. She leaves repeating the word, trying to understand what coffee means in that world. As soon as she moves away, he can finally focus on the map. Observing the castle structure, he concludes that it is positioned in the worst possible location in strategic terms. That is ridiculous for someone who calls himself the Demon King. He decides he will mentally redesign everything, create his own dungeon adapted to reality. While Rin walks in confusion asking what coffee is, Hel Khaldun appears in the basement corridor. He asks what she is doing there without Kella, demands to know where he is and what he is doing. Rin grows nervous. She remembers that she promised to keep it secret, but the king presses her with a suffocating aura. In the basement, completely focused, Kella enjoys analyzing the terrain. He realizes how much that world resembles Dungeoncraft. Creating maps has always been his greatest pleasure, both in his past life and now. It is the only moment when he feels absolute control. Suddenly, the door is violently smashed open. Hel Khaldun enters, saying he cannot believe his own son created a secret office without his knowledge. Kella barely has time to react or wonder how he was discovered. In the next instant, the king's fist pierces through his body. Hel Khaldun says that if his son wanted to kill him, he did not need to hide anything. Kella can barely respond. He only spits blood while trying to stay conscious. The pain is unbearable, far worse than the beatings from his siblings. For the first time, he feels that he might truly die there. Before losing consciousness, he pushes the map toward his father. Hel Khaldun asks what he is looking at. Kella explains that it is the complete mapping of the castle surroundings, marking every point of disadvantage, invasion routes, vulnerable areas, and patterns of battles against the guilds. He is drawing the entire geography to turn the battlefield into a strategic advantage. The king pulls his fist out of his abdomen and allows him to breathe. He asks why he did everything in secret. Kella answers that if he had announced beforehand that he wanted to help, his father probably would not have allowed it. That is why he decided to finish the map first, and only then present it. As the son of the Demon King, he wants to help exterminate the Celestial Guild. The two stare at each other in silence for long seconds. Rin, watching, cannot believe he is speaking like that in front of the king. Hel Khaldun asks how long it would take him to finish everything. Kella is surprised by his father's genuine interest. The king asks how many days would be necessary. He answers that 5 are enough. The king counters that the Celestial Guild will gather again in 3 days, so 5 days would make the map useless. Kella corrects him. It is not 5 days, it is 5 hours. Hel Khaldun's interest grows. Kella explains that in 3 days it is possible to complete all strategic constructions for the battle if he is placed in charge of the plan. The king looks at his own son as if he is seeing someone new. He accepts, but makes it clear that if this is only empty talk, he will tear the map apart and then tear him apart. Kella states that he understands perfectly. For the first time, he feels that he has achieved something real. Soon after, he vomits an absurd amount of blood. He still wonders whether his father truly tries to kill him by instinct, or if it is merely a test. Rin, on the other hand, is impressed. He not only survived, but convinced the Demon King. She feels even more attracted to his new posture. He orders her to stop standing there and take him immediately to the infirmary. Sometime later, partially recovered, Kella finishes the map in 5 hours. The castle forces begin the strategic constructions. Mages cast illusion magic around the construction areas so nothing can be detected. The geography is discreetly modified, creating choke points, trap zones, and false routes. Everything works as if he were editing a dungeon in a game. At the Celestial Guild camp, the guild master Hermerson receives news that the terrain around the castle is being altered. He questions whether they are truly transforming the geography. The subordinate confirms that large-scale illusion magic has been detected. Hermerson does not understand what kind of strategy the demons are preparing. The messenger suggests attacking immediately to interrupt the plan, but he refuses. He states that superficial changes will not alter the outcome. In 3 days, their most powerful squad will be complete, the Talkin Squad. Hermerson recalls that General Talawa began forming Talkin about 12 years ago, gathering the best combatants. Now the elite team is finally complete. He assures that this squad loses to nothing. This time, the Demon King will fall. In 2 days, Talkin will arrive at the castle. Knights gather under the unit name. Among them is the red-haired commander Sriles, who comments on the condition of General Killman. One of the knights asks if they will succeed this time. Sriles responds with absolute confidence. Talkin is not like the other guilds. They came to guarantee the death of the Demon King and the end of his lineage. Meanwhile, on the throne, Hel Khaldun analyzes the map created by his son. He mentally admits that it is not perfect, but it is impressive for something made in so little time, especially considering Kella's physical state. He understands that he cannot act without caution. The next day will be the final day of preparation. He intends to end the conflict against the Celestials once and for all. Mages, monsters, and demons work without rest on the strategic constructions. Defenses are raised, traps are prepared, corridors are redesigned. Everything progresses according to the plan drawn by Kella. He thinks that this is very different from creating a map inside a game. There are no system limitations or invisible lines preventing his choices. He can truly change anything he wants, however he wants, as long as he acts at the right moment. For that reason, he decides to simply wait for the beginning of the battle, because he knows that true control will begin when chaos sets in. The next day will be the great day. When dawn finally arrives, Talkin is already prepared at the Celestial Guild camp. The commander of Talkin formally presents himself to Hermerson, making it clear that they are there with a single objective. Talkin declares that they will put an end to the Demon King, full of motivation and confidence. Hermerson, with the same firmness, responds that he may go and face him immediately, as if that decision were simple. Before any advance can happen, something falls from the sky right in front of them, a small magical point that seems harmless at first glance. The commander realizes too late that it is a surprise attack. The explosion occurs at point-blank range, swallowing both sides in a brutal shockwave. Even so, everyone manages to defend themselves in time, and no one is severely injured. It soon becomes clear that it is not just an ordinary explosion. The one who emerged from the smoke was Hel Khaldun, the Demon King. Earlier, he had listened to his son Kella's explanation, who informed him that he had removed the barrier that tracked the magic of the Demon Kingdom. Because of that, the king could use teleportation without being detected. Hel Khaldun asked if he could teleport directly into the enemy base. Keldura considered it madness, arguing that it would be far too risky. Tarme reinforced that it was dangerous, even for him, especially since he was not fully recovered yet. Irritated, Hel Khaldun asked if they were doubting his power. The two denied it, but he ordered them to be silent and made the final decision. Now in the present, he was there to kill everyone. Mana began to gather around him in an overwhelming mass, pressing down on every warrior on the field. Talkin, however, did not retreat. Courageously, they advanced along with the others. The Demon King's response was devastating, and quickly a destructive battle took over the field. Meanwhile, at the top of the Demon Castle Tower, Kella gathered all the castle forces. He announced that the preparation was complete and ordered the advance against the Celestial Guild. The demon army moved out in mass formation, while creatures emerged from underground to attack from below. From above, Kella watched with satisfaction, believing everything was unfolding exactly as planned. However, Seldra and Tarme approached from behind him. She declared that she did not know how he had managed to accomplish that, but that things would not end the way he expected. Tarme stated that he had crossed the line, and that there was no longer any place for him there. Surprised, Kella barely had time to react before striking Tarme in the stomach with his weapon. Taking advantage of the opening, Keldra advanced and tore off Kella's head in a single blow. The two laughed, claiming that his healing factor would not work like that. As his head flew through the air, Kella thought that this would be the end of his life. The body fell along with the head down the tower. Even so, he still retained consciousness. Keldera declared that they had finally cut off that bastard's head. Tarme said it was now time to help their father. At that moment, however, Caldera also betrayed Tarme, stabbing him with a dagger. He recognized the weapon as belonging to their mother, something forbidden to use. Caldera replied that she was a demon and did not care about rules, since weapons were made to be used. She revealed that if she killed Tarme, she would be the only remaining heir and would take the succession. Furious, he lunged at her, initiating a direct confrontation between the two. Meanwhile, Kella was still alive, confused as he realized how demonic his own siblings could be. He never imagined he would meet such an end. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shattered, and Rin appeared, grabbing his head and reconnecting it to his body. She was completely terrified, but managed to restore him. On the battlefield, demonic portals began to open everywhere. It seemed that the demons perfectly understood human tactics. The warriors of the Celestial Guild were under pressure, not knowing how to deal with the absurd number of monsters. Then the Talking Dragon appeared, burning everything in its path and attacking the Demon King directly. Khaldun reacted with brutality, launched himself at the dragon, grabbed its neck and ripped off its head with crushing force. The commander of Talkin realized that the situation had become catastrophic and ordered everyone to fire at the Demon King. Even under attack, the demon army continued advancing. Khaldun remained standing, apparently intact. The commander asked if the blows had connected. Before everyone's eyes, the Demon King began to transform, assuming his most powerful form. The Talkin commander recognized the transformation exactly as described in the ancient books. Srail stated that this was the Demon King's final form. At that same instant, the Talkin could barely move from fear. Even so, Srail's ordered them to focus, because fear could not dominate them. Still, the commanders were clearly nervous. The Talkin commander's body barely responded, whether from fear or from the crushing pressure of the Demon King's aura. While observing the field, Khaldun reflected that the only weak point in Kella's plan was the fact that even by bringing all forces to the center of the enemy base, there was no clear escape route. Even so, that did not concern him. He was the Demon King, and did not fear being trapped in enemy territory. Besides, Kella had already considered that possibility. For Khaldun, however, none of that mattered now. The only objective was to kill every human present. He gathered even more mana around his own body, intensifying the pressure across the battlefield. The Talkin commander declared that the Demon King would give everything he had in that final form, and that they needed to be ready to sacrifice their own lives to prevent the entire guild from being exterminated. When the commander awakened his maximum power, the energy was so intense that it could be seen from the horizon, even from outside the castle. Meanwhile, underground, Rin continued trying to reconnect Kella's head to his body. She begged in desperation for it to work. She remembered when his arm had been torn off in the past, a memory that still made her feel sick. At the time, he had simply asked her to attach it again, and she did exactly that. The arm returned intact. Now, he had decided to test the same process with his own head, stating that he needed to be sure it would also work under that more dangerous condition. Rin thought it was insane, and said she did not want to do it. Kella explained that it would be more risky, and asked her to be careful. Shortly after the experiment was successfully completed, all of it had been planned by Kella. He then instructed Rin to find Caldera's attendant and deliver exactly the information he specified. Later, Rin spoke with Caldera's attendant, and revealed that Kella planned to kill Caldera during the battle, taking advantage of the moment when the Demon King would be occupied in combat. The attendant questioned how he intended to do it. Rin replied that the best opportunity would be when Caldera cut off his head, because the regeneration would not function without the head. In the present moment, Rin was terrified, because everything was happening according to Kella's plan, but he was still not breathing. She murmured that the plan was far too dangerous, and that he could truly die. That was when Kella awakened, and asked who she was calling an idiot. Rin was shocked to see him wake up. He thought that this time he had truly died. He concluded that his regeneration weakened when he was injured by daggers or weapons imbued with mana, but that did not matter because he had survived, and everything was proceeding as planned. Overcome with emotion, Rin hugged him, believing she had lost him. Kella turned red and embarrassed, asking why she was doing that. Shyly, she stepped back and he stated that he would continue with the plan since he had survived. Then he dissolved the contract that bound them, granting Rin her freedom. She was stunned by the decision. He explained that now she could live however she wished, without obligations. After that, he left. Rin remembered when in childhood, Kella had told her that she would be his friend, not his servant. Emotional, she declared that she wanted to follow him. He asked why, stating that she could go anywhere and that she should stop following him. On the battlefield, the Stalker commander was gravely injured. He acknowledged that Khaldun was a complete monster, as he remained standing even without an arm and covered in wounds. That was the true Demon King. The commander doubted that any human would be capable of defeating him. No matter what power they possessed, no one could stop that living disaster. Khaldun observed the field and realized that almost all the humans had died. He himself no longer had many soldiers remaining. He thought of his children and considered that they might not arrive in time. Even so, he did not allow himself disappointment. That battle had always been his. He decided he would use every last drop of mana. Meanwhile, Kella ran toward the battlefield. He thought he was finally seeing the exit. If he could reach that point, he could escape the castle and finally be free. For a moment, he believed everything had worked. Suddenly, Rin intercepted a magical attack that was heading directly toward them. She said she could already smell blood, and revealed that there were mages hidden within the walls themselves, disguised. The mages appeared and explained that they knew the Demon King's children would attempt to evacuate the castle through secret routes, so they had been waiting there since the beginning of the construction. Kella was surprised to realize that they even knew about the secret exit. The mages declared that they could not allow any relative of the Demon King to live, and fired magic at the two of them. Rin stated that she would hold the attack while Kella escaped. He replied that she would not be able to handle it alone, but Rin insisted that her priority was to protect him because she served him. Kella knew she barely mastered attack magic and could only use basic defense. Even so, at that moment she was sacrificing herself for him. When she asked why he was still there, Kella did not run. He told her to stop pretending she was strong and threw her away, saying that if she was going to follow him she should not die in front of him because that would make him furious. The mages mocked him, stating that he was an idiot and that there was no more escape. One of them commented that even a mid-class spell would be enough to kill him, since he was known as the weakest in the Demon Kingdom. Kella thought that this body had always been considered shy and weak, someone who never showed his true power, but now he would prove that everyone was wrong. He easily blocked the magic with his own mana. Rin was shocked to realize how strong he had become. The mages were also surprised. In a swift movement, Kella advanced toward the first mage and slammed his head into the ground. He asked if they truly believed he was weak, and stated that they should have checked their sources more carefully, but now it was too late. The mage barely managed to breathe before his head was crushed by the impact of mana. He was out of combat. Rin could hardly believe that Kella was defeating Celestial Guild mages using only his own energy. The remaining mages said it was impossible, and that the information had been wrong. With no alternative, they decided to use a high-class spell, the Spear of Light. They knew it was risky, since it would consume all their mana at once, and if it failed, both of them would die. Even so, they launched the spears. Rin warned that she would not be able to hold that attack. In the next instant, Kella was pierced by two spears of light, while Rin managed to block only one of them, stepping in front to protect him. She believed he could not move because he had been impaled and apologized, saying she had failed to protect him until the end. The mages celebrated, saying it had worked perfectly, and that it was the end of both of them. One of them suggested that perhaps they deserved a reward, and implied that they could have some fun with Rin. She told them to stay away, stating that she knew very well what humans did to demons. The mage told her to shut up, and declared that he would kill the Demon King's son first. Kella looked at the exit right there and could hardly believe he would die like that, so close to freedom. At the moment he believed everything was over, Ren screamed his name. He felt something strange inside himself, like a presence drawing near. Before him appeared the image of Hel Kaldun, his father. Kella thought the battle must have already ended, and that his plan had failed. Hel Kaldun's voice echoed, saying that he had fought countless times, considering every possibility. He explained that Caldera had no regard for other demons, and could not become queen, and that Tarme lacked the ambition to be Demon King. Kella stated that he did not care about any of them, and wanted to know why his father was communicating at that moment. Hel Kaldun revealed that the Demon King had the ability to transfer all of his mana to a descendant before dying. Kella asked if that meant he would die. Hel Kaldun replied that even in a short time he had observed his son, and concluded that Kella was the best candidate to become the next Demon King. Kella tried to deny it, but his father began transferring all the remaining mana from his body into him. Kella asked what he was doing, but Hel Kaldun simply thought that his son should not mourn his death but act like a true demon. On the battlefield, only the Demon King's head remained. Hel Kaldun had finally died. General Killmonger also fell in that battle, sacrificing himself. Only Striles remained alive as commander, along with very few survivors from the human kingdom. Upon realizing that the Demon King was dead, the humans celebrated, believing the victory was theirs. At that exact moment, Kella received all of his father's mana. The spears of light embedded in Kella's body began to fall apart, dissolving into particles of mana. The same happened to Rin's body. As she felt the pressure vanish, confused, she asked what was happening. The mages were in shock as they realized that Kella's mana was increasing absurdly. He in turn wondered if that meant Hel Kaldun had truly died, and concluded that his plan had worked. With no mana left, the mages realized they needed to flee immediately. Before they could attempt anything, Kella told Rin to move aside. She felt something terrifying coming from him, a pure darkness consuming his body. That was the power his father had transferred. The mages shouted for the demon not to come closer. Kella repeated the word, asking who they were calling a demon, and remembered what they had said to Rin moments earlier. Then he advanced with a direct punch at the first mage, stating that the real demons were them. In a single brutal motion, he struck both at the same time, killing them right there. He realized that this was the true power of a demon king, but he also felt that his body could barely withstand such energy. He asked if Rin could walk, and she replied that she could, calling him young master. He then said it was time to leave. In his thoughts, he thanked Hel Kaldun, because thanks to him, he had managed to escape that cursed castle. When he reached the wide green plains, Kella believed he was finally free. He thought that now he could go anywhere and live however he wished. However, a spell suddenly wrapped around his body. Rin recognized the spell as teleportation. Kella told her to hold his hand so they could go together, and soon the two of them disappeared. They were teleported to a distant kingdom, falling from the sky like a comet. As they stood up, Kella wondered where they were. Rin, impressed, commented that she did not know he could use teleportation. He denied it, saying it was not him. It seemed like an emergency spell, something programmed, perhaps implanted by Hel Kaldun in each of his children, in case of his death. Rin then noticed that her injuries were completely healed. Kella concluded that they had probably spent 3 days trapped in the transition duration of the spell, and that it was clearly a combined teleportation and healing magic created to save them. He understood that his father truly cared. When Rin asked if the Demon King was dead, Kella confirmed it. He told himself that everything had happened as planned. Rin then declared that he should become the next Demon King. Kella asked why he would do that. She explained that she had realized he had changed recently, and that he was now the perfect successor. From that moment on, she would give her best as his servant until he took the throne. Kella thought she had misunderstood everything. Besides, at that moment, he felt powerless, as if all that energy had been drained away. Suddenly, Rin became frightened as she recognized the place. They were in the magical country of Arsel, known for training the greatest human talents to exterminate demons across the continent. A large banner announced that the Demon King had died, and the city was celebrating under the rule of Tyla. Kala could not understand why. Out of all possible places, they had been sent there. He knew that if they were recognized, the consequences would be disastrous. Fortunately, Rin mastered transformation magic so they could assume human appearances. Kella agreed that it was a good idea, and thought that at least that was one useful skill she possessed. He then asked her to explain everything she knew about that country. Rin explained that Arsel was a small island located east of Talawa, blessed by the giant cryptoid watergore, who lived in the nearby seas. The presence of the creature elevated the magical development of the region to an extraordinary level, causing the most powerful mages to be born there. For centuries, they had been natural enemies of demons, although they were still under the political control of Talawa. Kella reflected on why his father had sent him to such a dangerous place. Rin questioned why they were already in the capital, and said they needed to flee as quickly as possible. Kella replied that escape required preparation, and that acting on impulse would be suicide. In silence, he thought that to reach his true objective in that world, mastering magic would be essential. In Arsel, everything functioned through magic. Magic was present in the simplest constructions, in buildings, in the streets, and even in objects that floated through the air. It was a country where daily life entirely depended on magical energy. Kella realized that if he learned magic there, he could create dungeons exactly as he did in the game. That environment was perfect for growth. Suddenly, Rin's stomach growled loudly. She commented that it would be a good idea to have a snack. Later, they were already tasting the famous magical food of Arsel. Rin devoured everything with enthusiasm, saying it was incredibly delicious. She tried one dish after another, claiming each one was even better than the last. Kella found it curious how she, who had previously been discouraged about being there, now seemed overly excited. After eating, Rin suggested visiting a bar. At the location, the city was celebrating the fall of the Demon King. Among those present was Cyrils, commander of the Taken, being treated as a heroine. Everyone was drunk and celebrating. In the middle of the party were Kella and Rin, also drinking and pretending to celebrate in order to blend in. Kella thought that a break was not such a bad thing. However, Cyrils cast a careful glance in their direction and noticed the strange couple who had appeared that night. Later, Kella was vomiting in an alley while Rin mocked him, saying he had gotten too excited and could not handle alcohol. She commented that they had been drinking to celebrate the death of his own father. Kella shot back that she had been the one who started drinking first. Suddenly, several people ran down the street shouting that a new Rank S mission had appeared. Everyone was shocked. Since the beginning of time, the only Rank S mission had been to defeat the Demon King. How could another one exist now? Rin grabbed Kella and said they needed to see it. Soon a crowd gathered in front of the new mission notice. The shock was immediate when they saw the face printed on it. It was Kella himself, identified as the last son of the Demon King who needed to be eliminated. He almost asked out loud why they were after him, but Rin covered his mouth, saying he was just drunk. Around them, people commented that he was known as the weakest son of the Demon Kingdom, and that finding him and killing him should be easy, maybe not even worthy of rank S, but something like rank B. Kella realized that disguising himself in that country would be much harder from now on. He left quickly and called for Rin. She almost called him by his real name, but he interrupted her and said that in public she should call him Shio. She thought the name was strange, and asked what kind of name that was. He told her to just obey. Rin commented that she did not expect them to discover so quickly that he was still alive. Kella said they would take what they needed and leave Arsel as soon as possible. At that moment, Cyrils appeared in front of them and asked if it was true that there was a new rank S mission. Kella confirmed naturally. Rin commented that they had only stopped by to see what the commotion was about. Kella remembered that at the bar they had called Cyrils the Hope of Arsel, which meant she was extremely powerful. Sores asked if the son of the Demon Kingdom was really alive, and called the demons cursed creatures who did not even know how to die properly. Kella replied that he imagined that son must be weak. Rin agreed, saying he could not be much of a threat. Suddenly Sores wrapped her arms around the two of them and asked if it really would not be a problem to capture him, even if he was the son of the Demon King. She commented that she had noticed the two of them earlier at the bar, and that they had a strange smell. In a suspicious tone, she asked if perhaps they were something more than they seemed. Kella and Rin thought they had been discovered. However, Cyrils finished by saying they must simply be travelers who had not bathed in days, and asked why they did not wash themselves. The two were confused but quickly agreed, pretending that made sense. Kella realized that for now they were safe. Later, Kella was in the greatest comfort possible, inside a hot bath with a tray full of sweets resting on the edge. He looked at the food with curiosity and wondered if it was magical as well. Deep down, he had always wanted to live in a world like those in games, and now it seemed that dream had become reality. Even this whole idea of drying off after a bath did not seem so bad. He was completely relaxed. Meanwhile, Rin was extremely nervous. If she were discovered discovered, she would die. The problem was that she was sharing the bath with Sirolz, and that alone was far too risky. Sirolz calmly commented that the bath was great, and asked if Rin thought so too. Rin responded with a forced little laugh, trying to appear natural, but Sirolz noticed the tension and commented that she looked like a demon about to be captured. That nearly made Rin's heart stop. Trying to help, Sripikan said she could use something to relax her and cast a sacred element spell into the environment. For any normal person it would be pleasant, but for a demon it was practically poison. Rin felt panic rise instantly. Sacred magic was the worst possible thing for someone like her. If the transformation spell were undone there, everything would be over. She thought Kella needed to help her, but he was in another corner, far too calm, enjoying the hot bath and drinking tea as if nothing were happening. Srilz commented that after the death of the Demon King, she finally felt fulfilled, as if everything she had done in life had been worth it. While she spoke, Rin only wanted that conversation to end so she could leave. Srilz began explaining that she had been designated to become a mage since birth, but Rin interrupted her, saying she could hear the story later because she needed to use the bathroom. Srilz remarked that perhaps she did not like the sacred aroma very much. Later, already far from there, Rin complained that the situation could not have been worse. Kella, on the other hand, said it had been extremely relaxing and that he felt much better. Rin explained that this was not the time to enjoy any bath. The disguise spell had almost been undone because of the sacred magic. Kella finally understood the risk and commented that it really could have gone very wrong. Even so, he still considered taking another bath before leaving, which made Rin even more irritated. For her, the right thing to do was to flee immediately. As they were preparing to leave, Srilz appeared and asked if they were already going. Rin tried to keep her composure and said they could have a second meeting, another time, but at that moment they needed to depart. Srilz insisted, asking if they were not curious to try the magical drinks and foods of the kingdom. Kella brightened instantly and said it would be a great idea. Srilz, excited, even carried him in her arms, while Rin grew increasingly irritated by his lack of awareness. At the same time, a squad of mages gathered in secret. They had detected the presence of demons in that house. Not just ordinary demons, but one of them was the son of the Demon King. That was a rare opportunity, something that might happen only once in a lifetime. They decided they needed to capture him at any cost. Back at the table, Sirelz offered a drink made with sacred water. Kella tasted it without thinking twice, and said it was great. However, he soon felt his body burn from the inside. He was excited to try everything, and had not expected that effect. The conversation returned to Sirelz's story. She explained that everything she had done in life was for the purpose of killing the Demon King. She joined the Talcum squad, and trained for years. She showed a scar she had gained during one of the tests to enter the group. Run said she had not even noticed it before. Then Sirelz moved her hair away from her face, and revealed an even larger scar over her right eye, explaining that she did not even have that eye anymore. She used magic to hide the marks, because every time she saw them, she remembered the pain she endured to prove herself worthy of killing the Demon King. To enter the squad, they had to be the best and endure any suffering. She explained that she had sacrificed her entire life for that goal. Everything was to eliminate the Demon King. Then she began questioning what they had done during all that time. She observed Kella's body and lifted his clothes to look for scars. She found none. She commented that his skin was far too smooth, without a single mark. That left Rin extremely worried. Prolonged physical contact could undo the disguise spell. Then Sirenzals asked the question that made the air grow heavy, asking if he was a demon. Deep down, it seemed she had suspected it for a long time. Suddenly, several rats appeared in the hall. In a matter of seconds, those rats transformed into mages. Not even Strelz had expected that. The situation changed completely, and both Kella and Rin were unsure whether they had fallen into a trap. The mages stated that the guild's information had been correct. They said Cyril's had been disguising herself the entire time, and that in truth she was a demon infiltrated in Arsel. The revelation caught Kella and Rin by surprise. Kella even thought that perhaps the mages were not there because of him, but because of her. Without denying it, Sriles confirmed everything. She said there was no reason to keep hiding the truth. In reality, she herself had spread the rumor about her identity. The mages understood that as a confession and moved in to attack. Sriels declared that she was an elite mage of the Talkans, and that half a dozen mages from Arsel would not be enough to defeat her. The tension exploded in the room, and Rin warned Kella that they needed to leave immediately. Before they could act, a massive explosion shook the place. Rin could barely believe the amount of magical power Sriels displayed. That was when Striles revealed that she had always known Kella and Rin were demons. There was no way to hide that from her. Then she told them her true identity. She was the daughter of the Demon King Hel Kaldun. Her real name was Striles Kaldun. The revelation left both of them in shock. Without having time to explain everything in words, Sriels used memory transfer magic to show them the truth directly. She was born as part of an experiment. Finally, an experiment that worked. A demon capable of hiding her horns and demonic power. Since birth, she had been treated like a laboratory rat. She went through painful experiments every single day. All the others failed and died. Only she survived. In her memories, Hel Kaldun appeared, saying that his blood ran through her veins. He acknowledged her as his daughter and gave her a name. He named her Sriels Kaldun. He ordered her to infiltrate the human kingdom and send information directly to him. From that moment on, she stopped being just an experiment and gained a purpose. Convinced that she could do anything, as the daughter of the Demon King, she infiltrated the human kingdom. She staged a situation to make it seem as if she had been captured by demons. The humans felt pity for her and took her in. That was how her double life as as a spy began. Over time, she learned the magic of Arsel and became increasingly powerful. She endured extreme training until she reached the highest position in the Tauken squad, the elite force of Arsel. For 15 years, she maintained her disguise, waiting for the right moment. When she finally reunited with her father on the battlefield, she wanted to embrace him and run away together, but she needed to fulfill her mission. Her plan was to secretly use magic to weaken the humans and help her father Kilman. After the victory, they would return together to the castle, and she could live as her true self. But nothing went as planned. Kilman admitted that the Demon King was the most powerful opponent he had ever faced. Hel Khaldun replied that he did not need the approval of a human. Kilman then launched his final attack, the Spear of the Heavens. The Demon King responded with the flames of hell. The explosion was devastating. In the middle of the chaos, Sriels heard her father's voice calling her by her full name, Sriels Khaldun. He declared that she must serve and protect the next Demon King, taking responsibility in his place. Shortly after, the battle ended with the death of Hel Khaldun. Shaken, Sriels had to return to Talua and celebrate with the humans the death of her own father. After that, she officially decided to retire and return to Arsel, her second home. She adapted once again to the human kingdom, but now with a different goal, to avenge her father. She revealed that she planned to destroy Arsel first. Upon hearing all of that, Rin was shocked and asked if she truly was the daughter of the Demon King. Deep down, he thought it was terrible news, because he believed she had already gotten rid of all her siblings. Even though they were not of the same blood, Kella did not expect to discover that he had another sister. Sirils made it clear that she would not force them to fight alongside her as demonic comrades, but she warned them of one important thing. Arsel was the greatest threat to demons. It was literally the country of magic. The longer a demon remained there, the smaller the hope of the demon race surviving. If he stayed in that place for too long, he would eventually die. Hearing that, Kella realized she was right. Even in the game, mages were the foundation of any strong army, and at that moment, the one most exposed and in danger was him. The enemy mages had certainly heard the explosion and would not let it pass. They declared that they would use all their remaining mana to finish them. Even believing Kella to be human, they attacked without hesitation. Faced with that, Kella began transforming back into his demonic form. Rin was shocked when she saw it. He stated that it was self-defense. When Sriels felt the energy coming from him, she was even more surprised. It was the same aura as the Demon King, the energy of Hel Khaldun. That night, a battle began that seemed to have no end. Through Rin's eyes, it was a massacre. And in fact, it was. For Solukix, Arsel was like a second home, and she knew every street like the palm of her hand. That familiarity was used against the humans. The main buildings were destroyed, including the government structures and the Academy of Magic. Kella also used the mana inherited from the Demon King to subjugate those who were weakened by the festival and the alcohol. With the teamwork of the two of them, Arsel, the land of magic, was completely annihilated. Nothing remained. The sky seemed to be on fire by the end of it all. One of the surviving mages declared that Arsel would never fall like that, and that he would never forgive the demons. Moments later, he was burned by Sirils. She stated that the one who could not forgive was her. Starting with Arsel, then Takan, and finally the entire Talawa Empire. She would destroy them all. Rin thought that was impossible. Kella, on the other hand, said they had helped each other enough, and that it was time to go their separate ways. But Sirils asked him to wait. She asked if he truly believed she would not recognize that mana. She revealed that he was Kella Khaldun, the second son of the Demon King. Kella realized there was no point in denying it. He confirmed it. Sirils admitted that until that moment she had only suspected, and that he had just confirmed her suspicions. She also explained that technically she was not the biological daughter of the Demon King. She was the result of an experiment using his blood aura. That was why she could recognize anyone who carried that blood. Since she had been created after Kella was born, he was, in practice, her older brother. She assumed that he was also seeking revenge for their father, and concluded that they should walk together, not apart. Deep down, Kella did not want revenge at all. He wanted to leave, but Srils pressed him, saying that he was the last heir of Hel Khaldun's lineage, the last child left by the Demon King. Rinch realized that refusing could mean death. With few options, Kella said he wanted revenge as well. It was the only way to buy time. Sirils became excited and declared that they would burn everything in their path. Meanwhile, Kella thought that he needed to learn the magic of Arsel, and at that moment the only one capable of teaching him was her. Staying by her side, using revenge as an excuse, seemed like the most strategic choice. As they departed, a mage who was still alive managed to survive beneath the rubble. He decided that he needed to report everything to Talawa. Later, in Talawa, an emergency message arrived directly to the king, who was attending a banquet. When he asked about its contents, the messenger informed him that Srils of the Taken squad was a demon, and that Arsel had attempted to eliminate her. The messenger continued the report, saying that Kella Khaldun, the last son of the Demon King, had appeared in Arsel and destroyed the city alongside Srils. Upon hearing that, the king was shocked. He asked if the son of the Demon King was truly in Arsel. The messenger confirmed, and added that he likely had some connection to Srils. The king declared that it was unacceptable. It was not enough that Srils had betrayed the kingdom. Now the heir of Hel Khaldun had also appeared before them. To him, it was a direct affront. He ordered that the two be killed immediately. He commanded that posters be spread throughout the entire kingdom, declaring Srils and Kella Khaldun as priority targets. He promised that whoever killed Srils would inherit her position in the squad. The messenger, Raiden, swore on his own name that the two would die. After that, Raiden approached the head of the Demon King, displayed as a trophy. almost like a museum piece. Observing that symbol of victory, he thought that the cursed race had not yet been completely exterminated. He swore that he would burn every last child of Hell Khaldun. Later, the king's advisor called another messenger and asked about the situation. He was informed that General Killian had likely already received the news and should return as quickly as possible. Raiden reflected on this. Killian was considered the best knight in the kingdom, someone many said surpassed even Kilman himself. To eliminate Killa and Srils, they would need him. Elsewhere, Killian received the news that his brother Kilman was dead and had sacrificed himself to defeat the Demon King. He asked if the Demon King was truly dead. Upon receiving confirmation, he questioned why they still needed him. The messenger explained that his mission would be to hunt Kella Khaldun, the son of the Demon King. Upon hearing that, Killian made it clear that he did not care about the political interests of Taloa. If the demons had killed his brother, he would kill the demons, and he would begin with Kella Khaldun. At that moment, Kella was still very shocked by what he was seeing, and simply could not believe he would have to eat that disgusting thing. He looked at the food with complete suspicion, while Srils said that he did not need to eat if he was already full, because that was not even enough for her. Curious, Rin asked what her secret was for not gaining weight while eating like that. Srins explained naturally that if it goes in fast and comes out fast, there is no time to gain weight. That sounded simply brilliant in his mind. At the same time, he realized that it was a strangely good feeling to have a sister who did not want to kill him. Unlike Seldera or Tarme, he had been worried that she might also be jealous to that extent. So he decided to ask directly whether Stars had anything against him, since he was the biological son of the Demon King. Stars replied that of course she wanted to kill him, but since they were also children of the same father, the man she had always loved and respected, she could not hate him just for that. Even so, because he carried the blood of the accused, she felt that she had the duty to protect him. Deep down, she herself wondered why. Unlike the other siblings, she wanted to protect him. She declared that from that moment on, she would risk her own life to keep him alive, the last son of the Demon King. He ended up blushing slightly and thanked her, not really understanding why he had reacted that way. Trying to get closer, Rin even offered a piece of her own flesh for him to try, but that did not work very well. Even so, Rin reaffirmed that she would protect him with her own life until the end. Soon after, she analyzed the situation more calmly and concluded that if the kingdom already knew what was happening in Arsel, many demon hunters would soon appear. Cyril suggested that since it was dangerous there, they needed to look for another place to sleep. He disagreed, saying that it was a great place to spend the night and that it only required a bit of effort. He decided to turn the place into an impenetrable fortress. First, they completely altered the terrain, creating a secret forest around it. While resting, he reflected that he had learned something in that fight. After using a large amount of mana, he needed to rest, just like his father used to do. Srils, who had used even more mana than he had, slept for a long time. That way both of them recovered safely, protected by the secret fortress. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Talua, Killian had finally arrived with the second squad of the Takan, known as the White Takan. His Majesty was informed of their arrival, and the king commented that just looking at those young men gave him chills. He welcomed the White Takan back. One of the members told Captain Killian that he seemed much stronger than before, and that General Kilman would be proud to see him. Another told Deed to stop talking nonsense, and Deed replied that Audria was still the same as ever. Then they asked the captain whether they should respond to the king's summons, since they doubted he would be any less angry if only Kella Khaldun were killed. Later, inside the castle, they stood before the exposed head of the Demon King. Killian stated that he was responsible for the death of his brother, Hell Khaldun. Deed commented that the head was disgusting. Killian then asked Curdly whether the tracking spell worked with only the head, and she explained that it did, since the remaining blood would allow them to trace his lineage. She performed the spell, and Killian declared that Hell Khaldun should keep his eyes open so he could see everything they would do from that moment on. Meanwhile, Sirius woke up refreshed and declared that now that she had rested, she would hunt those wretches. She warned that the second squad of the Takan would soon appear. Rin found that strange, and asked what she meant by second squad. Srils explained that the kingdom had never fully trusted that the first squad would be able to kill the Demon King. They were practically used as test subjects. The true project of the kingdom had always been the second squad, the White Takan. He said he had never heard of them. Srens clarified that it was the squad of Killian's younger brother, an elite group composed only of combat geniuses. When they asked whether the Killian who killed the Demon King was weaker than them, Srens confirmed that he was, much weaker. The White Takan were extremely powerful, to the point that she could not even estimate their strength. Rein then questioned how they could invade Talawa. In light of that, Shrulls explained that the White Takan were currently separated, training individually, and it would take time before they gathered again. That was why they needed to act against Talawa as quickly as possible. Even so, he reflected that Talawa was much larger than Arsel, and luck would not help on an open battlefield. Then he revealed his plan. Everyone was hunting him, the son of the Demon King, which meant the White Takan were probably already alert. It made no sense for the three of them to attack Talawa alone, without any support. They needed an army and a base of their own. The idea immediately caught their attention. With an army of demons, they would not lose to the White Takan, and their base would not fall even if the soldiers of Talawa tried to invade. The decision was clear. They would build the most powerful dungeon ever created. That left Srills excited, and Rin somewhat frightened. Kella said they could not gamble on uncertain fights, or they would end up like their own father. The plan had to be solid. First, they would create the most powerful dungeon possible, and only then would they start a war against against Talua. The idea excited Rin, and Srill stated that she expected nothing less from the son of the Demon King. He thought it was good that they liked it, because he had just come up with that plan on the spot. Sorzels then defined the first step, to create an army. She knew someone she could contact, and both of them were visibly excited by the prospect of war. He realized the idea had truly pleased them. For him, it was something even greater. He would finally be able to create his own world, a map he had never managed to bring into reality. Now he would have the chance to shape the perfect world with his own hands, and he was completely determined. He asked Srills if she knew any reliable demons, because before anything else, they needed to learn everything about the geography and terrain of the region. Srills considered the strategy intelligent, and confirmed that she knew someone. During the journey, he began to study the magic of Arsel more deeply. Rin, on the other hand, showed signs of jealousy over how close he was becoming to his own sister, something that made it clear she had her own internal conflicts. He knew that learning that type of magic would not be simple, but thanks to the blood of the Demon King, he absorbed the knowledge quickly. He felt that he was truly using magic with his own hands, and that each step brought him closer to his goal. 4 days later, Storiels warned that they were almost there. Rin found it strange that a demon would live in such an isolated place, but Srilinis explained that it had not always been that way. Everything had changed after Talkin set up an ambush against them. Suddenly, Srilinis ordered no one to move. A demon advanced, thinking they were from the Talkin squad, and pierced her shoulder. Yet she remained still. She stated that she had expected that and that the demons had anticipated her arrival. Rin did not understand why she was acting that way, why she did not simply explain the truth, but he told her to stay quiet, because he trusted Cyril's plan. The army of demons continued attacking Sridlals, but she did not react. She only apologized, accepting all their anger, until they felt satisfied. The demons recognized that gesture as a symbolic stance, known only among them. Sridlals declared that as a fellow demon, she apologized for what she had done. They questioned whether she truly was a demon. Since the last time they had seen her, she had been at Talkin's side. He then intervened, stating that he was the last heir of the Demon Kingdom lineage, and that he gave his word that she was telling the truth. The demons felt the power of the Demon King emanating from him, and believed. Soon they knelt before the young master Kella. They introduced themselves as the Earth Demons, and declared loyalty to his majesty. Sriels commented that she had said she knew reliable demons. After passing through the illusion, Kella found himself facing a great underground civilization. He realized that creating an army might not be as difficult as he had imagined. He was warmly welcomed with respect by the people of the Earth Demons, who prepared meals and even an entrance ceremony. He analyzed the architecture, and noticed that it was completely different from the Demon Castle, and from Arsel. That city had been built without the use of magic, using materials of the highest quality. It was simply excellent. He had never imagined that such a large city full of demons existed, especially underground. He admitted that Sevrals had been right. They truly needed the talent of the Earth Demons. Sevrals, however, said that he had not seen anything yet. There was a perfect warrior for them to recruit, and that sparked Kella interest. She explained that Talkin had discovered that city while sailing toward the Demon King Castle. They invaded, destroyed, and killed many Earth Demons under the orders of General Kilman. They also burned the forest, placing that race at risk of extinction. However, a warrior stepped forward in front of his own people. He protected everyone, and made a direct deal with Kilman, something that surprised even the general. When they asked the name of that warrior, he introduced himself as Douglas, son of the Earth Demons. In the past, Kilman became interested in the boy, but commented that if Douglas had been born human, many problems could have been avoided. Even so, he ordered everyone to cease combat, and declared that they would leave that place to continue their journey to the Demon Castle. Douglas was completely shocked, not understanding what had just happened. In the present, Srulls explained that Douglas' bravery had saved his people that day. He did not run, and tried to protect even the last child of the Earth Demons. Rin was impressed, and commented that someone like him truly seemed reliable. For her, a demon warrior with that attitude would be extremely important for their plans. Because of that, Kella decided that he wanted to meet Douglas personally. Some suggested that it might be better to look for someone else, but he refused. He wanted to be taken to Douglas and asked where he was. Later, inside a forge, Kella confronted Douglas, and asked if he dared to disobey him. Douglas replied that he might be the son of the Demon King, but that did not obligate him to obey. When Kella asked if he intended to use force against him, Douglas stated that he would die fighting. When questioned about why he insisted on staying there, Douglas explained that he had been born and raised in that place, and that he had the duty to protect his homeland. For that reason, he could not leave. Kella acknowledged that he was as stubborn as people said. Douglas simply apologized for refusing. Kella reflected that in his past life, he had also tried to recruit Douglas, and failed. He thought he probably would not be able to bring him to his side this time either. Even so, when analyzing the city, he realized that the architecture was extremely efficient. He truly wanted someone with that knowledge serving at his side. Meanwhile, Sriels and Rin were completely drunk, praising the Earth Demon's liquor. Kella thought it was absurd that he was working hard while they were getting drunk. However, later he also ended up drinking, and admitted that the beverage was even better than beer. The demons prepared rooms for them to rest. Already in bed, Kella was so sleepy that he did not notice when some Earth Demons quietly approached to kill him. One of them struck with an axe directly at his neck. In the next instant, the attacker was shocked because Kella managed to dodge. He then stated that now he was certain. The demons asked how he had done that, if he seemed to be sleeping, and they called him a coward as they advanced again to kill him. Kella thought that at first he had only been suspicious, suspicious. He noticed that Douglas, in the forge, was crafting objects that did not look like weapons. The shackles he was making were not for orcs, so they could only be for him or for his allies. He also realized that he was constantly being watched and followed. When he examined the surroundings more carefully, he felt a magical barrier surrounding the city, so subtle that he only managed to notice it because of the Demon King mana. There was another strange detail as well. Sriels had mentioned that Douglas protected not only the earth demons, but also dark elves. However, he had not seen a single dark elf there. That was when everything made sense. Kella quickly defeated the demons in front of him and confronted Douglas, saying that he had promised Killman that he would not allow the dark elves to be killed, but that did not mean he would hand them over. In truth, he was not protecting the elves, he was only making sure that no one took them away from him. Douglas asked how he had realized. Kella replied that if that was the case, then he should undo that barrier. Shortly after, he took Douglas hostage, confirming that everyone truly cared about him, otherwise that would not have worked. An elder asked if Douglas had failed the mission, and he apologized. Kella ordered no one to move, because one step forward would mean Douglas' death. The elder called him a coward. Later, near the barrier, Kella demanded that it be opened. He inserted a crystal into the core of the structure, revealing that all the dark elves were imprisoned there, as if in captivity. Upon seeing the scene, Kella realized that the situation was even worse than he had imagined. Sriels came running, saying that he had been right, and then they all faced that shocking sight. Faced with that scene, Kella ordered Simurls to immediately remove the dark elves from there, and show their memories through memory transfer. Simurls explained that it was possible, but it would not be as clear as transmitting her own memories. Even so, he asked her to do it. She made contact with one of the dark elves and transferred the memories directly into Kella's mind. What he saw was a true hell. That elf mother had been forced to bear children there, and every child born in that place had the same fate. Among the younger ones, those who attracted the attention of nobles were selected and taken away, sold for large sums to the earth demons. Some adults captured from the outside used to talk about what the world beyond was like. They spoke about the blue sky, the ocean, and the freedom to travel across distant lands. For those prisoners, they were only stories of something they would never see. If all the dark elves there had one last wish before dying, it would be that their children could at least leave that captivity. Consumed by fury, Kella declared that he would kill all the earth demons. He turned toward Douglas and delivered a punch so violent that it sent him flying. Sriels demanded to know how he dared to do that to children. Douglas, however, replied coldly that dark elves were rare and highly coveted by humans, a race naturally admired, perfect for captivity. When questioned about how he could do that to other demons, Douglas stated that with the Demon King dead, their survival depended on whatever means were necessary. Kella prepared his mana, and remembered that in his past life, he had also suffered oppression. Even so, those children had endured something far worse. He would not allow that to continue before his eyes. He declared to Sirils and Rin that they would end it there, finishing what Killaman had not. Sirils agreed, stating that she would kill the demons who had betrayed their own race. Rin also supported it, saying there was no forgiveness for that. Kella declared that he would cleanse the place of the earth demons. Douglas, realizing that they were only 3 against many, called for reinforcements. The earth demons advanced. Rin warned that the situation was critical, while Sirils questioned how they dared to rebel against the son of the king. Even so, they resisted the attacks well. Rin stated that Kella would become the next king. Kella easily blocked Douglas' strike and realized that this was no longer a game, it was his new life, and he would change things with his own power. He delivered a direct kick to Douglas' face, determined to act differently than before. Meanwhile, the dark elves only watched. Some asked if those 3 were there to help them, and suggested that they should fight as well. Others were afraid, saying it was dangerous, but someone reminded them that if they lost, they would return to torture. The trauma was visible in their eyes. Kella pointed that out to Douglas, stating that the cries and pain they had caused would not go unpunished. As a last resort, Douglas swallowed a pill made from earth ore, and the other demons did the same. If they lost, they would lose everything. Rin commented that she thought that was only a legend. The earth ore was a crystal capable of multiplying physical power dozens of times. In moments, Douglas and the others grew in size, transforming into brutal orcs. Kella realized that ordinary demonic energy would not be enough against them. He also knew that he could not use all of his abilities, since he still did not fully control the Demon King mana. Douglas advanced with the intention of killing him. The situation became extremely dangerous, but roots rose from the ground and completely restrained Douglas. An elf named Wood declared that he would never be tortured by them again. The dark elves were surprised to see that Wood had acted. Douglas shouted, asking how he dared to stand in his way, and threatened to torture him to death. However, he felt Kella power approaching. Kella stated that it would never happen again. In an instant, he pierced Douglas' stomach with a decisive strike. He asked if the elf name was Wood, and said that he liked him, stating that he would be welcome at his side. Even wounded, Douglas declared that Wood was only alive until that moment because of him and demanded to know how they dared to betray him. Then he stated that it was enough, and that he would kill everyone there. With brutal effort, he broke the roots that held him in place. Kella realized that Douglas's body was even larger than before. The blow he received was so brutal that it threw him to the other side of the cave. He understood that earth magic was far more powerful than he had imagined. When Douglas charged at Wood, he grabbed him by the neck and declared that he would tear his head off right there. Wood could barely breathe. Kella realized that Douglas had completely lost his mind. He was more focused on killing Wood than on fighting properly. If it continued like that, Wood would die. He needed to attack from a distance, presence. He thought about using that power, but suddenly his consciousness was pulled into another plane. In front of him stood his father's energy. That presence called him an idiot and said he had lost so much power that he had to resort to his own consciousness. The energy stated that he needed to act quickly. Kella agreed. He had to save Wood and asked if there was any way to do it. The presence explained that he was not yet ready to use all the power the Demon King had left for him. Body and mind needed to be synchronized, and only then would he learn to control that power. Impatient, Kella demanded to know how to use it. Now, the energy replied that there was something he could use. Before disappearing, it called him by his true name, Kangchi, and said they would meet again. Kella was surprised by that, but he returned to reality, holding the demon firebow of the defendant in his hands. He understood that with it, he could protect Wood. He told him to lower his head. Douglas did not expect that. At that very moment, Wood used his own magic to resist. Kella declared that this would be the end of Douglas's malicious actions, and fired the demon fire arrow directly into his face. Upon contact with his body, the blue flames burned him and reduced him to carbon while he was still alive. Kella realized it had been a direct hit. There was no way to survive. Douglas turned into ashes before the flames. Even so, the other earth demons were still standing. Srills commented that she could not use her full power because she might hit the elves as well. Kella told them not to worry. He would handle it quickly. He fired several flaming arrows that pierced through the enemies and killed them instantly. Srills was impressed seeing him use demon fire with such precision and wondered if his mana had grown even stronger. Kella realized that he now possessed long-range attacks, which was extremely advantageous. Soon after, all the earth demons were defeated. Srills commented that earth minerals were more powerful than she had imagined. Reen added that they also consumed the lifespan of those who used them. Kella decided they would need to investigate that later. Then he turned to the Dark Elves and declared that from that day on, they were free. They would not be captured again. They could leave that place, take the children, and live however they wished. The elves asked if it was true. Kella confirmed that it was. They were free to leave that infernal place. Everyone knelt before Prince Kella, thanking him for their liberation. Shrills commented that at least they had not come there in vain, even though she had been deceived by the earth demons. Rin said it was regrettable, but there was nothing more to be done about it. Then Kella approached Wood and asked if he had not been born there, if he had been captured. Wood confirmed. When Kella asked if he still had any family alive, he answered that he did not. Kella then invited him to go with them. He said they needed someone who knew the terrain. Wood explained that he was not an earth demon and did not have as much talent for navigation as they imagined. He believed he would not be very useful. Kella replied that it did not matter. Elves received the love of nature, and Wood had already proven himself powerful and courageous in the face of danger. That was far too valuable to ignore. He then asked if Wood wanted to accompany them. Wood was amazed by Mr. Kella. He did not even remember the faces of his own parents. He only knew that he had been abandoned somewhere in the world and later captured to suffer for the rest of his life in that hell. For a long time he believed he would die there, in that cursed place. Crying, he asked Kella if he could truly leave and follow him. Kella replied that he would not be following anyone. He would be at his side. Then he helped Wood stand up and said they needed to leave immediately. Later, already outside the village of the earth demons, the Dark Elves, finally free, said their farewells to Kella. He was worried because many of them had never seen the outside world. Even so, he knew they were loved by nature and would adapt quickly. Any place would be better than where they had been before. Wood also said goodbye to his people and began accompanying the group. Shortly after, Rin started scolding him, saying that now he had to obey. Wood accepted without arguing. Srills explained that the first thing they needed to do was find the bank of a river. Wood, using his senses, said he could smell water in a certain direction. Rin admitted that he had gotten it right this time, and Wood thanked her. Curious, Kella asked Srills why exactly they were looking for a river. She explained that they could not continue the journey just by walking. They needed to find some form of transportation, and near a river there were always more possibilities. Rilek, excited, said she wanted to catch a dragon. Srills replied that this was not realistic at all, and joked that she wanted a unicorn too. Even so, they decided to follow the direction pointed out by Wood. In that direction, there really was a river. 2 unicorns were drinking water at the bank, and above them, a dragon was gliding over the river. The problem was that Srills was convinced there were neither dragons nor unicorns in that region. Meanwhile, in the village of the earth demons, only one survivor remained, begging for help. Curdley observed the scene and stated that he was the last demon there. Earlier, she had argued with the White Talkin people. Deed questioned whether the tracking spell was not working. Curdley explained that something was wrong because she was detecting many individuals scattered in several directions. Karka said it was impossible that the Demon King had left so many children and asked if there was no way to identify which one was Kella. Curdley answered that unfortunately there was not. Audria asked what they would do then, since they could not waste time. Killian concluded that the only option left was to hunt down all the demons scattered across the continent and asked where they would begin. Curdley explained that she could teleport alone for a certain distance to make scouting easier. Deed thought it was excellent because while she tracked them, they could eliminate the targets. Without hesitation, Curdley used her teleport spell and disappeared. Killian then declared that it was time to kill demons. In the present, Curdley stated that she was sensing the energy of Khaldun's children in that region and asked the surviving demon if Kella had passed through there. The demon confirmed that he was the one who had killed all the others. When asked about Kella's current whereabouts, he said he did not know, but begged to be saved. Curdley killed him without mercy, stating that he was useless if he did not know the information she wanted. She then decided to follow the energy trail to hunt Kella. Khaldun, days later, the group finally reached the river. Kella commented that it had taken days to get there, but that Wood had managed to track the location from very far away, as expected from an elf. Wood thanked him, but Rin told him not to get carried away, reminding him that he was still a novice. He simply apologized. Hungry, Kella commented that they had not eaten properly in days. Rin said she could fish something, since she was good at it. However, before she could do anything, the fish began jumping out of the river on their own. It was Wood, controlling the flow of the water with the power of nature, and catching the fish with his own hands. Sriels was impressed. Seeing that, Rin felt she was falling behind, and said that at least she could light the fire. Sriels replied that it was not necessary. Rin felt useless. Later, everyone was eating and praised Wood's work. Kella asked if Rin was not going to eat, but she remained discouraged. Sriels said she would eat her fish then. Noticing the mood, Kella stated that fish was not enough, and suggested that someone go get fruit. Rin stood up saying she would look for some. Wood also offered, saying he would find fruit quickly. Kella decided that Rin would do it, and asked if she could take on that task. She replied that of course she could. Ryan said she would bring the most delicious fruit for her master. Sriels commented that she was a simple woman to understand, and implied that Kella had only asked that to cheer her up, since he seemed to be considering her feelings quite a lot. Kella replied that he had done nothing to cheer anyone up. He just wanted fruit. Soon after, Kella asked Wood if there were unicorns nearby. Wood said yes, that he had sensed the presence of one, but that it was very young. Kella then commented that perhaps there really was a dragon around, as Rin had said earlier. Sriels insisted that there were no dragons in that region. Meanwhile, Rin ran excitedly through the forest looking for fruit. After some time, she found a tree full of them, and used something strange as support to reach the higher branches. Then it began to move. When she realized what was happening, she was standing on top of a dragon's head. The shock was so great that she almost fainted from fear. At the camp, Kella asked Wood if he could naturally sense the energy of the earth. Wood explained that he could, although he did not know how to put it into words. He was able to perceive the energy of nature within a certain distance. Kella thought it sounded like a kind of game map. Sriels commented that it was an excellent ability for finding dungeons, but Wood said the range was still limited, so it was not something extraordinary. Kella asked whether that power could be strengthened through training. Wood said he had heard of a method to increase the tracking distance. He would need to consume the clear and far-seeing stone of a dragon that had lived for more than 1,000 years. That way he could multiply the range of his perception by more than 100 times. Kella found the number impressive. Sriels, however, reminded him that finding a dragon was already difficult, and killing one was not a simple task. Curious, Kella asked if dragons were truly that powerful. Triumlas explained that if there was a food chain in the world, they stood at the top. They were the apex predators of nature. They also hated demons. According to her, only humans were capable of domesticating dragons, and even then, only those with extremely powerful minds. Kella found it ironic that humans considered physically weaker were the only ones able to tame them. Triumlas replied that she would never fully understand the nature of those creatures. Kella then asked what exactly the clear and far-seeing stone was. He showed interest in obtaining one. Sriels told him to get that idea out of his head, because it would only bring trouble. Kella admitted that might be true, but made it clear that he wanted the stone to help Wood. At that moment, Rin came running back to the camp, chased by the dragon itself. She shouted for her master to help her. Sriels asked if it was really a dragon. Wood confirmed that it was, and even commented that it was large. Faced with that, everyone started running. Kella remembered that Sriels had said it was difficult to find a dragon, and she replied that she had no idea why one was there. While the group ran, Curdly was approaching the region. She heard the dragon's roar and noticed the movement. The dragon, in turn, ended up heading in another direction, searching for demons who were hiding behind a rock. When the noise moved away, Sriels said that it had finally gone and asked Rin why she had brought a dragon to the camp, when she had only gone to get fruit. Rin apologized, explaining that she did not know there was a dragon near the tree. Wood commented that the dragon was quite large, and that, judging by its size, it had probably lived for more than 1,000 years. Kella began connecting the dots. Before he could finish the thought, Curdly, who was already there, stated that a dragon of that age certainly possessed a clear seeing stone. Kella confirmed that was exactly what he had been thinking, and saw a great opportunity in that. Only then did they notice Curdly's presence. Kella asked who she was. Shriekyo immediately recognized her as Curdly of the White Talken. Rin questioned what a member of the Talken was doing in that region. Everyone prepared to fight. Shriekyo was warned that she was the infamous cold-blooded mage, known for killing without mercy. Kella thought that after leaving the Demon King's castle, he might be able to live a peaceful life, yet he only encountered danger after danger, and now he stood before the cold-blooded mage. Curdly, remaining calm, asked everyone to calm down. She said there was no reason to fight at that moment. She addressed Sriels, calling her a traitor of the Talken, and stated that the battle would have no meaning, since she could kill everyone there with a single spell. Hearing that, Kella questioned whether that was truly the case. Sriels said she did not doubt it for a second. She was certain that Curdly was more powerful than all of them combined. Rin asked what they would do then, because the situation was clearly not good. Curdly stated that there was no reason to fight at that moment. She said that if they followed her without causing trouble, they would not die for now. Kella asked why they should follow her. Curdly explained that she would take them to her captain, Killian, captain of the White Talken. Sriels realized that they were already on the move and commented about the cursed White Killian. Curdly declared that her captain was looking for Kella Kalden and asked in an almost polite manner that they accompany accompany her. Kella replied that if they followed her, they would die anyway. Curdly responded that at least that way they would survive a little longer. Inside his own mind, Kella refused to accept a pathetic death. If he followed that woman, his death would be guaranteed, so he decided to fight. He fired an arrow, but the projectile was easily blocked by Curdly's shield. Trills ordered everyone to attack at the same time. Even with the combined assault, Curdly's barriers endured without difficulty. Rin rushed forward, saying she would not allow them to take Kella, but when she collided with the shield, she caused almost no damage. Arsel shouted for her to move away, because it was dangerous to get so close. Curdly counterattacked by launching a massive ice crystal that struck Rin directly and threw her far away. Without showing emotion, Curdly stated that it would not be a problem if she took only Kella's body. Then she cast Ice Storm. Sirels raised her own shield and ordered everyone to stay under protection. Rin managed to run back in time. Kella asked if she was alright, and Rin, shaken, said she could not be useful to her master. Kella replied that this was not the moment for that kind of thinking. Sirels warned that her shield would not last long. Kella asked if there was anything capable of defeating Curdly's spell, but Sirels explained that the difference in power between them was far too great. Outside, Curdly continued attacking without stopping. The shield began to crack. Everyone understood that they would die when it shattered. Kella forced his mind in search of a solution. He thought about that presence that existed within his consciousness. If he could find it again, perhaps he could change his fate. He began to concentrate. Sirels asked what he was doing, because releasing power inside the shield could break it faster. Kella insisted mentally that that thing needed to come out of his mind. The battle ended up drawing the dragon's attention, and it began returning to the location. At the same time, Curdly finally sensed the Demon King's energy emanating from Kella. She realized that this energy only appeared when he concentrated it, and then understood why she had difficulty tracking him. Even so, she declared that this would be the end of Kella Kaldun. Strills' shield finally shattered. Kella was about to be struck when the dragon appeared in front of the attack, protecting all the demons. Curdly was surprised to see a dragon defending demons. The dragon approached Kella and showed almost affectionate behavior, as if seeking his touch. A connection formed between them. Kella began to see the dragon's memories. He discovered that it had been close to his mother. They had walked together and were friends. The dragon sent a message to Kella, ordering him to run. Kella wondered if that was telepathy. Then the dragon spat a crystal into his hand. It was the clear seeing stone. Kella did not understand why he was receiving it. The dragon said there was no time to explain, and ordered him to hide his power and flee. Without hesitation, the dragon turned against Curdly and launched a blast of fire directly at her. Curdly commented that it was strange for a dragon to help a demon. Curdly realized there was no time to reflect on that. The group began to run. Curdly acknowledged that the dragon was powerful, but questioned why it was interfering. That made her think. The dragon released even more power, but its attacks could not break through her barrier. Curdly asked if that was the best it could do, and stated that if she increased her power a little more, she could defeat it. Then she cast a gigantic spell. A meteor formed in the sky and fell toward the dragon. In the final instant, the dragon remembered Kella's mother and the moments they had shared. It was struck directly by the meteor. When Kella looked back, he saw the dragon's corpse lying on the ground. Curdly commented that for a dragon to help demons, there must have been something very strange about that creature. She said she would examine its memories before it died completely. But at that moment, the dragon began burning its own body. It declared that those arrogant and cruel humans would one day regret everything they had done. Then its body turned to ashes. Curdly realized that he had taken his own life, and that gave Kella enough time to hide. She concluded that it was troublesome, but stated that nothing would change the fate of Kella Kaldun. According to her, all demons were destined to die at the hands of the White Talken. After the immediate danger had passed, the demons began to wonder why the dragon had acted that way. First it tried to kill them, then it saved them. Wood observed that the dragon was not exactly helping everyone, but only Kella. Sirels agreed and recalled that it had approached Kella specifically and used some kind of magic on him. She asked if he had anything to say about that. Kella explained that he had managed to connect with the dragon's memories at that moment, and that apparently it had some connection with his mother. Rin commented that dragons normally did not get involved with demons, so it was difficult to imagine how that story connected them. Kella admitted that he did not understand everything either, but said he had felt a deep nostalgia coming from the dragon. In addition, he had received the clear seeing stone from the creature itself. The dragon had not only saved him, but had handed over that precious item. Sirels concluded that in the end, they had been saved because of that connection with Kella's mother. He became thoughtful about what exactly the relationship between the dragon and his mother had been. It was something strong. It was possible to see it in the dragon's eyes before it died. Even so, Kella gave thanks for the stone. Now Wood could consume it. Sirels commented that it would greatly help them escape from the White Talken, since they needed to do everything possible to protect themselves. Wood, surprised, said it was an extremely rare item and asked if Kella was sure he wanted to give it away. Kella replied that he was the only one who could use it properly and told him to consume it at once. Without hesitation, Wood swallowed the stone. An intense flow of power ran through his body. Along with the energy came the dragon's memories. The dragon had been born in a human laboratory. It was treated as a test subject, a mere experiment. Every day it was subjected to cruel tests. Pieces of its body, even entire limbs, were torn off to study its regeneration and magical properties. Centuries passed like that. Over time, it became completely insane. The humans commented that the dragon no longer cried. They said it had stopped crying generations ago and was merely waiting waiting for its own death. Then Turk-Haldon, an ancient demon king known as the worst of them all, invaded the human kingdom to massacre his enemies. During the battle, the laboratory was destroyed. In the chaos of the collapse, the dragon managed to free itself. For the first time, it was free from that hell. For the first time, it could fly across the skies. After escaping, it sought out other dragons and told them about the atrocities it had suffered at the hands of humans. It suggested they unite to attack them, but none believed its story. The dragons maintained a close relationship with humans, and were even helping them in the fight against demons. No one realized what had truly happened to it. They did not know that humans approached dragons precisely to study them, sacrifice them, and turn them into test subjects over the centuries. Since its own race rejected the truth, it tried to approach the demons, but it was not accepted there either. It ended up alone. It did not belong to humans, nor to demons, nor to dragons. It began to question why it had been born into that world, if it had no purpose at all. So it isolated itself, sinking into loneliness and darkness, waiting only for the end of its life. Until 100 years ago, it met a small demon girl named Karisti. She looked at it and asked if that dragon was her mommy. It was confused, but Karisti ran to it and hugged it as if it were her mother. It said it was not her mother, but in that moment it felt something different. For the first time, it sensed that perhaps it had a reason to exist. That unexpected child was Karisti. When it touched her, it was able to see part of her memories. And there, in the past of that dragon marked by human experiments, the first spark of purpose it had ever felt in its entire existence appeared. In that child's past, her own mother had been used as an experiment. Among the demons there existed an extremely hostile group that acted independently, known as Tarsika. This group carried out cruel experiments to analyze dragon magic, and through that learn how to subjugate them. When Karisti was born from that egg, she was immediately turned into yet another experiment. From the beginning it was clear that she possessed the greatest power among all dragons. She could use draconic magic without any difficulty, and also mastered transformation magic. It was precisely because of that absurd potential that the Tarsika intensified their tests on her even further. Throughout her life, Karisti lived as an object of study. She suffered constantly and remained in despair almost all the time. Even so, on her own, she managed to develop a teleportation spell. When she finally escaped that hell, she began to explore the world by herself. That was when she found that dragon. It is not known whether it was fate or mere coincidence, but both carried painful pasts. It was impossible for them to pretend they were strangers to each other. Karisti began calling him master, and he made it clear that it was better than any other title. To her, master sounded close to mother, but he reinforced that he was only her master. After that, he began teaching many things to Karisti. He showed her how the world worked and how a dragon should live. She learned a great deal of magic, and the two spent much time together. Unlike the past, when each day was filled with pain and seemed to drag on slowly, time at his side was so happy that it passed far too quickly. At one point, the dragon thanked Karisti. She did not understand why, but he said he simply felt like thanking her. When she hugged him, he realized that watching her grow each day and sharing that time together brought a happiness he could not put into words. All the pain he had lived through since birth seemed insignificant compared to the joy of raising her. However, a great change occurred. The dragon began to feel something strange inside himself. Suddenly, he looked at Karisti and asked who she was, questioning why she was in that form and whether she was human or demon. He demanded that she identify herself. Confused, Karisti thought it was some kind of test, but he launched fire at her and declared that he hated humans and demons. She could not understand what was happening. Even after so many happy moments by her side, the dragon's mind was breaking. After everything he had suffered, it was only a matter of time before his sanity reached its limit. He would not endure much longer, just like other dragons who had been corrupted by the experiments. Karisti asked if he truly did not remember her. Shortly after, the dragon regained awareness and became confused, wanting to know what had happened. She asked if he was alright, and he apologized for attacking her. It was at that moment that he realized he was no longer stable. Understanding that he might hurt her again, he decided he needed to stay away. Karisti did not accept it and asked why he was abandoning her, because she wanted her master by her side. But thinking of the well-being of his precious disciple, he concluded that he had to go as far away as possible. He prepared for the end of his life, clinging to the happy memories he had with her. He went through cycles in which he remembered and forgot. He noticed that a large part of his memories had already vanished, and understood that his life was nearing its end. Until one day, he felt a familiar energy. Instinctively, he followed it. At last, he found an energy similar to Karisti's. When he realized that, he understood that it was the only thing that still remained intact within his memories. It was Karisti's energy, his precious disciple, his beloved daughter. The dragon recognized that presence and ran toward Kella, believing he was approaching her. However, as he got closer, he realized it was not Karisti, but a different child. Even so, something inside him told him he needed to protect the child. Looking deeper, accessing his own memories and also the memories of that child, he understood what had happened. Karisti had become a mother. He had a grandson. Faced with that, he decided he would do everything to protect him. In the final moments of his life, he thanked Karisti for not allowing his last days to be only pain and suffering. It was a blessing to see the child she had raised. Thinking of his beloved daughter brought peace to his heart. He died happy. At that moment, Wood fell to his knees, overwhelmed with emotion, absorbing all those memories. He explained that all of the dragon's memories had been transferred to him. He said it was like a dream that was slowly fading away. He could no longer remember everything clearly, but he was certain of one thing: the dragon died happy. Sriels wanted to confirm whether he had truly died happy, which would mean that the cursed mage had managed to defeat him. However, the dragon's body had already turned to ashes. Sriels was confused when she heard that Wood could not properly remember anything, since he had cried when receiving the memories. Wood explained that abilities should not manifest all at once. They would probably develop slowly over time. In the worst case, he might even have difficulty using them from now on. Rin said he still had plenty of time ahead of him. Kella concluded that there was no other choice but to wait for the abilities to awaken naturally. Even so, Wood asked what they would do from there. They did not know whether the Takano would find them again. Killa replied that they needed a place that could serve as a base and guarantee protection. He then asked Srills to show the world map. On the right side was the kingdom of Talawa, the human continent. On the left was the demonic continent. In the middle lay the border between the two realms. After analyzing the situation, Kella stated that the best path would be to head south. Rin questioned whether that was really better than entering the demonic territory. Kella explained that there was a reason he had been sent to Arsel. He believed that part of that objective involved finding Strills. In addition, the demonic kingdom had already fallen, which indicated that the demonic continent was probably under human control. Strills confirmed that this was true. Even before their father's death, not only Taken but the entire human army had taken the opportunity to invade the demonic continent. Rin suggested gathering the demons to follow Kella, but he made it clear that this was impossible for now, as she herself had seen in the territory of the earth demons. He had been labeled the cowardly son of the demon king, who ran away. Not even the demons trusted him now. They probably thought the same as everyone else. That would only change when he proved his true power. Rin commented that even Starfs could not prove her own position. Starfs explained that without their father himself to confirm it, there was no way to prove she was truly the daughter of the demon king. Moreover, the decisions she made in Taken made any chance of forgiveness from the demons even more difficult. Faced with that, Kella stated that the first step would be to create a dungeon to use as a base. For the demonic people to follow him again, he needed to increase his power, gain recognition, and restore his honor. Trills agreed. From that moment on, the focus should be achieving real accomplishments. With recognition and concrete deeds, the demons would naturally unite with them again. Kella needed to prove that he was the next demon king. For now, what they needed most was time. Time to establish their position, create strategy, and strengthen their base in the south. Even though it was not a perfect plan, everyone was by his side, and that brought relief to Kella. He finally had the companions he needed. Even so, he was still being hunted by powerful monsters. Facing Taken now would be suicide. He needed more information, and began to reflect on everything he had experienced so far. Many things in that world were similar to the game from his past life. Even the names of the monsters were similar. It became increasingly clear that there was a connection between that world and his former reality. He would use his power, his status as the son of the Demon King, and the strategic knowledge he had from the game to carve a path toward victory. Nothing he had gone through would be in vain. Meanwhile, in a distant demonic city, several demons begged for mercy. They said they would kneel before humans if necessary. However, before any agreement could be made, all of them were devoured by a massive flaming wolf. Deed asked if they had said something, because he could not hear very well. The leader of the group replied that those demons were cursed and cruel, even though they had clearly surrendered. Before any decision could be discussed, Audrea stepped forward and killed one of them with her axe, stating that demons should only stay silent and dead. At the same time, Kalka finished another and informed the captain that everything there was already settled. The captain, in turn, contacted Curdley through a hologram. She reported that a dragon had helped Curdley and that she had not yet managed to track him again. Killian stated that he could not be too far from the territory of the earth demons. Curdley replied that she had already sent butterflies to follow them. Killian considered that excellent and concluded that Kella would probably not return to the demonic territory. The best course of action would be to prepare and head toward where Curdley was. Audrea questioned what would happen to the other demons, asking whether they would be left alive, insisting that all of them should be eliminated. Killian told her to calm down. It would not be too late as long as they managed to kill Kella first. The main objective was to annihilate the bloodline responsible for his brother's death. Meanwhile, Kella and the others traveled mounted on unicorns. The weather was growing colder and colder. Cyril's explained that it was normal, since they had been heading south non-stop for a week. Kella reflected that, fortunately, they had not been followed by the Taken so far. Avoiding a confrontation at that moment would be essential, at least until they were prepared. Suddenly, all the unicorns stopped. Wood explained that they were refusing to move forward because their instincts told them they would not survive the environment ahead. Kella said that was not a problem. Since they had already reached their destination, the unicorns could leave. Wood thanked the animals and wished them a safe return. Ryan commented that the cold was extreme, something neither humans nor demons could endure easily. Kella stated that this was precisely why the place was perfect for them. Now they needed to find the best possible location. At that very moment, one of Curdley's butterflies spotted the unicorns and found it strange that there were exactly 4 of them migrating from south to north. Later, the group arrived before an isolated island. Wood stated that the cave within it was the safest position possible. Kella asked whether he could track any monster inside. Wood explained that his mind's eye responded only to nature and that he still could not detect life. Surreals observed that there were abandoned boats in the area, which indicated that no one had passed through there for a long time. Even so, the boats still seemed usable. The group then crossed to the island using those vessels. About 200 meters from the shore, Kella realized realized that the distance was not great, but the waves were strong. Even so, he trusted that he would be able to detect any intruder approaching the island. Upon reaching the cave, Kella asked whether Sriels could cast an illusion spell at the entrance. She replied that it was simple and created a false stone wall, hiding the access. Kella concluded that no one had stepped there for a long time. Before settling in, they needed to explore the terrain. He asked them to split up, but requested that Wood first explain the structure of the cave. With his perception, Wood formed a mental map. There were two paths that led to the same destination, a large open chamber. After that, the tunnel continued into an even deeper room connected to a small exit. Kella suggested they split up to investigate both paths at the same time and meet in the main chamber. Sriels asked if she could go with him, but Rin immediately refused, saying she would stay by Kella's side. According to her, they did not know what could happen inside the tunnels, and the strongest should remain together. Sriels did not seem convinced by the justification, but she accepted it and followed Wood. Their path was extremely cold. On the ceiling of the cave, there were glowing stones that lit the way. They were stones formed by the combination of magic and ice. Sriels commented that for them to remain intact until now, they could only have been created by a very experienced mage. Even so, she admitted that she still did not completely trust Wood. He found the comment strange, and she explained that she was only traveling beside him because Kella had decided so. Sriels made it clear that she was not the type to accept new companions easily. She and Wood stared at each other for a few seconds. He remarked that she did not need to consider him a companion. She could think of him as a slave if she wished. Sriels turned her face away and replied that she simply did not like him. On the other side of the cave, Kella had also noticed the light stones on the ceiling. He thought it would be great if they could produce their own. Rin said she could research that for him, but asked him to be careful not to trip over the uneven formations on the ground. Kella found it strange how motivated she suddenly seemed. Soon after, they encountered a slime. Kella became excited, since he had only seen creatures like that in video games, and had always wanted to touch one. Before he could approach, Rin crushed the slime without hesitation, destroying the creature for daring to stand in Kella's way. She practically vaporized the monster. Kella realized that she seemed to be waiting for praise, and somewhat disappointed, said she had done a good job. Deep down, he had only wanted to poke the slime. Rin thanked him enthusiastically, and assured him that he did not need to worry about anything, because she would take care of everything. Further ahead, they found a massive golem blocking the passage. Kella was impressed by the creature's size, and asked Rin to stay behind him. She immediately refused, stating that she would be the one to protect him and defeat anything that appeared. Meanwhile, on the other path, Sriels found something unexpected, a valuable crystal necklace. She realized they had stumbled upon a dungeon full of treasures. She placed the necklace around her neck, and asked Wood if it looked good on her. He answered in a neutral tone. Sriels grew thoughtful, imagining that if it had been Rin, she would have praised her enthusiastically. That only reinforced how much she disliked him. Back at the confrontation, the golem attacked Rin with crushing force. She managed to block some blows and counterattack, but when she received a direct hit, she was thrown against the wall and spat blood. Kella realized it would be impossible to defeat that creature without a proper weapon, since normal attacks did not penetrate the stone layer. Even so, Rin insisted she could do it. Her next strike caused no damage at all, and she was hit again. Kella questioned why she was insisting so much, but Rin did not give up. She thought that at this rate she would not even be fit to serve as his attendant. Her determination came from long before. On the first day she entered the demon castle as a servant. The demon king asked Kella if he wanted her to be his friend. He replied that yes, he wanted to be Rin's friend. The king rebuked the idea, saying that a servant was only a servant, and that the contract should be made immediately. Crying, Kella apologized to Rin and carried out the contract. For Rin, in that moment it became clear that he wanted to treat her as a friend, not as an object. That alone was enough to make her feel acknowledged as a person. That night, after he fell asleep exhausted from crying so much, she watched him and swore to protect him, promising to help him until he became the greatest of demons. As time passed, however, Kella grew insecure and cowardly. He was constantly outmatched and humiliated by his siblings. He always returned to his room saying he had almost died again, consumed by fear. Rinna began to act more strictly toward him, because she believed that if he died, she would also die because of the contract. Even so, he did not change. Because of that, Rin began to be ignored and discriminated against by the other maids. She ate leftovers, slept in the stables with the pigs, and still was not safe. She endured torture and humiliation. There was even an episode in which hot lava was poured over her. Some women claimed that a certain Tarme had been seduced by her, and used that as justification to mistreat her even more. It was during that period that Ren began to hate Kella. She thought that if she killed him, the contract would be broken, and her miserable life would end. In a moment of desperation, she even stabbed him, but he did not die. His regeneration prevented the wound from being fatal. In tears, she asked why he would not die, and why she had to endure all of that because of him. Kella, even while wounded, simply apologized. Rin stopped acting like an empty body that only obeyed orders. She realized that from one day to the next, Kella had completely changed. He was no longer the same coward as before. It was as if he had become another person. For the first time, she saw in him the true heir of the Demon King. As the golem advanced, Rin dodged another heavy blow. In the middle of the fight, she understood that if she were only a burden, she would merely get in his way. She could not continue like that. With a precise movement, she managed to strike the golem's neck and tear off its head. Even so, she declared that if she was not useful to him, she did not deserve to remain by his side. Then she bowed to Kella, stating that she had never intended intended to abandon him. When Kella tried to approach her to speak, the golem, even without a head, began to move again. This time, it was Kella who reacted. He advanced and struck directly at the creature's chest, hitting the core that sustained it. The golem finally fell, lifeless. Irritated, Kella asked if she was an idiot. She had risked her own life several times while he was still in danger. He questioned why he would abandon a servant like her. Even if one day she decided to run away or turn her back on him, he would never abandon her. He also told her not to regret what she had done in the past. Hearing that, Rin was deeply moved and embraced her master. Kella, in turn, reflected that he carried all the memories he had lived with Rin. Her feelings were genuine, not only for him, but also for the future he sought to build, and the kingdom he intended to restore. If he wanted to achieve his goals, he needed to turn Rin into his most powerful servant. After crossing the corridor, they finally reached the first room, which was enormous and filled with light on every side. As soon as she stepped in, Srills saw the shining stones and thought they could only be diamonds, so she immediately started grabbing them without thinking twice. Wood called her attention, but she said she was not going to share anything with him, and even teased him, saying she did not even know if he liked them. He replied that he wanted to know whether she truly had not noticed, or if she was pretending not to know. She had already put on a pearl necklace and one of the bracelets, and in the same instant the accessories closed around her body like shackles, restricting her movements. Soon after, a massive creature emerged from the shadows of the room, a treasure spider. Wood commented that he had sensed something strange in the bracelets, and that it clearly looked like a trap. Souls complained that if he knew, he could have warned her earlier. He explained that he thought she had noticed as well, and that maybe she was following some kind of plan. Even so, he used the power of nature and made roots burst from the ground to restrain the spider for a few seconds. He said he thought she had allowed herself to be captured on purpose to strike later. Srills knew she could defeat the monster easily, but not while trapped like that. All that remained was to trust him. She admitted that she had pretended to be caught to test his strength, but now the situation had gotten out of control. Wood said he would free her first. He tried to cut the bindings with his knife, but the material was far too resistant. She explained that there was a magical barrier connected to the spider webs, so simply cutting them would not work. The spider spat acid in their direction. Wood pulled Srills out of the way, and the acid corroded the ground where they had been standing. He realized that inside a closed cave there were not many escape routes. Srills said that if she could use magic freely, she would defeat the creature with a single blow. Another spray of acid came, and this time, even with Wood pushing her aside, one of the webs struck Srills, binding her even tighter. The spider advanced with one of its sharp legs, aiming directly at her, who was already trapped since the initial trap. She thought she could not lose there, could not be defeated by a monster like that. Before the strike could reach her, Wood stepped in front and took the attack straight to his chest. He stated that she could defeat the creature and that he would do anything to make that happen. Even wounded, he cut off the spider leg embedded in his body, tore the limb free, and hurled it against Trigul's bindings. Somehow, by using part of the creature's own body, the barrier lost its effect, and the shackles dissolved. He still took another hit, and said that now it was her turn. Consumed by fury, Srills grabbed her scepter and unleashed her demonic purple flames, nearly carbonizing the spider instantly. After destroying the monster, she asked Wood how he had broken the barrier. He explained that he had assumed that by using something linked to the creature that sustained the magic, the effect would be disrupted. She asked if he had not thought he might die if he was wrong. He answered that he did not care about living or dying as long as he did the right thing. His words made Srills remember the past, when she faced a warrior who pierced her stomach with a sword. Even then, she held the blade and cut off the enemy head. Her superior said she had almost died, since the blow could have struck her heart. At the time, she answered that she did not care about living or dying if she had been ordered to kill. That coldness had been considered irritating, but she passed the test because she always did whatever was necessary to achieve her goals. Now, looking at Wood, she realized he had the same indifferent expression she used to have. He had put his own life at risk to protect her. She declared that he had passed her test, that she accepted him as an ally, and that he must not die. She ordered him to be careful. He replied that he would keep that in mind. Later, the pairs reunited and began asking if everyone was fine. Sorrels was surprised to see the injuries and wanted to know what had happened, especially to Wood. He said he was fine, and she was already using a healing enchantment on him. Then she complained to Kella, asking how he had let the situation become so bad. Reen explained that she had insisted on fighting alone. Kella asked what had happened to Wood, since he seemed more injured. Sorrels asked if they had also faced a treasure spider. Kella answered no, they had run into a golem. She found it strange, since a golem and a treasure spider in the same cave was a rare combination. Reen wondered if there could be more monsters around. Sorrels called Reen first to heal her, so that they could rest afterward. As they walked through the cave, Kella commented that the architecture resembled that of the demonic castle. Srills observed that there were also traces of human architecture, which made her even more suspicious. She was especially concerned about a statue at the back of the next room, which had a chest right beneath it. Rin believed it was treasure, but Srills said it did not seem that simple, and the two realized they were thinking the same thing. When Srills approached, she did not even touch the chest. The statue suddenly opened its glowing eyes. Kella reacted immediately and shot an ice arrow to protect her, preventing her from being struck by a laser that shot from the statue eyes. If it had not been for him, she would have melted instantly. The statue continued firing beams of energy, chasing Kella and Srills across the room. He ordered the other two to stay back and not interfere, taking the front line as the lasers sliced through the air of the cave. They realized they needed to to rest. Rin wanted to keep advancing, but Wood simply said they should follow Kella orders. Rinsal's also warned that he must not die, so for now the best option was to focus on recovering, just as Kella had decided. Rin thought Wood was not wrong and began meditating to restore her energy. Meanwhile, Kella said he would draw the statue attention so Surreals could attack more freely. He fired a rain of ice arrows, but all of them were blocked by an invisible barrier surrounding the statue. Surreal's fireballs were also completely nullified. She questioned how the statue could use multiple enchantments at the same time. Kella said there were only two possibilities. Either a high-level mage had prepared all of that in advance, or someone was controlling the statue at that very moment. He asked Wood if he could detect anyone inside it. Wood replied that the statue was hollow on the inside. Kella concluded that someone had to be in there. Surreals stated that they needed to break the barrier first. Kella commented that their magic should work once the barrier fell. At that moment, 4 golems identical to the previous one rose from the cave walls, and a new treasure spider appeared, much larger than the first. Surreals remarked that the first must have been only a juvenile and unleashed her purple flames, but the spider blocked the attack and countered with its sharp legs. She complained that if they were not inside a closed cave, she could simply destroy the entire area along with the monsters, but that would kill them as well. Kella thought that if he used hell mana, he could end everything quickly, but the Talkin' girl would sense his presence. Then he noticed something strange. Ever since the monsters appeared, the statue had stopped using magic. It was as if it were concentrating on controlling the creatures. He realized the monsters had appeared precisely when Surreals began attacking the statue. Perhaps it was some kind of automatic protection spell. Kella ordered them to focus on destroying the statue, and asked Surreals for cover. She asked what he intended to do while raising a wall of fire to protect them. Kella concluded that if the statue was controlling the monsters, then the barrier must be deactivated. He advanced with his fist infused with mana and struck the hollow structure, opening a large breach. At the same instant, all the monsters turned desperately to protect the statue. Wood observed that the spider seemed to be the only one capable of entering the opening as well. At the same time, 2 of the golems began moving toward Rin and Wood, who were still recovering. Rin said that at this rate they would have no choice but to fight as well, but Surreals stepped in front of them and stated that they could not battle in that condition. She created a barrier of fire to buy time, absorbing the golem strikes, and saying that now all that remained was to trust Kella. Inside the statue, Kella saw a core glowing at the top. He took his bow to destroy it, but the giant spider entered through the breach and trapped him with its webs. Outside, Surreals warned that she would not be able to hold them much longer. The spider's sharp leg nearly pierced Kella's body, and he wondered if he would truly have to use hell power there. At that moment, his own consciousness appeared and called him an idiot, asking why he was allowing such pathetic monsters to pressure him like that. Kella complained that it only showed up at inconvenient moments, and that he had almost died before without any help. The voice told him to shut up and use the vassal power. Even weakened, he still possessed the ability to control monsters. Kella asked if it was like the contract he had made with Rin when they were children. His consciousness answered no, and explained that he carried the blood of a demon king, passed down through generations. The vassal ability was something natural for those who possessed that blood. As long as there was a strong enough desire, it said that any weaker being would obey his will if he activated the power properly. Kella realized he had a clear desire to protect everyone there and end that battle. He finally accepted that within himself, Kella's subconscious warned that there were many monsters on that island, and that all of them could be captured by him. It said he could form an entire army, like a true commander. Driven by unshakable determination, Kella decided to use the vassal power, wishing to dominate all those monsters. He, Kella Khaldun, descendant of the great demon king, declared that he would command that spider, and at that very instant it became his. At the last moment, the spider leg withdrew and did not strike him. That was when Kella realized that there were spaces meant for vassals, like inventory slots in a game. One of them was occupied by the spider, and 8 more remained available. The spider then bowed before its demon king, and Kella understood that somehow it recognized that it now belonged to him. Meanwhile, Surreals kept telling him to do this and that, but Kella replied that he only needed a little more time. He advanced while riding the spider, thinking that she alone would not be enough. He needed to control all the monsters outside as well, so he used the vassal power again, this time on the core inside the statue. Suddenly, all the golems outside stopped at the same time. Kella came out of the statue after having dominated it, the little slime and the spider, realizing that he had succeeded. Later he said that thinking it was only a slime controlling everything was bizarre. It must have been enchanted by superior magic. But it is so cute. Surreals said she had never heard of such a thing, probably because she did not have the blood of the demon king. Rein said she had always been impressed by the fact that he could control other demonic monsters, so that was the ability. Kella said that now that he had dominated the owner of the place, using the cave would be much easier, and since it had stones in its body, he would call it Pebble. How cute. Rein said that was strange. He even gave it a name. Surreals said she was jealous and wanted that ability for herself as well. He replied that simply asking would not work. Wood said it was only a guess, but if there had been a superior mage capable of creating a slime like that, that person could not still be alive. Rin said that judging by the state of the place, the mage must have died of old age or left long ago. Spriles said that maybe he died while fighting the humans, and the slime had remained there alone. It was a relief that Kella was managing to control the place so far, but Kella kept thinking about what that abyss guy in his subconscious had said. If he had not appeared, he would have died. He wondered how to gotta see him more often, but this was not the time to think about that. He told the group to start the renovation. Creating a map first was their priority. After Pebble became his vassal, he was able to control all the demons it commanded. They prepared in case the Talkin appeared. With monsters watching the surroundings of the island, young spiders at the entrance, half of the golems hidden, and the rest positioned in the middle, protecting the center of the dungeon. In the chest in the main hall there were several weapons. Kella took 2 daggers, saying she could grow stronger by training with them. Servels said she had a natural predisposition for that, since she had been fighting with her bare hands until now, and learning to use those weapons with demonic power could greatly improve her attacks. She felt motivated, thinking she could protect Kella from the Talkin with them. Wood obtained a shield, saying he found it impressive, and since it contained energy of nature he wanted to keep it. Kella said that was fine. He could keep what he wanted. He thought that elves were truly different. Servels would keep the grimoire, which did not seem to have anything at first glance. And now Kella was choosing from the remaining swords. Servels said he should take the first one, since it had more demonic power, but he saw one adorned with a kind of purple crystal, and said he wanted that one. It was a thin and silent sword, very similar to the sword he used in the game, and it felt very familiar to him. After taking the weapons, they used the map they had created to begin the renovation. Since the place had been abandoned, there were not many materials, so they used earth, stone, and water, and began creating building materials. With wood knowledge and powers of nature, they created a new architecture for the cave, combining everything with Srul's magic. They built everything according to what they knew about the demons of Earth and Arsel. It was not the best structure, but Kella thought that everything there had been created using his own map. It was the first dungeon he had created in that world. Later, he asked Pebble if it liked the cage. He also thought that as long as they did not run into the Talkin, living there would not be so bad. Meanwhile, in the human kingdom, they were still rebuilding what had been destroyed. A man thanked Raiden, saying he did not know he would come there, and expressing gratitude on behalf of Arsel. The counselor replied that it was not a time for thanks. He had never imagined that Arsel, a place under Talawa command, would end in such misfortune. The elder apologized, saying they had also been caught by surprise that day, but Raiden said he did not want apologies. He asked if it made any sense that a nation as great as Arsel had been destroyed solely by the traitor Srils and the cowardly son Kella. Then he ordered the strongest mages to be summoned to find that boy immediately. The king personally handed over strengthening stones to be distributed and said that he himself would train them in spells. The old man commented that he had heard the Whites of Talkin were already involved in this. The counselor replied that they still had not located those bastards, and that if the mages of Arsel found and killed Kella first, it would help restore the place reputation. The elder said that might be true, but warned that the strengthening stones of Talon had very strong side effects. The counselor asked if he was worried about side effects at a time like that. Then he strangled him using his mana, saying it seemed he was forgetting something. It was not the elder who had brought Arsel to greatness. It was himself. He ordered him to be grateful for not being killed right there. He needed justification to keep receiving the king's support, so he commanded that the mages be brought immediately. Later, while walking through Arsel, he thought that as soon as the Whites of Talkin found that lead, he would probably be killed by Killian. That was why they needed to find the boy first. It was then that a hooded man approached the Raiden and asked if he needed to find that person, saying he could locate him. Meanwhile, Kella wondered if that was right. He thought that chair was not too extravagant, and that they might end up thinking he was a demon king or something like that. Rin said he was going to become a demon king anyway, so he might as well get used to it. Srils commented that the problem was that they only had fish to eat for now, and wanted him to have a more balanced diet. Rin agreed, saying he needed to eat well, young master, and that next time she would hunt deeper. She herself wondered what she would do if she were caught by someone from Talkin. Kella told her to relax, that it was too dangerous, but he thought he was truly sick of eating only fish. Wood suggested that he could catch some carnivorous animal. While training, he thought that the wooden shield held the strength of nature, so he used his abilities to create wooden roots. They asked if he could hunt underground, and Wood asked for silence, saying the roots needed to move calmly. 2 hours later, 4 hours later, 6 hours later, still nothing. Rin asked if that would even work, until suddenly, Wood pulled a massive mole out of the ground. He had actually succeeded. Srils praised Wood, and he became embarrassed by the compliment. Then they asked if it was possible to eat that. Rin thought that at this rate, she would lose to the newcomer, so she decided to cook the creature for him, and told them to rest for now. Later in the kitchen, Rin wondered what she would do. She said she would cook, but the animal skin was so tough that she could not cut it even with her mana. She thought that maybe she should ask for help, but imagined that Kella would say something like she could not even cut an insignificant monster, which would be disappointing. She could not allow that to happen. Then she remembered the daggers she had. If she could use mana on them, it might work. She concentrated and distributed her mana, but ended up channeling too much. Her mana suddenly spread, as if it were being absorbed. She could not let go of the daggers, and began having all her mana drained. Meanwhile, Srils was studying the grimoire. There were only basic spells and information about that place. Yet even so, there were words she had never seen before. The strangest part was that she could not even determine the level of the person who had written it. Suddenly, Srils realized something shocking. At that very instant, Rin screamed and everyone heard it. Wood said he would go take a look, but Srils said no, that they should let Rin handle it alone. She had only gone to cook. But the way Kella looked at Srils, trusting her, made it clear that this was a test. Rin began thinking of a way to control those daggers. She had attended every class with Kella. While he was beaten and cried, aside. She observed everything to train later. She memorized every explanation. She was certain she could do it. Then she remembered what a teacher once said. Even if magical weapons are stronger than ordinary ones, if the user does not know how to control them, they become useless. To control them, one must first understand the true essence of the weapon. Another teacher explained that if you do not want the weapon to control your own magic, you need to manifest your magic in the shape you desire. Normally, a small amount is manifested during battle, but with high concentration, it is possible to maintain a greater level and even increase its power. Rein concluded that she needed concentration and control over the form. She tried to combine her magic with the true essence of the daggers. She forced the blockage of the mana flow so they would stop draining energy from her body. Mentally, she ordered those stupid daggers to listen to her. She was the owner now. She changed her stance and thought that if she could not control both of them, she would have no chance of protecting Kella from the stalker. With total focus, she managed to pierce the mole's tough skin. Suddenly, the daggers stopped absorbing her mana. She had done it. The mana along the blades took the shape of saws, vibrating with controlled energy. For the first time, she felt that those weapons truly belonged to her. Outside, Kella commented that he was starting to worry. It had already taken too long, and he was going in. Sorrel said they could leave Rin alone, and at that moment she appeared with everything already cut. Sorrel asked if she was alright, reminding her that they had heard her scream earlier. Rin replied that nothing had happened. Wood commented that she was completely soaked in sweat. Sorrel observed that she had been 10 times faster than expected, and might have a special gift for controlling magical weapons. The grimoire contained information about those moles. When they leave the underground, their vitality drops significantly, and they become easier to kill. However, their skin is so thick that without skill, it can take a long time to cut through. Only swordsmen who perfectly master magical weapons can break that defense. Rin asked if that was serious because the skin had felt as hard as iron. Wood said that the fact she had succeeded was incredible. Then Keller approached and gently caressed her face, saying she had done an excellent job and that thanks to her they would eat well now. Rin felt her heart calm when she realized he had finally acknowledged her effort. She decided she would become even stronger to protect him. Sorrel was also proud of Rin, but deep down she felt she was falling behind. In the fight against the earth demons, she had barely been able to act. The environment limited her magic, but she knew that was only an excuse. She needed to learn spells for smaller spaces and surpass herself more and more. Later, Sorrel was meditating, wearing only light clothes, remembering that her father had entrusted her with the task of protecting Kella, yet he was the one who kept helping everyone. If the stalker found them, she would not have enough strength to stop that priestess. She needed to reach the 4th magic circle as soon as possible. She was certain the priestess was already in the 6th circle. She could not waste time, even if she had to use extreme methods. She then summoned a magical rune, the same one the earth demons used to strengthen themselves in exchange for their own lives. She decided she would sacrifice part of her longevity to fulfill her father's will. However, before she could complete the rune, the grimoire reacted on its own. The pages began to turn, responding to her mana. Golden inscriptions appeared in the air before her eyes. The words she had not understood before aligned and formed a beam of energy that struck directly at her mana center. Suddenly, Sprells found herself walking over a sea of blood. A woman approached and said that the one who carried the power of the Demon King, trapped in the cycle of reincarnation, had finally reached her. Sprells wondered if it had been activated because of her father's energy. Sarles asked who the woman was, whether she was a subordinate of Hel Kaldhun. The entity replied that she was not. She said she was a creation of the first and only god of that world, Turk Kaldhun. Surreals then wondered if she had been a subordinate of the previous king. The woman confirmed that she had. Faced with that, Surreals began to think that it was the work of destiny. The entity replied that although destiny often seems inevitable, sometimes things simply happen. Their meeting might have been nothing more than the result of the natural flow of the world. Surreals asked if it had been Turk Kaldhun who built that cave. The woman replied that it was, that he had traveled through countless places and left his traces in all of them, so that in the future others could experience the true enlightenment of Turk. Then Surreals realized that perhaps it had not been a coincidence that they ended up there. She asked for help, saying that the demon king Hel Kaldhun had been killed by humans. The entity replied that she could not help because she was not real. She was only an activation trace left behind, something that could only assist the one who had activated her. Surreals thought that even if that entity had once truly existed, too much time would have passed and she would already be dead. So she asked her at least to teach her a way to reach the 4th magic circle. She needed to become stronger to protect the descendant of Turk, Kella Kaldhun. The woman said she liked her motivation, but creating a new circle depended on the user herself. Even if she helped, there was an abyss filled with pain and agony, capable of destroying every part of her body. Only someone who crossed that could form a new circle. Circles replied that she could do it, and asked for a chance. The entity warned that she would feel something equivalent to 400 years of pain, and that if she could not endure it, she might die. Surreals thought about death, but remembered that she had been created for a single purpose. If she could not protect what she needed to protect, she had no reason to live. She said she could endure all that pain. The woman said she sensed her sincerity. Then she declared that she would destroy everything Starbles had learned so far, and rebuild it from the beginning using her own magical power. When the demonic circle surrounded Starbles' body, a shock ran through every part of her being. It was a pain she had never experienced before, intense and crushing. Even so, she decided to endure it to fulfill her duty. But now she needed to prove how much she could truly withstand, and the pain continued to increase. Later, Kella, acting as the leader and protector of the group, decided to bring some meat to cereals. The expression she had made earlier left him uneasy. He said he would check the cave, since she had been gone for too long. That was when he found her wrapped in a cocoon, trapped inside a magical barrier. Inside, Cereals was bleeding and clearly suffering. Kella desperately tried to break the barrier. Meanwhile, the White Talon advanced across the sea in search of traces of the demons. Curdley stated that he had confirmed, through the memories of the unicorns, that they had come to that region. Kalka commented that there were only deserted islands there. Curdley replied that he had confirmed it with the butterflies as well, and that there were 427 islands in total. Kalka said it would take too long to search everything, but Killian declared that it would not. He said it was good that they had come there, because it meant the place they needed to search was right there. Then he struck the water with his sword, creating a cut so powerful that it split the tide in half. Everyone in the group was impressed. Killian ordered them to spread out and begin the search. It was time to find them. Meanwhile, the demonic successor Kella continued trying to break the barrier without success. He thought he needed to destroy it because Thrills was bleeding and suffering. He could not lose her. Suddenly he heard the sound of Killian's attack echoing through the waves. He wondered if it was an earthquake, but through the eagles watching the sky, Little Stone managed to spot the White Talon approaching. Little Stone's emergency signal was felt by Kella. He realized there were people nearby. He concluded they were the Talon and that they had arrived at the worst possible moment, precisely when Cereals was in that state. He even wondered if it could have been some spell from Curdley, but decided he could not stand still. If they were discovered now, everything would be over. Then Kella ordered everyone to hide in the bunker immediately. The monsters had already detected enemy presence. The Talon were outside. Rin asked how they could be so close. He explained that the earthquake they had felt earlier must have been caused by them. Wood said he would go after Cyrils, but Kella refused. She might already have been captured by Curdley. Now the priority was to guarantee the safety of those who were still there. He thought it had been an excellent idea to create the bunker earlier. Since it was secret, he doubted it would be discovered. He felt sorry for Cereals, but at that moment he could do nothing for her. Then he sealed the entrance using the chest. At that moment, Killian landed on one of the mountains of the island, commenting on the disgusting smell of demonic magic. Through the monsters connected to Little Stone, it became clear that he was already at the entrance of the place. They described him as a white-haired man holding a sword. He was their captain. If he noticed the illusion magic at the entrance, they would be finished. Killian noticed the magical distortion and concluded that this was where they were hiding. He thought he did not need to blow up the entire island, because that would attract the others. There was no reason to create such a commotion over a few demons, especially if he would have to hand over the credit afterward. So he simply walked through the illusion magic. He decided he would kill the traitor and the subordinates alone. Little Stone warned that he had already entered. Kella realized he had no choice but to use all the monsters and attack with everything. He ordered the spiders and golems to advance against Killian, captain of the Talca. Killian commented that it was an unexpected combination of monsters, but with a single strike he cut them all down. Even so, he was delayed for a few moments, and Kella understood that he was far stronger than he had imagined. Now Killian stood before two paths. He thought that no matter which one he chose, he would find the demon sooner or later. Little Stone alerted that he had chosen exactly the path where Cereals was. She was still inside the cocoon, completely vulnerable. Meanwhile, Audria showed irritation, saying that this was not the right island. Curdley remained focused, using her butterflies to track. Kalka had also found nothing. Deed commented that if the leader found the traitor first, no one else would have the chance to kill her. But at that moment, Killian was already standing before Cereals, the traitor of Talca. When he saw her, he remembered the past. He had defeated 5 4th-rank cadets alone while still a child. One of them wanted to challenge him again, but the commander ordered them to stop being idiots. He said that even being his brother, it would take 100 years to reach Killian's level. He told them to return to training. Since the day he was born, Killian had always held a sword. Over time, it became boring. Nothing excited him, until he saw Cereals training alone, pushing herself until she bled. The sight of her fighting like a beast just to survive made something inside him race for the first time. He remembered when he asked the commander to deliver supplies to her. They asked if he truly wanted to give his own rations to a magic cadet without ranking like Cereals. He replied that he did not need them and that she always ended up severely injured during training. The commander found it strange that he cared about someone, hinting that maybe he liked her. Killian simply asked them to deliver the supplies. Over time, the commander commented that he was persistent, since he had been doing that for years. He asked why Killian did not deliver them personally. Killian always refused and said it was fine that way. He remembered a day when Cereals, completely wrapped in bandages, complained that she had almost won that time. She was always the only one who needed extra bandages. Killian used to think that if she had stood by his side, they could have fought together as companions of the White Squadron, setting aside the matters of the Demon King's bloodline. The only time something truly made his heart race was seeing her fight in that wild and determined way. If she had remained by his side fighting together, perhaps everything would have been different. But now she had been consumed by an ambition far greater than her own potential could sustain. Kella thought that the twists of fate cut as deeply as a sharp blade. With the power that still remained in his body, he managed to free her from the magical cocoon that trapped her. She fell to the ground weak, wounded, and covered in blood. Rin said that Cereals was in danger and that they needed to save her, but explained that she was trapped inside a powerful magical barrier. The attacks they tried to launch did not leave even a scratch on the structure. It was impossible to break it by force. Kella thought that if it was a barrier created by someone at the level of the White White Squadron. Perhaps not even his own life force would be enough. He realized that this was not the same game he once knew. This time, if he died, it would truly be the end. Suddenly, a massive explosion echoed through the dungeon. It was Killian, walking alone toward the statue, holding Sarles by the neck as if she weighed nothing. Rins wondered if he had really come alone. Killian examined the place and realized it was an ancient dungeon, but there were clear signs of recent modifications. He stated that Kella was probably observing everything from somewhere hidden, and made it clear that he did not want the other members gathered there. He said that if they wanted to save Sarles, someone of the same bloodline should appear. In truth, he was seeing everything through one of the golems spread across the area. Rin thought that even if they all attacked at the same time, they would not be able to do anything against him. If even one of his subordinates, like Curdley, was already too strong for them, the captain would be far worse. Even so, she concluded that there was only one option left. She and Wood would draw Killian's attention while Kella escaped through the secret passage behind the statue. Kella asked if they wanted him to flee alone. Wood replied that it was the only way for him to survive. Rin reinforced that he was the descendant of the Demon King and needed to live, that it was the best they could do. Kella understood that if he accepted that, they would probably die, but Rin simply told him to remember that he needed to live. Suddenly, the statue exploded with magic. Rin and Wood emerged with their weapons ready to face Killian. He commented that it was exactly as he had imagined, that they were hiding like rats. Wood summoned roots to form a shield and blocked the enemy's vision, ordering Kella to flee immediately. As he turned his back to run, Kella thought that everything about this was wrong. It was not a game. He would not come back to life if he died. He could not simply accept dying there without doing anything. Rin believed their objective had been accomplished when she realized Kella had already passed through the secret passage and was at least for the moment safe. Killian, pressuring the two with brutal attacks, asked where he had gone. Rin replied that he had never been there. Wood tried to bind Killian's arms with roots, but the difference in strength was obvious. Killian questioned what demons and dark elves were doing fighting together. Rin tried to get close for a direct strike, but she was overpowered by his sword. Wood was grabbed by the neck with brutality. Even while being choked, Rin stated that there was no point in insisting, because they would never tell him where Kella was. Killian replied that he had not asked. If he appeared on his own, it would be easier. Otherwise, he could simply kill everyone there. Rin thought his eyes were terrifying, cold as if there were no emotion inside them. Not even among demons had she seen something like that. Wood spat blood while being crushed by the enemy's strength. Rin's neck was being cut slowly. Fear took hold of both of them. They did not want to die. Even so, Rin thought that if it was for Kella's sake, perhaps it would be worth it. Wood showed that he thought the same, since Kella was not there, then let it end quickly. Killian commented that the brat had unexpectedly loyal servants, and that he would grant them a quick and honorable death. He prepared to execute them. That was when Kella appeared and asked who had said they were his servants. He advanced and struck his sword against Killian's. The knight acknowledged that Kella Kaldum had finally decided to show himself. Wood asked why he had returned. Kella thought that this was not a game. If he died, it ended there. But the same was true for Rin, for Wood, and for Shrills. They had traveled together, fought together. They were precious friends to him. He would not allow them to die like that. He said that he was the one Killian wanted, so he should release the others. Killian actually released them and revealed that his brother had died because of Kella's father, and therefore everyone who carried the Demon King's blood should die. In fact, all demons should be exterminated. Kella replied that he had met people like him before, both in games and in real life, and asked if he planned to chase him until he killed him. He made it clear that he did not intend to die so easily. He summoned his aura and clashed his sword against Killian's. Rin asked to help, saying it was too dangerous to fight alone, but Kella stated that it was an order. He told them to take Shrills and go to a safe place immediately. Wood replied that if it was an order, then he would obey. He carried Shrills with difficulty and said he knew how frustrating it was, but they would not be able to help much there. Rin realized that for Wood to speak that way, the situation was truly serious. Even reluctantly, she decided to obey and told Kella to come back alive. As the two of them moved away with Sarils, Killian continued exchanging blows with Kella and mocked him, saying he was only buying time for his subordinates to escape, that even demons had emotions, and that was his weakness. The next strike was devastating and hurled Kella against the dungeon wall. The knight declared that right there, the bloodline of the Demon King would come to an end, that everything would end with Kella. Upon hearing that, he felt the weight of the absurd difference in power between the two of them. It was clear that Killian was on a completely different level. Kella's entire body trembled, his legs barely responding. With that difference in strength, the knight could kill him with a single blow. Even so, since he had already been found, there was no longer any point in hiding. Kella decided he would use the full power of the Demon King. He summoned the demonic energy from the depths of his own soul, imbuing his body as if he himself were a living blade. Killian recognized that energy and commented that he knew very well where that power came from. He said it seemed to be the same force responsible for destroying Arsel. To Kella, the movements of Killian's sword began to seem different, almost as if the knight had turned into someone else. Killian admitted that he had indeed inherited the Demon King's blood, but made it clear that it would not change the final outcome. The next strike was so brutal that Kella could barely move. He wondered how someone could be that powerful. Meanwhile, Rin and Wood noticed that the cave was beginning to collapse. Wood stated that the priority was to follow Kella's order and put Srulls in safety. Rin wished that Srulls would at least wake up, but Wood said they were already near the exit and needed to keep going. Even under pressure, Kella still managed to strike Killian's cloak, burning the fabric with his demonic aura. The knight commented that it was unexpected and that he had not imagined Kella would be able to cut his cloak with such poorly executed sword technique. Kella thought that happened because he still carried memories of his training from his past life, but he could not fully control the power he was using. The more he summoned that energy, the more he felt his body burning from the inside. If he continued like that, he would not last long. Killian asked if he was destroying his own life just to save subordinates, calling it idiotic. Kella replied that they were not subordinates. He kept attacking with his demonic aura, but Killian stated that with that level of energy, the others must have already sensed his presence. He said the game was over. In a precise movement, he disarmed Kella and pierced his heart with the blade. He even declared that if Kella met his father in hell, he should tell him that this was the punishment for killing his brother. Then he burned Kella from the inside out with blue flames that completely blocked his regeneration. Kella thought he would die there. Outside, Rin and Wood finally reached the exit. Wood commented that now they just needed to find another safe island, since the cave was collapsing. Rin was restless. Wood insisted that all they could do was save Salone's. Rin questioned how they could simply leave after he had come back for them. Because of an order, she was supposed to accept that he would die alone. Wood realized she was right. The only order had been to take Salone somewhere safe, and that had already been done, so they decided to return. Meanwhile, Kella was being carbonized from the inside by the blue flames that prevented his regeneration. At that moment, Rin appeared attacking and demanded to know how Killian dared to separate Kella from her. That forced Kella to pull the sword out of his own chest, so he could turn and block a blow that would have struck her, complaining that she was getting in the way again. Wood appeared right after, binding Killian with roots. Kella asked why they had come back and ordered them to flee. Rin explained that they had obeyed the order, that Sriel's was already safe. Wood stated that they would fight alongside him until the end. Kella called them idiots, but inside he felt something different. He thought that in his past life he would never have known friends like that. The man he called father drank and beat him every day. The friends he had were envious and talked behind his back. He had never truly been loved. That was why he hid in games, where at least he could pretend he was not alone. Now, in that world, there were people willing to risk their own lives for him. He thanked them silently. He was no longer alone. The time Rin and Wood had bought was enough for him to partially recover. Kella advanced with his fist wrapped in demonic power and hurled Killian away. The knight commented that he was more stubborn to die than a cockroach. Kella advanced as well, making it clear that he would not kneel before him. Elsewhere, Deed commented that he had seen the captain heading toward another island, and that he seemed to be having fun on his own. It was obvious that they could not allow that. At that moment, Suriel's finally woke up, still in great pain. Meanwhile, Killian used his powers to break through Wood's defenses, easily dodged Rin's daggers, and even managed to cut part of Kella's arm. He asked if they truly believed they could defeat him just because they outnumbered him. Rin realized that even 3 against 1 was not enough. Kella's physical condition kept getting worse. He did not know how long his regeneration would hold. It was becoming increasingly clear that he could die there. Even so, Kella insisted that the fight was his, and told the other 2 to leave. Rin refused. Wood also said they would stay until the end. Killian commented that it made no difference because he would kill them all together anyway. Kella felt that this could truly be the end. Then someone appeared, interrupting the battle once again. Sriel's arrived, saying she now understood everything that had happened there, and that she was glad they were alive. Everyone realized that she was not only standing, but seemed far more powerful. Beside her was a body dragged across the ground. Deeds. She had brutally murdered him. He muttered that that cursed woman had gotten him, but Sriel's threw him almost lifeless onto the ground, and faced Killian, declaring that this would be the last time they met. Killian wondered if she had truly defeated her own men and escaped that abyss. He looked at Surprise and remarked that he had never imagined a descendant of the great demon could ascend so far, to the point of surpassing even Curdley. Sriel's replied that she had remained inside that abyss for far too long. Now she mastered the power of the 6th circle, using purely demonic energy. Rim could barely believe it. She was still trying to understand when Sriel's had jumped from the 4th to the 6th circle. Killian thought she had always impressed him, but now she had made his heart beat again. He wanted her right there. To him, Stirls was everything he had ever desired. But Starbs was not there to feed his ego. She asked how he dared to hurt her companions. Then she advanced using the Mist of Oblivion, marking a symbol on Killian's forehead. His vision went completely dark. He lost his sense of direction and became trapped inside his own mind, staring at his own soul. While trying to find a way out of that mental prison, he felt his body being twisted and struck. It was Rin, attacking with her daggers. Even without seeing, Killian's trained knight body blocked and dodged instinctively. Sriel's commented that he was not a captain for nothing. Then she cast the black water of corruption, a poisonous acid that fell over his armor, melting the metal and burning his skin. With his guard weakened, he was grabbed by Wood's roots, yet he still managed to block Rin's attacks. Then Sriel summoned the Thorns of Greed, restraining his other arm and leaving him completely vulnerable. Even so, Killian thought dealing with that magic was not impossible. The real problem was having lost his senses. He raised his sword to break the spell. Sriel's warned that they needed to finish him before he escaped. Kella understood that he might never have another chance like that. Even if he destroyed his own body, he would give everything he had. His next strike tore off the arm that held Killian's sword. He had aimed for the head, but the knight managed to dodge at the last instant. Killian realized he had lowered his guard because of Sriel's. The light still shining in his eyes shattered the spell that blinded him. His memories returned with force. He remembered the past, his father, alongside Kilman, leading the 2 of them to a cliff. He said it was a special day, the day they would meet the divine beast of light, Lumioron. Killian did not understand. It was not possible to simply meet a divine beast like that. He asked what they had done wrong. His father said they had done nothing. They were perfect. That was why they would serve as a sacrifice. The woman beside him claimed that Lumiaran only accepted pure souls, and that the children fit perfectly. The father looked especially at Killian, saying he had always been special, as if he had been born for that. He told them to look at the sacred altar, where they would have a glorious destiny before Lumiaran. Kilman asked if that meant they would die. Killian answered that he would not allow it. Not him, and not his brother. Later, cultists wearing white hoods gathered around the altar. Lumiaran's reflection appeared in the water. The great divine beast emerged. The mother told Kilman to run. He was frozen in fear. The father then ordered Killian to go first. Now in the present, the memory of that light made sense. Killian freed himself from Srul's demonic magic using luminous power. An explosion of light threw everyone backward. Even Srul's realized that that energy was nullifying her magic. They needed to restrain him again. Killian declared that Kella had taken everything from him. The Demon King killed his brother. He stole Srul's. Now he had even torn off his arm. He swore he would drag him to hell. Kella knew that man would never give up until he killed him, so he decided to finish him first. Even with one arm less, there was still a chance. He concentrated his demonic power and stated that it would be Killian who would go to hell. Trills noticed that Kella's demonic energy was greater than before. Maybe now it was possible. But at that moment, the rest of the White Talkimbronco appeared. Sinov said they needed to leave immediately. Kella, however, would not take his eyes off Killian. He had tunnel vision. All he wanted was to kill him. The two charged at each other. Srul's thought that maybe Kella still could not defeat him, so she used Predator of Darkness to protect all allies, including Kella. Everyone vanished in an instant teleport. Killian questioned what that had been. Predator of Darkness was a spell that only 6th Circle mages could use. Not even Curdley could understand how someone could reach the 6th Circle in such a short time. On the other side, Killian kept screaming Kella's name. Audrea noticed he was missing an arm. Kalka commented that they had taken advantage while they were separated. Killian promised that next time he would cause pain worse than death. Meanwhile, Kella felt his body being transported far away. Confused, he asked where the others were and where Killian was, but Star simply hugged him from behind and said everything was fine now. They were safe. Killian was no longer there. Kella asked if everyone had survived. Rin confirmed they had. Wood said that because of him and her, it was obvious everyone was alive. Hearing that, Kella dropped to his knees. He began to cry, saying it was an enormous relief to see everyone there. He thanked them several times for surviving. Sril smiled awkwardly and commented that it had been a relief to reach the 6th magical circle inside the abyss. If she had stopped at the 5th, maybe none of that would have worked. But she was interrupted when Kella hugged her tightly. He said he thought Curdley had killed her, that at some point he had to accept he might have lost her forever. Now he was happy, very happy that she was alive. Sarils replied that she would never die and leave him behind like that. She said she promised to protect him until the end. Even trying to keep her composure, she ended up blushing. After that, Kella deeply thanked Rin and Wood. He said that if they had not returned, he would have died. Rin replied that he was the one who had saved them before. Suramal's commented that it would have been better if they had managed to kill Killian, but tearing off his arm had already been impressive. There was still a chance. Kella agreed. It was a relief to survive. Inside, he reflected that everyone had done their utmost to protect him. Even so, he had abandoned Severals and left Rin and Wood behind at an earlier moment. He had acted like the old Kella, the coward, but he decided he would never do that again. From now on, he would become stronger than anyone, so he would be the one protecting the others. He then asked where exactly they were. Shribias explained that Predator of Darkness had teleported them all, but the destination was always random. Rin asked if that meant they could have ended up on the human continent. Shribias said no. Since it was a demonic spell, it only worked in places with demonic energy. Wood had another question. He wanted to know how she had reached the 6th circle so quickly. Searles said she would explain while they drank something, since she had been holding that urge for far too long. She also suggested they walk while talking, to check their surroundings. Meanwhile, on the other side, Curdley was treating the captain. He said the bleeding had stopped. Killian apologized for letting the situation reach that point. Dead, already recovering, commented that even without an arm he was still strong. Kalka told him to shut up. Dead complained that he had almost died as well, and deserved at least some consideration. Audrea asked how those demons dared to cut off the captain's arm. She said they were weak and disgusting. Killian explained that Cyril's had reached the 6th circle, and that he had lowered his guard near her. Deed commented that he never imagined she would humiliate him like that, but guaranteed she would have a painful death by his hands. Inside, however, Killian thought differently. Cyril's would be his, no matter the cost. Curdley warned that the condition of the arm was severe. They needed to return to Taloa and summon the 12 sacred healers immediately. Audrea wanted to chase the demons, but the priestess explained that there was no way to track any of them at the moment. If they delayed treatment, the arm could necrotize and not even a magical transplant would be possible. Even so, Audrea stated that she would go after them alone if necessary, even if she had to search the entire continent. Killian replied that with Cyril's current power, she would be putting herself in danger. For now, they would return to Taloa together. After that, they would resume the operation. He made it clear that as soon as the treatment was finished, they would hunt them down. None of them would escape again. In another place, the atmosphere was different. They were toasting to being alive. Suri to Connolly enjoy a beer. Kella commented that when he returned, he thought she had changed, but he was happy she was still the same as always. Rin asked her to explain how she had reached the the sixth circle. Dryles said that the grimoire found inside the box was not ordinary. It resonated with her blood and pushed her into the abyss. Inside, she met someone special, Feral, an eighth circle mage who had been the most powerful ally of the former Demon King Turk. They trained together for a long time. When they heard that, they were surprised. Rin asked if that meant the cave had been created by the former Demon King himself. Cyrils confirmed it. She said that perhaps fate had guided them there. Perhaps the demonic blood itself had led everything. Kella began to reflect. Maybe it had not been only his choice. Maybe it was the choice of the blood running through his veins, the will of Turk. He wondered if the presence he felt in the abyss, that voice in his subconscious, could have been Turk Khaldun himself. Reveals explained that in any case, time in the abyss flowed in a completely different way. While only a few days had passed in the real world, she spent 28 years training inside. Rein asked what she meant. 28 years. She said that was too much time. Shrills remembered that inside the abyss, the pain felt like her body was being torn apart repeatedly. Every second seemed eternal. There were moments when she would rather have died than continue enduring it, but Feral pushed her to the limit. She was the one who guided her to the sixth magical circle. Sometimes Tarls felt like hating her, because the training felt like pure torture, but Feral had reached the eighth circle. If reaching the sixth was already that kind of hell, then the pain Feral endured must have been even worse. Thinking about that, Tarls decided to endure it as well. Even so, she did not intend to share every detail of that suffering. She did not want her allies to worry. The pain of the abyss would be something she kept to herself. Run asked if while training for decades, she still thought about them. She said she knew nothing and had failed to protect her. Cyrils shifted the focus. She said they were all there, alive. She had returned as a sixth circle mage. That was what they should celebrate. Rin said she was the most incredible woman she had ever met in her life. Cyrils smiled, but behind that smile there was something she did not show. Kella then asked if she knew where they were. The place looked like a village focused on selling books. Cyrils observed more carefully and said they were probably on the outskirts of Karta, the secret city of darkness, located at the edge of the demon continent. Rin recognized the name. It was the place where all demonic knowledge was kept. Cyrils confirmed it. It was very far from the old castle. Humans still did not know about that place. Rin asked if they could rest there for a while. Her entire body ached, as if it might fall apart at any moment. Sudriels explained that it was the effect of the energy from Killian's blue sword. Not even her healing magic worked properly against that light. They would need to recover naturally. They truly needed a break. Kella remembered what happened to Calafrios, who was burned from the inside out by that same blue energy, so he decided they would stay there for a few days. Later, they were all sleeping in the same room. Some on the floor, others on the bed. Sariels, exhausted, simply collapsed. She started snoring and even drooling, completely out cold. Meanwhile, Rin analyzed her daggers. She thought that if those weapons had once been used by Turk's companions, perhaps they hid something special. In silence, she asked that if there was any hidden power within them, it should reveal itself. She knew it was a selfish thought, but she felt that Kella and Sriels were getting further and further ahead of her in terms of power. In another corner, Wood examined his shield. It had been heavily damaged in the fight. He hoped that by reinforcing it, he could make it more durable, so he would not fail again. Outside, Kella walked with Little Stone. He said everything was fine and that he could go out for a while now. He felt relieved for having learned how to use the magical inventory with Sriels. Even so, he knew he still did not perfectly master his abilities. He did not fully control his regenerative power. The Demon King magic that manifested in weapons was still unstable. The authority to command monsters was also not at the level it should be. If he had strengthened all of that earlier, maybe the fight against Killian would not have been so desperate. The biggest problem was that everything happened suddenly. He did not have time to react properly. Comparing it to the game, Kella realized he needed to level up and stop underestimating his own abilities. He understood that when he met Killian again, he should already have learned to fully control the powers inherited from the Demon King. In Karta, the city of knowledge, he believed he could find answers and perhaps a path to become stronger. Meanwhile, someone was watching him. In the castle of Taloa, the king's advisor received a troubling message. The White Talkin had returned severely wounded. Killian had lost one of his arms, and the reason was absurd. Sriels had become a sixth circle mage. That made no sense. She had always been merely a test subject, and should never have surpassed the fourth circle. However, a hooded man stated that it could be advantageous. The White Talkin had failed, and now it was their chance to act. Raiden questioned whether they had truly managed to track Kella. Even after he had escaped from the Talkin, he made it clear that if he was being deceived, he would kill the responsible person with his own hands. The answer came firmly. There was no need to worry. It would be easy, because they knew exactly where he was. Kella was in Karta, the secret city of the demons. In Karta itself, the demons were calm, drinking tea as if nothing was happening. Suriels asked what was making Kella so thoughtful. He reflected that if he could properly use the power of the Demon King, they would not need to keep running like that. Rin replied that he was already evolving at an impressive pace, and that he was much stronger than before. Wood, more cautious, asked them to speak more quietly. Even though it was a demon city, it was dangerous to reveal Kella's identity. At the next table, some were talking about the son of the Demon King. They said that Kella Khaldun was a weakling, and that he had probably already been captured by Talon's men and was dead. Sorrels grew irritated, and even Rin lost her patience, outraged at hearing that without reacting. Kella, however, asked for calm. He knew he needed to prove his worth in another way. He explained that he had only managed to injure Killian because he was not alone. He needed needed to grow even more. His goal was to build the greatest dungeon in the world, accumulate achievements, and gather strong allies. Only then would the demons change their opinion and perhaps recognize him as king. When they asked where they would begin, Kella mentioned the old city library. If there was a place where he could find something to strengthen him, it would be there. Later, standing before the library of Karta, Rin confirmed that this was the place. Security was intense, with several armed guards blocking the entrance. Wood analyzed the structure using his power and noticed something different. There was a secret passage underground, and possibly a special room at the back of the library. He also sensed an unusual energy at that point. When questioned, he explained that he might be absorbing something from the power of the stone, or that the energy there was simply too special to fully understand. The Thrills concluded that if there were so many guards, something important was being protected. Perhaps information about the Demon King. She asked Wood to find a discreet way for them to enter. They located a small side entrance that led to the building's sewers. The path was dirty and narrow, but usable. Suddenly they heard a noise. Thrills activated the Veil of Shadows and concealed everyone. Invisible and pressed against the wall, they advanced through the underground labyrinth, guided by Wood's senses. Soon they were inside stone corridors within the structure. Wood found the exit and commented that this route would be impossible for most invaders. However, ironically, he ended up stepping on a magical alarm. Guards appeared immediately. With no other option, they all hid inside a cramped cabinet. The situation became uncomfortable and embarrassing, especially for Kella, who turned completely red, surrounded by the girls. When they finally came out, he admitted they would need to be far more careful from that point on. Wood explained that there was a path at the end of that corridor that led directly to the secret room. They moved carefully, and upon reaching the end, found large double doors. It was clearly a hidden passage. Written on them was that knowledge was permitted only to the qualified. Thrills analyzed the magical structure of the door, and admitted that the seal there was too complex, even for her to fully understand. Not even as a sixth circle mage could she decipher that magic. The situation seemed like a dead end. That was when Kella reflected on the inscription. If only the qualified could enter, then he would try. He activated his demonic power and let the energy flow. The door reacted immediately to his blood. Because he carried the bloodline of the Demon King, the seal recognized his existence. The great doors opened. On the other side stood Sepia Sapientia, a library so grand it was almost absurd. Books stretched from floor to ceiling, arranged in endless rows. At the reception desk, a small dark elf woke up startled by the sound of the doors opening. She had been dozing over a book. Upon noticing their presence, she composed herself and formally received them. She said her name was Roland and that it had been 47 years, 5 months and 21 days since the last visit to that place. Despite her childlike appearance, Strills warned the group not to be deceived. That elf's mana was overwhelming and untouchable. She needed to be treated with respect. Roralyn, in turn, observed each of them carefully. She identified Strills as the demon who crossed the abyss of magic, and recognized Kella as a descendant of the Demon King. When she noticed Wood, she jumped excitedly to hug him, happy to see another dark elf of her race. She sensed in him an unusual draconic aura, something that deeply intrigued her. When questioned about why the place had been hidden for so long, Roralyn explained that true knowledge is not something just anyone can find. The mere fact that they had managed to reach that place already proved their worth. She would not allow fools, especially humans, to enter and profane that precious collection. According to her, humans burned, destroyed, and stole everything they touched, living in a constant cycle of devastation. Observing Kella, she stated that he was the successor of the Demon King and had come there to learn how to control his power. She explained that mastering the power of the Demon King was not simply about learning a technique, it meant dealing with an entire existence. Then she recited a spell from the Cosmic Archive, causing several specific books to fly into her hands. She revealed that the Demon King crystal was a legendary artifact, and the only way to fully control that power. Originally, the crystal was a single piece. However, during the Great Magical War, humans broke it into 3 fragments and scattered them across the world. This happened 3,274 years ago. Since they could not completely annihilate the power of the Demon King, the only solution they found was to fragment it and hide the pieces across the 3 continents, Lunia, Rudden, and Khaldun. Kella asked what that had to do with him. Roralyn explained that the crystal was the only vessel capable of containing the full power of the Demon King. His body could not withstand the total burden of that energy. That was why, whenever he used the power excessively, he suffered physical damage. He confirmed that it was true. She then clarified that if he gathered the 3 fragments, he would be able to use the power of a pure-blood Demon King like Turk Khaldun without destroying his own body in the process. That deeply impressed Kella. However, through telepathy, Roralyn revealed a crucial detail to him. He was not pure blood. Because of that, gathering the crystals was his only way to advance without self-destruction. The revelation shook him internally. Meanwhile, Rin asked where the fragments were. Roralyn answered that she knew only the location of the first. When she was young, she had personally met Turk Khaldun, who had also begun a journey to gather the crystals in the name of the demonic bloodline. At that time, her people were being massacred by humans, and it was Turk who saved them. Many called him the most cruel demon king in history, but that was only from the human perspective. She never had the chance to thank him before his death. Now, upon meeting his descendant, she felt happy to finally pass on that knowledge. She deeply thanked Kella Khaldun for having reached that place. As he listened to all of that, Kella realized that the image he had of Turk was very different from the story he had always heard. Roralyn Roralan then revealed where the first fragment of the crystal was. It was located in the northwest region of the continent of Lunia, in a place called Mortu Orum. The demons knew that location as the cemetery of the Demon King. It was where the souls of former demon kings resided. Turk Kaldhun himself had said that the first crystal was hidden in that territory. As for the other two fragments, she had no information. Even so, she explained that even a single piece would already make Kella's power grow immensely. When they questioned why the crystal would be hidden in the cemetery of the Demon King, something that would seem to make things easier for demons, Roralan clarified that it was exactly the opposite. The souls of the former kings had become wandering shadows bound to that place. Not just any demon could set foot there. In addition, the location was filled with traps installed by humans during the Great Magical War. Indignant Srulls commented about human spells in demonic land, as if it were a direct provocation to their race. Roralan then decided to offer a gift to help on their journey. She recited an ancestral dark elf spell and surrounded Kella's body with ancient protection. That magic was one of the secret treasures of her race. In addition to increasing his defense, it reduced the physical burden caused by using the power of the Demon King. He immediately felt the difference. His body seemed denser and more resistant, as if it could better endure the energy he carried. After that, she handed an ancestral magical tome to Srulls, a book close to the original arcane. For a sixth circle mage, it would be extremely valuable. Srulls could hardly believe it, since she had always heard those spells were merely legends. Roralan assured her that she would be able to understand the magic contained within, and that she should make good use of that knowledge. When Rin complained and asked if she would receive nothing, Roralan gave her a flower that had bloomed 1,000 years ago. It was a petal of Belmora. She simply said that one day Rin would understand what it did, and that for now it was enough to carry it with her. As for Wood, she said he already possessed the greatest gift of all. Within him existed the seed of Drakons, something that would awaken at the right time. Confused, he said he did not understand. Redlin replied that a good secret is not easily revealed. Time was the greatest weapon of the Dark Elves. It was enough to be patient. Before they said goodbye, she explained that Mortorum was 6 days north of Kartar. However, the entrance would not be simple. A crimson mist surrounded the entire territory, a magical barrier created in the era of the Great Magical War. It was said that the mist could read the mind. Hidden desires and fears would be exposed. If something went wrong, some of them might die, perhaps all at once. Even in the face of that warning, Rin stated that they had already overcome too many dangers to retreat. Now, they would not turn back. Roralan was pleased with that determination. She said the world was changing once again. When they asked if she would join the journey, she refused. She was already too old, and her duty was to protect Sepia Sapientia. Although Kella recognized how useful she would be by their side, he understood that this farewell was necessary. Before they left, she gave one final warning. In Mortuorum, they must not eat anything. Eating in the land of the dead was the same as provoking them. Rin confirmed that she understood. Back on the streets of Karta, the group talked about everything they had discovered. Rin thought it was incredible that they had met someone who had personally known Turk Kaldhun. It felt like they were becoming more and more connected to the former Demon King. Surreals commented that even the teleport that had brought them there might have been part of a greater plan. The next destination was decided: Mortuorum, the tomb of the Demon King. Despite the heavy atmosphere, Wood tried to reassure the group by saying that the dead did not cross into the realm of the living. Rin shot back that she already knew that, and that he did not need to act like he was the smartest one there. The main issue was something else. Before Killian found them again, they needed the Demon King crystal. They also needed to build a supreme dungeon, something impossible to conquer, that would solidify Kella's position. Meanwhile, in the capital of the human kingdom, the king asked whether it was true that the White Squadron had been defeated by Kella Kaldhun. Killian, even while injured, confirmed it and declared that he would take full responsibility for the failure. In the capital of the human kingdom, Killian told the king that as soon as his arm regenerated, he would resume tracking Kella. Next time, he would finish the job completely. The king replied coldly that he expected exactly that. If he failed again, the consequences would be obvious. Killian swore on his own life that he would not make another mistake. Later, he lay on a treatment table, while Curdley tried to make him reconsider. The forbidden art of summoning was unstable. Necromantic summons had less than a 40% success rate. Even so, Killian ordered them to proceed. He wanted Hoodwalk's arm transplanted. Curdley warned that this would also mean inheriting the creature's will. He asked whether Killian would be able to endure that influence. Killian answered that his mind was stronger than his body, and that he did not need further explanations. He ordered them to begin. The mages started the ritual, chanting spells and concentrating mana. The spirit of the great beast appeared before Killian. Its presence was oppressive. He thought that he would still kill Curdley with his own hands, and that he would also take Sorrels for himself. The beast roared in resistance. Killian, however, called out to Hoodwalk, and declared that he would take the arm for himself no matter the cost. A few days later, far from there, Kella's group camped in the forest. The next day they would reach the Crimson Mist. According to Roralan, it would still take another full day to reach Mortuorum. Srulls commented that the spells in the grimoire she had received were astonishing. If she were not in the sixth circle, she would not understand a single word. Rin felt something strange in her daggers, as if they were alive. Wood also sensed a similar reaction in his shield, almost as if the artifact were trying to communicate. They recognized that their encounter with Roralan had changed many things. However, Wood was the first to notice someone approaching. Cyrils confirmed it. There were 7 presences, and the mana was sacred. Rin ordered them to show themselves at once. The one who appeared was the king's advisor, Raiden. He looked at Kella and remarked that it was true after all. The heir of the Demon King looked pathetic. Sriels recognized him immediately. It was Raiden, the archmage of Tala. He called her a traitor to Tala, and said that having grown up in Tala, she should know that running away would not help. Sriels replied that she saw no need to flee. She summoned her staff and prepared to face him. Raiden admitted that she had reached the 6th circle, but stated that it did not matter how strong a single mage was. She could not face 6 high-class mages, all blessed by an enhancement crystal. Sriels questioned whether the Emperor had truly used something so precious on that mission. Raiden replied that if they surrendered like the little demons they were, he might grant them a painless death. The first attack came in the form of ice spears. Sriels reacted quickly and neutralized the strike, leaving Raiden visibly surprised. He then ordered all the mages to activate the Sanctuary of Judgment. 6 spells were cast simultaneously, transforming into spears of divine power that cut through the air. Sriels asked if they intended to settle everything in a single strike. In response, she raised the abyssal shield. The black barrier absorbed the impact of the sacred light. Raiden was incredulous. According to magical law, the light of the sanctuary should purify all darkness. Sriels had learned that technique from the grimoire of Horrelin. It was not ordinary darkness, but magic that drew directly from the essence of the abyss, something capable of confronting the sanctuary's light on equal terms. Using all the demonic power she possessed, and the mist of oblivion, she reconstructed the horns on her own head, forcing her energy to its limit. Several mages around them simply lost themselves. They lost their senses, their sight, and their consciousness, as if swallowed by an absolute void. The mysterious man was also affected, but Raiden had no time to help him. He responded by unleashing an even greater power, the so-called Celestial Abyss, an overwhelming presence that completely engulfed Seraig's. He then fired a beam of light to finish her, but Kella blocked the attack using the power of the Demon King. Seeing that, Raiden wondered how the one he once considered weak had grown so much. Determined to end it, he declared that he would handle the 2 most dangerous ones, and ordered the others to deal with the rest. Meanwhile, Rin had to dodge the celestial horns summoned by the other mages. She knew she could not evade forever, so she counterattacked by throwing one of her daggers. The blade flew out and returned as if it had a will of its own, decapitating one of the mages. Rin was surprised to realize that the daggers were responding to her call. They resonated once again with her power, and the vial she had received from Rarlin shone intensely. The petals inside it helped tune her energy to the weapons. Noticing that, Raiden wondered if that dagger was also a relic linked to Turk Kaldhun. At the same time, Wood was attacked, but he managed to block everything with his shield. He began to understand that the shield truly wanted to help him, so he decided to fully accept its power, including the whispers that came from it. Roots grew and took over his body, transforming him into a titan of branches and wood. In that state, he grabbed 2 mages and crushed them to death. He felt that this was the land of Draconis, and that he was finally beginning to understand his connection to it. Radolin had told Rin that she was counting on her, and Rin finished the job by decapitating the 2 mages trapped in Wood's hands. Seeing his subordinates defeated in an instant, Radin found it absurd. He realized he was not the only one who had grown stronger. Forcing his power even further, he managed to completely break free from the magic restraining him. That was the technique he had intended to use against Killian, and he decided to test the true power of the ruined Gladius. He unleashed a wave of cutting aura so intense that it seemed impossible to avoid. Faced with that, Raiden had no choice but to use divine teleportation to escape. Rin wondered where he had gone and how he had fled so quickly. Sriels explained that he had abandoned his own subordinates behind. She apologized for not having been able to stop him, but Rin replied that it was fine and assumed he had only wanted to test their strength. At least now they knew they were capable of facing the mages of Talawa. Rin acknowledged that her daggers had grown stronger thanks to Rorlin, and commented on how absurd Wood's transformation had been. He grew shy and thanked her. Soon after, an important question arose. How did Raiden know their location? They had traveled by letter, so Talawa should not have known. Trials revealed that she had captured a spy in hiding, and intended to question the source directly. The hooded woman who had passed information to the king's advisor was Keldera, Kella's sister, whom he believed to be dead. When Raiden teleported away, he was weakened. He realized that not only had Solrabes grown stronger, but Kella and the others could no longer be underestimated. If even with the enhancement stones he failed to kill them, the Emperor would take out his anger on him. In the end, he might have to ask Killian for help. At that moment, Killian was once again remembering that ritual, the instant when he and his brother were offered as sacrifices to the divine beast of light, Lumiaran. During the ritual, Lumiaran's cultists suffered an unexpected attack. Knights advanced to save the children. It was the Guild of Mages led by Raiden. Killian's father ordered them to get out of the way, but one of the mages questioned how he dared to offer his own sons as sacrifices. Killian's father was struck in the face by a fireball and killed, but until the very last second he continued staring at the divine beast. Someone picked Killian up and declared that the child should not be sacrificed. His mother, however, insisted that she needed to offer her own son to Lumiaran, calling him Child of Light and claiming that it was his destiny. In the middle of the chaos, when the boy cried for help, it was Raiden who took both brothers for himself. On that day, the king's advisor was the one who removed the boys from the ritual, and it was at that moment that the course of Killian's life changed completely. Later, at the Guild of Mages, Raiden declared that it was a territory he himself had built, and that from then on, it would be the children's new home. He felt satisfied simply for having saved them. He knew that Killian had received Lumiaron's light, but he did not understand what that truly meant. Over time, the boy displayed absurd talent with the sword. One of the instructors admitted that none of them were a match for that child, including himself. Even as a master swordsman raised within a guild of mages, Raiden could not understand how Killian could be so skilled. During a duel, the boy insisted on continuing the fight. His eyes shone and suddenly a pillar of light descended upon him. That was the beginning of something that completely defied Raiden's understanding. On several occasions, bursts of light erupted around Killian, injuring or even killing anyone nearby, and he could not control it. Concerned, Raiden asked how the boy's body was. Killian answered that he was fine, but questioned who would teach swordsmanship if everyone died so easily. Those were not the words of a child. His voice was far too cold. It was then that Raiden realized Killian was far beyond his control. Sometime later, in the royal palace, Raiden presented Killian and his brother to his majesty. He explained that Killian had received Lumiaron's light. The king was fascinated to learn that someone had managed to withstand the power of that divine beast. He ordered Raiden to take his guild to Talua and assigned Killian to the training division in Tokham. Raiden thanked him deeply. That was another turning point in his life, because thanks to Killian, his guild officially allied with Talua, and he moved closer to his dream of setting the world in order. Years later, in the Tokham training division, the commander declared that Killian had already learned everything they could teach him. The boy himself stated that from then on he would grow stronger on his own. Raiden watched him from a distance with pride, but also with fear, because he knew the day would come when no one would be able to control that power. As the years passed, Raiden was appointed Archmage of Talua. He believed he had reached the highest possible rank. However, Killian was named leader of the White Squadron of Talacham and became the most powerful person in Talua. The child Raiden had saved with his own hands now surpassed him. From that moment on, he had to struggle constantly just to avoid being left behind. As long as his position remained firm, he could still give orders to Killian, but he knew that the moment his authority wavered, he would be easily overthrown by him. Raiden understood that Killian had changed his life, but he decided that no matter the cost, he would rule over that boy. For him, that was the only way for Talua to survive. That was why he needed to capture Kella and accomplish what Killian had failed to do. Reclaim the position lost after the fall of Arsel. He needed the head of the descendant of the Demon King. Deep down, Raiden knew he could no longer allow himself to be pressured by Killian's power. If things continued like that, he would be destroyed by him. He had no other choice. All that remained was to make use of those he had always wished to keep far away. After his terrible defeat, Raiden used the Necrotarsica compass to locate someone he never imagined he would need to seek out. The Tarsicas were fanatics who hated both humans and demons, and isolated themselves from the world. Even so, he was willing to swallow his pride. After searching for a long time, he found a portal of Tarsica energy and used his own blood to activate it, proving he was serious. He introduced himself as Raiden, Archmage of Talua, and declared that he wished for an audience with their elder. Later, standing before their leader, he was received by Baletheon, the elder of the Tarsicas, who looked at him with clear contempt. Raiden said it was an honor to meet him, but Baletheon made it clear that he saw no honor in someone who belonged to a people that had always despised them. He then demanded to know what Raiden wanted. Raiden explained that he had come to propose cooperation. He was hunting Kella Kaldhan, the last heir of the great Demon King. Baletheon asked what the Tarsicas would gain from this. Raiden replied that he only wanted Kella's head. The rest of the body could be used in their experiments. The elder mocked him, calling Raiden Talua's dog, and suggesting it might be better to kill him right there and use his body as a test subject. To prove he was serious, Raiden offered luminous ether, an extremely rare material. He admitted that he had received it from the Emperor himself, but had never used it because of the side effects on humans. For the Tarsicas, however, it was a valuable research resource. Even so, Baletheon made it clear that the Tarsicas did not join anyone. They sought only the extremes of magic and experimentation. Raiden then argued that Kella was awakening the true power of the Demon King. If that process were completed, all of their experiments could lose meaning. In addition, he commanded a sixth circle mage and companions with unique abilities. It was the perfect opportunity to study that rare bloodline. Faced with this, Baletheon accepted a temporary alliance, but he made it clear that if there was betrayal, Raiden's soul would be used as test material. Even with the threat, Raiden considered it a success. He had managed to involve even the Tarsicas in this situation. Meanwhile, Sakril's questioned whether that was the knife Caldera used to locate Kella. Caldera confirmed that it was. Her mother's knife carried a spell that detected anyone who had been cut by it. Kella remembered that Cariste had attacked him with that blade in the past precisely so she could always track him. He confirmed that it was true and decided to take Cariste's knife. Caldera found it strange that he called her by name instead of mother. He used to cry while calling for her, so that behavior seemed different. Even so, Kella stated that without that weapon she would no longer be able to track them, and ordered her to leave before he killed her. Caldera tried to argue that she had endured all kinds of things to find him. Cyrils reminded her that she had brought Raiden to them. Caldera insisted that she simply could not locate Kella alone, and had therefore deceived Raiden, believing that afterward they would be able to kill him. She begged not to be abandoned, saying he was the only family she had left. Kella told her to let go of his hands and stop that performance. He made it clear that he did not believe her. Desperate, Caldera hugged Rin and asked for help, convincing him. But Rin drew her dagger and pressed it to Caldera's neck, saying that after everything they had suffered because of her, it would be better to kill her right there. Caldera reacted arrogantly, calling Rin a filthy servant, but she was quickly overpowered and thrown to the ground. Kella repeated that if she appeared before him again, he would kill her. Faced with that, Caldera fled quickly. After she left, Rin commented that she was still only a servant, but thanked Kella. He replied that she was no longer a servant. Trills asked whether it was really safe to let her go. Kella explained that everyone had heard that Caldera no longer had the power to kill them. In addition, the more descendants remained alive, the greater the chaos among humans would be. That could even attract Talawa's attention. What he did not know was that Caldera already had a plan. Before fleeing, she placed a mana spider on Rin's body, allowing everything Rin saw or heard to be transmitted to her. Caldera was certain they would regret it. At the same time, Baltheon summoned one of his teams and informed Raiden that Crutuentos would accompany him. Raiden was impressed by their presence. The magic they emitted was unlike anything he had ever seen. Even with his advanced perception, he could not measure the level of those individuals. It was evident that they easily surpassed the sixth circle. While Telua was occupied with its own conflicts, far more dangerous forces were beginning to move in the shadows. Facing the bloodline of the great demon king, the Tarsika's research had advanced far beyond what any kingdom imagined. Baltheon decided it was time to act, and ordered Crutuentos to lead the subordinates alongside Raiden to find Kella. Seraphine confirmed that she would personally participate in the mission, and declared that she would bring the heir of the great demon king back. One of the members commented with excitement that they would finally go into the field. Luna remained silent, showing no reaction. Raiden, observing that group, thought that perhaps now it would truly be possible to capture the boy. He knew that Kella was heading toward Mortuorum, and swore that this time he would not let him escape. Meanwhile, Kella's group approached the zone of the bloody mist. Wood noticed that even the shield Gardas was trembling, something that had never happened before. Rin tried to remain calm, and reminded them that they had already faced worse enemies, including the White Squad and Raiden himself. She joked about Gardas being the name of Wood's shield, and commented that she would also give names to her daggers. Kella in turn reflected on his own weapon. He imagined that it might also have a dormant power, just like Wood's shield. Rauralin's blessing was quickly stabilizing the Demon King's mana within him, but it was still not enough to guarantee complete safety. Kella told the group that they had already advanced too far to give up. He decided they would rest at the camp and cross the mist the following morning. At the same time, at the Talkin base, Curdley was finishing Killian's treatment, who now possessed Woodwalk's arm. She warned that if the creature tried to invade his mind, he should inform her immediately. Killian stated that no one would be able to dominate him. At that moment, a guard arrived bringing urgent news. Archmage Raiden had led an elite force equipped with artifacts to attack Kella, but only 2 wounded mages returned alive. Raiden's current location was unknown. Killian realized that he had underestimated the situation. If even Raiden had been defeated, Kella's growth was alarming. Curdley commented that Kella Kalden was evolving rapidly and was still working alongside the 6th Circle mage Cyrils. Killian ordered the squad to be mobilized immediately. They were to begin searching the last place where Raiden had been seen, entering the mist. Before crossing the bloody mist, Cyrils remembered that there was a page in the grimoire describing that phenomenon. The mist read the mind of anyone who entered and tested whether they all shared the same objective. Rin understood that this meant everyone needed to have the same intention. Wood stated that since they were after the Demon King's crystal, there should be no problem. Kella, however, reflected that each of them might have different motives. He wanted to control the power of the great Demon King, while Cyrils sought higher magic. Cyrils replied that deep down they all had the same reason. They were there to protect themselves and survive. Rin reinforced that she would protect Kella, and Wood declared the same. Kella asked them all to keep that firmly in their hearts. As they entered the mist, Kella found himself alone inside his own consciousness. He was certain the group had entered together, but he could only hear strange noises around him. Suddenly, a vision of his future self appeared before him as the Demon King. However, in that image, he was alone. All of his allies were dead. He questioned whether that was truly what he desired, whether he wanted to become the great Demon King above all else. A presence in his mind promised to grant absolute power and create the perfect world he had always wanted, including hidden desires he did not even know he had. The entity showed that it even knew about his previous life and the ideal world he had once imagined. For a moment, Kella almost accepted, but then he realized that vision was not the true future he desired. His companions were not there. Without them, nothing made sense. He declared that it was an illusion, and that he would not betray his own feelings. The presence tried to convince him that he was deceiving his own heart, and attempted to drag him into that world where he would reign alone as Demon King. The mist pulled at him, and he nearly lost control. At the same time, Cyrils had her own vision. She saw a future where her brother destroyed Talawa and became Demon King, while she achieved the title of Archmage and reached the pinnacle of magic. The entity promised to guide her to that glorious destiny. Cyrils hesitated, imagining whether such a thing was truly possible. Rin also faced her illusion. She saw a future at Kella's side, not only as a companion, but as his lover and wife, living exclusively beside him forever. The entity promised that it could fulfill that desire. Yet deep down, Rin knew she had fallen in love with Kella from the very first moment she saw him. When he tried to accept her as a friend, even though she was only a servant, there she was, still being treated by Kella as a friend and companion, just as always. She still loved him and still wanted to remain at his side. But it was not only for him, it was for all of them. She decided that she would not lose to such a temptation, not after everything she had already endured. At that moment, the petals Rauralin had given her began to react. A new presence appeared before her. It was a firm and serene woman, who introduced herself as the protector of the daggers of those who possessed enough mental strength to resist the temptations of spiritual entities. At the the same time, the petals of Belmora began to shine intensely, as if confirming that Rin was qualified. Confused, Rin asked qualified for what. The woman then introduced herself as Clarine, the swordswoman who had trained alongside Turk Kaldhun, and said it was a pleasure to meet the future heir of her techniques. That meant Rin had earned the right to summon her. Clarine explained that she would remain at her side from then on, starting by cleansing the scent of blood that saturated that cursed mist. She told Rin to take up her daggers. Rin did not even need to name them. They already had names of their own, Dove and Raven. With Clarine's guidance, she remembered that she was not alone and advanced into the fog, cutting through the spiritual temptations that tried to dominate her. Her blades pierced the hidden entity within, destroying the source of the illusion and freeing everyone else. Afterward, Rin explained that she had encountered one of Turk's former companions, a swordswoman with noble and powerful energy. She felt that presence had been both gentle and firm at the same time, like someone who pushes you forward when it is time to stop crying. Surreals commented that it was incredible, because not even she had managed to resist the entity. She admitted that she also felt something different beginning to awaken within her. Wood confirmed that he had felt a change as well, as if a barrier suppressing him had been broken. When Rin asked what his temptation had been, he explained that he simply walked through the fog and it disappeared. That made everyone uneasy. Rin even wondered whether deep down he had no desire at all, or whether he secretly wished to become the strongest even if he stood alone. Surreals reflected on herself as well. Even after reaching the 6th magic circle, she had not been able to resist the entity. Perhaps her desires had surfaced without her noticing. Having overcome the fog, the group proceeded toward Mortuorum. The entrance was a massive skull with its open mouth forming the lower gate. The place truly resembled an ancient and forgotten cemetery. Wood remarked that the place exuded the very essence of time. Meanwhile, Source read the inscriptions at the entrance and translated them. The living are not permitted. Only those with the blood of the Demon King may pass. Reen realized that this meant perhaps none of them could enter. Then Kelakaldhun stepped forward and released his power. The guardian spirit of the gate manifested and demanded to know who dared enter the realm of the dead. Kella introduced himself as the son of the great Demon King, Hel Kuldhun. The spirit acknowledged that the blood of the great king flowed through his veins, but declared that he was not pure-blooded. For attempting to enter with a mixed lineage, he would be punished with death. Faced with that, Kella did not retreat. If that was the test, he would prove he was a worthy heir and demanded that the gate be opened. The spirit then sensed something strange. Although Kella claimed to be the son of Hel, he also carried the mana of Turk Kaldhun. That caused confusion, but in the end, the spirit chose not to block his entry. The gates opened. Surreals commented that the spirit seemed to have confused Kella with the former Demon King. Rin saw it as a sign that he could become even more powerful. Kella meanwhile grew increasingly certain that the man he had met in the abyss was truly Turk Kaldhun. Just as Surreals and Rin had connected with former companions through their weapons, he too had connected with the former Demon King. Without wasting time, they all entered Mortuorum. Kella warned them to remain alert, because they had no idea what dangers awaited inside. They soon found themselves in a vast cemetery. Spirits began rising from their graves and tombstones, disturbed by the presence of the living, and advanced to attack them. Everyone drew their weapons. The spirits demanded to know how they dared disturb their eternal rest. Kella explained that they did not intend to trouble them, and were only there to search for the Demon King's crystal. Upon hearing that, one of the spirits reacted with disdain. The crystal was a sacred relic that could only be used by someone truly worthy, and he declared that he did not sense that worth in Kella. The first blow struck Kella directly, but he endured it by reinforcing himself with his own mana. As he resisted, he realized that these spirits were different from the guardian at the entrance. They did not mistake him for Turk, and showed no hesitation whatsoever. Srills counterattacked using the Spear of the Abyss, but the spirit she struck did not suffer even a scratch. Rin apologized to the ancient spirits as she advanced, and Wood took the front line with his shield raised. At one point, Kella managed to pass through one of the spirits, cutting its spectral body in half. Even so, it replied that those who are bound to a core cannot be cut in that manner. Moments later, all of them regenerated completely. The spirit facing Kella struck him in the chest with sharp claws. He tried to respond, asking himself whether not even a sword fused with mana could cut them. To make matters worse, his own wounds were not regenerating. The spirit mocked him, saying that with such a fragile body, he dared to covet the Demon King's crystal, and that he should abandon his futile hopes and die already. Another attack carved a large cross-shaped gash into Kella's chest. His body was torn apart and covered in blood. He realized that his attacks were useless, and that his recovery was failing as well. At the same time, another spirit taunted Cyrils, asking whether she was prepared to die. She noticed that not even her sixth circle spells had any effect. Perhaps it was because those souls shared the same magical element. A spirit also declared to Rin that her cuts were meaningless. When she looked to the side, she saw Wood being seized by one of the spirits. His soul was being devoured by the spirit of a former Demon King. At that very instant, Kella was pierced by a spectral spear. The spirit ordered him to acknowledge his futility and die. Even on the verge of death, Kella told Wood to hold on just a little longer, promising to save him. The two of them were close to dying. Once again, Kella was dragged into his own consciousness, into that inner abyss. He thought that he wanted so badly to protect his companions, yet even in this life he was still useless. Then Turk Kaldhun appeared and slapped him on the head, calling him an idiot. He said he would not allow him to die like that. Kella finally understood and asked if he truly was Turk, the former Demon King. The spirit confirmed it and revealed his true appearance. He explained that he could not freely speak about certain matters, nor even mention his own name before. When Kella asked if there was some spell binding him, Turk deflected and pointed out something else. He had already received training and even Roralin's blessing, so why was he not using release? Confused, Kella asked what he meant, and received another punch to the head. Turk explained that he needed to discover it on his own, but given his insistence he would clarify. Release is the ability to awaken the true power hidden at the depths of the soul, and that hidden power belonged to Turk. Kaldhun. Kella asked if he could use his power. Turk confirmed. He was removing the seals placed on Kella's body one by one. The first seal was broken when he received the demonic energy of Hell Kaldhun. The second seal opened after he encountered Roralin's blessing. Now he could temporarily use release mode. Two seals still remained. Turk did not know exactly what the conditions were to break them, but he assured him that he would succeed. When the final two seals were shattered, Kella's body would be completely liberated and would merge with Turk's power, making him the strongest in the world. That made Kella question whether he could truly become the strongest of all. Turk replied that if he wished to change the world, he needed to reach that level. When Kella asked why he was being helped, remembering that he came from another world, Turk answered that it did not matter. He wanted to break free from that eternal cycle, and he could only do so if Kella fully released his body and wielded all of his power. Even without knowing how much he could trust those words, Kella had no choice. He asked Turk to teach him how to use release. In response, Turk used his own power within Kella's body, causing intense pain. He ordered him to connect their consciousness and focus on the sensation he was feeling, because that was how he would awaken the true power hidden within himself. If he succeeded, he could use 20% of Turk Kaldhun's power. Kella thought it was too little and complained internally, but Turk called him arrogant. 20% of his power was enough to destroy the entire world. The pain Kella was feeling was precisely because his body could not even withstand those 20%. Even so, Kella insisted that his blows were not reaching the souls of the former demon kings. Turk explained that living entities cannot attack souls. However, at that moment, Kella was not acting as a purely living being. He needed to raise his head before he died right there. When he returned to consciousness, spitting blood, Kella grabbed a spectral blade. The spirit mocked him, asking if he was still resisting. Kella replied that it was not over yet. He drew his sword and activated release. With release activated, his body became far faster, stronger, and heavier in presence. He sliced through the spirit's arm, neck, and torso in sequence, slipping past the blow that would have pierced him. The other spirits could not understand how that was possible, but now he was using Turk's mana through release. He advanced and destroyed the spirit, attacking Strills. Then he eliminated the one pressuring Rin. He felt that this was the true supreme strike, the real power of release. Finally, he decapitated the last spirit that was draining Wood's soul. He realized that although his body might still be considered alive, the power he was using was not limited by that condition. By channeling Turk's mana, he was able to cut down the vengeful spirits. Strills was stunned by the absurd amount of mana he had unleashed. Rin thanked him, saying the novice had almost died. Wood asked what had happened, since Kella's regeneration had returned and was even faster than before. When they asked what that was, Kella decided that for now he would not say anything about Turk until he was certain he could trust him. He would keep it secret. He only said that just as Roralin's blessing had strengthened the others, he had also awakened something new. Even so, Strills noticed that he was hiding something. Rin asked whether all the spirits had been defeated. Kella replied that it seemed so, but they still needed to find the crystal. That was when they heard the meow of a kitten. When they turned, they saw that it was no ordinary cat. It was a massive cat with horns, demonic wings, and two tails. The creature greeted the travelers from the outside world and introduced itself as the old resident of that place. Ryan asked if he was also a vengeful spirit. The cat replied that no, he was merely a guardian. She doubted that because nothing about him seemed ordinary. He explained that he had grown that way after absorbing mana for centuries. He used to be much smaller. Noticing that the group was exhausted and wounded, the cat offered them a more comfortable place to rest. Trills commented that the obese cat was suspicious. He replied that he could hear everything inside that place, which made things awkward. Rin, however, found him cute and did not believe he was evil. The cat said he had prepared a delicious meal and asked them to follow him. Since they did not have many options, they accompanied the creature to a large house hidden within the cemetery, accessed through a passage in the cave. The interior was surprising, a detailed, delicate, and beautifully decorated magical space. Kella realized it seemed like an environment created with high-level magic. The cat said he had spent more than 500 years decorating the house, and that in feline years he was still in the prime of life. He invited them to sit and eat. There was real food on the table. Rin thought everything looked delicious just by looking at it. The cat presented moon pudding, made with the essence of the moon, and colorful noodles he called noodles of happiness. Before anyone ate, they remembered Roralin's warning. For a living being to eat food from the realm of the dead means to deceive oneself and become bound to the souls that have already passed on. Rin had almost forgotten that. Strills also realized the danger. The cat praised the wisdom of the young king. He seemed satisfied. Then he revealed that it had only been the final test. It might seem simple, but it was the hardest test of all. The living almost never resisted hunger in that place, and ended up eating more Tuorum's food. Kella asked what would have happened if they had eaten. The large cat answered casually that he would have been full. It was that simple. Even so, Kella had proven himself worthy. He crossed the mist, defeated the spirits, and overcame the final temptation. Because of that, yes, he would receive the first fragment fragment of the Demon King. The crystal he had searched for so long was finally before him. At first glance it seemed too easy, but it was not. If it were not for Roralin's help, and especially Turk Khaldun, he would never have come this far. Without his companions he would not have even made it past the mist. None of it had been simple. Rayos could feel the immense power emanating from the crystal. Rin thought the fragment was beautiful. Wood commented that he had never felt energy like that before. Even so, someone raised a question. If they were the ancient demon kings, why would they hand something so valuable to the next generation without resentment? The big cat told them not to worry about that. In truth, Kella had done the spirits a great favor. They had longed for death for a very long time. Being trapped there for centuries was agonizing. When the living enter Mortuorum, the spirits attack in fury, begging for their own destruction. However, only one spirit can fight a living person at a time. Because of that, many remained trapped without rest. Now with their defeat, they had finally received peace. That made Kella wonder if that was what Turk meant by eternal rest. Did he also wish to disappear one day? The thought lingered in his mind. Meanwhile, Rin asked the cat if he had stayed there alone all that time, protecting the crystal. He confirmed it. 500 years had passed, and he was still there. The big cat revealed that his name was Arkan. He remembered the conversation he had centuries ago with Sylvandra. She asked whether he would leave that harmless little kitten alone there. He complained about his size, but even being enormous, he was still considered small. Sylvandra said he was the only one capable of protecting the crystal. Only he could fulfill that role. Arkan asked if he was being abandoned for being troublesome. Sylvandra hugged him and said no. It was hard for her as well to leave him there. He felt her sadness flowing through him. She was even sadder than he was. Even though he wanted to stay by her side, Arkan decided to accept it. With Sylvandra's help, he had survived death many times. She had taken care of him his entire life. He did not want to be separated, but for her he would do anything. He promised to protect the crystal properly. She said that one day she would return. He believed that the loneliness was unimaginable. During those 500 years, some humans and demons appeared. Most humans were greedy and failed the trials. Some demons were decent, but none had the capacity to endure the power of the crystal. When they mentioned Turk Khaldun, Arkan said he knew the name. Among the demon kings, the souls said that Turk was one of the most powerful, and now, in a way, he was inside Kella. Then Arkan asked Kella to press the crystal against the back of his hand. The fragment would merge with him. It was the first time he had truly given the crystal to someone, so even he did not know exactly what would happen. As soon as the crystal touched his skin, intense heat ran through Kella's body. The fusion was painful, as if something were being carved directly into his flesh and soul. A voice told him to hold firm. That voice belonged to the original owner of the crystal, the ancestor of the great demon kings. Within his consciousness, Turk Khaldun recognized the presence. He said it seemed to be the old man, the supreme ancestor. Although almost nothing of the original soul remained, the power was still there. The crystal that had been born from him returned to the world once more. Even as a soul inhabiting another body, that existence was still enough to ensure that the ancient power of the demon king would pulse again. He would use the crystal he had left behind, the same one he had desperately sought while still alive. It was the missing piece needed to restore what had once been lost. While Kella hesitated, Turk insisted that he stop doubting and accept the power. Demonic energy began to gather around him, dense and crushing. Sevens felt that mana, and realized it was not only his father's energy, it was something greater, deeper, and more ancient. Wood felt it as well, and recognized that it could only be the true power of a demon king. The pressure was absolute, heavy as if the air itself had grown denser. He realized that his mana had finally surpassed Galdan's. If Turk was right, and if he trained his body properly, he could become even stronger. After all, he had obtained the crystal that even Turk had failed to reach. That suggested that perhaps his potential was greater than anyone else's. Sir Ricards confirmed that the mana was unbelievable, and even more impressive was the fact that his body could withstand it. Wood felt in that energy the dignity of a true king. Arkan explained that if he had not possessed the necessary qualifications to be a demon king, his body would have exploded the moment he absorbed the crystal. Rin stated that as expected, he would become the next king. Arkan agreed, but made it clear that whether he would be a strong or weak king depended solely on him. After that, he thanked them for everything. He said his omission had finally come to an end, and that after waiting so long he would escape that endless cycle. When they asked what he would do now, he answered that he would fall into a deep sleep. Since he had been awake for 500 years, he lay down on his small bed and closed his eyes. There was concern that it might be an eternal sleep, but Arkan assured them there was no need for fear. He would wait for his mistress until the day Sylvandra returned to meet him. They wondered what kind of being could possibly be the mistress of that mysterious cat. Before falling asleep, they asked at least for his name. He remembered the moment Sylvandra named him Arkan. He said he loved that name because he finally had an identity of his own. Arkan declared that the greatest gift he had ever received in his life was that name, something he would carry until the end. He wished the young king to stand firm, and for a dazzling light to illuminate his path. Then he was petrified in his eternal sleep. He thanked him for everything. Wood commented that when he felt Arkan's presence for the last time, he sensed two things at once, a warm happiness and a deep loneliness. Rin wished Arkan to sleep well. After that, they realized they needed to leave immediately. They asked Wood if there was any suitable area nearby to build a dungeon. However, Rin complained that she was starving. Cyrils agreed and suggested they head to the nearest city because she wanted real food. Wood explained that it might not be exactly a city, but to the northeast he felt mana spread across an area the size of a village. They decided to teleport there at once. Later, already in Venecia, Sylvandra pointed out the way, and they chose to continue on foot from there, since they did not know what might happen. Meanwhile, in the city, demons were being whipped in the public square. A couple and their son begged for mercy, but the mage in charge ordered the demon woman to be silent. He observed that their son looked healthy, and when they took the child, the father tried to resist. He was struck by magic and died right there. The mage remarked with contempt that those demons were showing too many emotions. Rin was outraged at the sight. Srills explained that the Celestial Guild had already occupied even that region. When Kella saw the boy crying, he remembered her own childhood, when he was beaten by her own father. Even so, he recognized that this hell was worse than anything he had ever endured. There, children were treated as objects. In one of the branches of the Celestial Guild, a mage observed a demon child and praised the purity of the mana in the child's blood. He explained that if he refined and absorbed all that energy using forbidden magic, he could become a god in that world. The one responsible for that plan was the vice captain of the Celestial Guild, Dronzer. One of the mages warned that to obtain enough demonic mana, they would need dozens of young demons in addition to those they already had. Dronzer replied that it did not matter whether it was 100 or 1,000. He asked if they were feeling guilty about killing demons and ordered them to capture everyone they found, adults, children, and even fetuses. At that moment, Kella approached one of the mages. They immediately recognized him as Kella the Coward and believed they would finally capture him. However, he answered that they had beaten a child and asked if they were prepared for the consequences. He said that an adult must take responsibility for what they do. Without hesitation, he struck the first one with a punch so strong that it knocked out several of his teeth. It was not a bluff. He truly intended to crush everyone there. He advanced against the mages and smashed each of their faces one by one. He declared that for trash like them, he did not even need to use a sword. Even fallen and spitting blood, the mages still asked about the rumors. Was he not supposed to be a coward? Kalat did not answer with words. He chased those who were still standing and began to rain down punch after punch. He asked if those worms still had not understood who he was. Every blow was heavy, direct, without hesitation. Suddenly, a messenger appeared before the vice captain and reported that Kella Khaldun had appeared at the north gate. The target might be the research laboratory, but the mage was not certain. What they did know was that guild members who had been capturing test subjects had been completely obliterated. Upon hearing this, Dronzer smiled. To him, that was a blessing. The perfect test subject had come straight into his hands. Meanwhile, Srills commented that he really had lost his patience. Kella remembered that even back when he fled the castle, those bastards had attacked him. Now they were experimenting on people. That guild was rotten. It was unbelievable that a group like that was called the greatest guild in the human kingdom. He decided he would use this opportunity to rip out all the rotten roots at once. When he finally stood face to face with Dronzer, the vice captain asked if he had come on his own. He called it generosity. They questioned who he thought he was to act like that. One of the mages shouted that he was standing before the vice captain of the Celestial Guild, a man feared by all. Rin recognized the name immediately. Since the generation of Turk Khaldun, Dronzer had been known as a lunatic, obsessed with experiments to become stronger, and he had not aged even a little. Kella asked why he was kidnapping children. Dronzer shamelessly explained that he had already gathered the unique mana of various races. Now if he obtained enough demonic blood, he would achieve true eternal life. He commented that the child who had donated blood was adorable, crying and begging for her mother. He said he would continue gathering more blood from children and absorbing everything until he became a god. That speech was enough. Kella advanced and threw a punch straight into Dronzer's mouth, smashing his face against the stone wall. Another mage who tried to interfere was also taken down with a brutal blow. Kella warned that Dronzer would not die quickly. He deserved to suffer. Only then would the children have their revenge. The demons watched in silence as Dronzer asked what kind of power that was. He did not finish the sentence. He took another punch, and another, and another. He began to wonder how Kella had absorbed so much mana. Not even the mana of the former Demon King seemed comparable now. He was simply destroyed by sheer force. Wood commented that it did not look like they would need to worry about anything else there. Rin observed that the vice captain of the Celestial Guild, the one who made demons tremble in fear, looked pathetic before Kella, still alive and choking on his own blood. Dronzer heard from Kella that he would now go to hell. He was left there, agonizing. The mother of the kidnapped child said that he had finally been punished and thanked him with tears in her eyes. Other demons began to declare that Lord Kella, descendant of the great Demon King, had come to save them. They all started to hail him. One of the children ran to him and hugged him as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The mother tried to scold the child, but Kella picked her up and assured her that everything was fine now. No one would need to be afraid anymore. The demons began to believe that perhaps the heavens had not abandoned their people. Srills commented that she could finally drink in peace. Rin said they should celebrate, and Srills made it clear it would be with alcohol. Meanwhile, in the distance, the Tarsika team observed everything. Seraphine commented that this Kella was interesting, since he possessed a unique mana. She asked whether Cruentus would be able to handle him. She informed Kale that they would begin the operation soon. Later, already in the village, Rin and Srills were completely drunk. Even Wood had overdone it, despite claiming he would never get drunk because he was protected by nature. Kella remained sober. Some children approached curiously and asked if he really was the great Demon King. They wanted to touch his horns. He thought those children were far too pure to have gone through so much suffering. An elder approached and asked what they would do now. Dronzer was dead, but if the guild discovered it, they would surely return with even greater force. worse. Kella acknowledged that he was right. If he left those people there, something even worse could happen. A woman suggested fleeing to another region, but it was clear that the children would not endure a long escape. Kella declared that there was a better way. He called everyone to gather closer. He said that from that moment on, they would build a new dungeon, the most powerful of all, a place where no human would dare set foot. Someone questioned whether that was really possible. He stated that he would make it happen. He would not allow those children to be terrorized again. They asked if he would truly protect them. Kella confirmed that he would. It was a promise from the Demon King. As long as he was alive, no one would touch them. An elder asked if he would really take everyone in. Kella replied that it would not be easy. Once the dungeon was built, everyone would have to help. There would be no comfortable life and no free protection. Each person would have to work to raise that new home. Even so, no one complained. After everything they had endured, they were more than willing to help. They were told to prepare before departure. They would create a new dungeon. Sorrels commented that now that they were stronger, leading so many people should be manageable. They would need a lot of labor, but it would be mutual. Rins observed that if it worked, they might end up becoming the hope of the demons. Kella thought he was not seeking anything so grand. He only wanted to protect those children and his friends. The night went on with laughter and drinks. Wood insisted he was not drunk and that he would keep an eye on the two of them. They told him to go rest as well. One of the women from the village approached and said they had prepared lodging for the group. Kella accepted, saying he wanted to rest a little, and asked them to show the way. Later, already lying down, he thought that he hoped that peaceful time would continue. If he could build the dungeon, perhaps they could live like that for the rest of their lives. But that same night, while many were drunk and passed out on the street, the Tarsica team moved in the shadows. Seraphine asked if everyone was under control. Kale confirmed that they were. Rin and Shrells had passed out from drinking and would not wake for at least 2 days. Luna assured them that even Wood had been put to sleep. Seraphine said that now they only needed to deal with him. Once they killed him, they would capture the others for experiments. When they entered the room, Kella appeared to be sleeping. Seraphine prepared her black magic to cut him down, stating that his body would be the perfect test subject. But the moment he was struck in the chest, she realized it was only an illusion. Sreels appeared and revealed that she had been prepared from the beginning. As soon as they arrived in the village, she sensed suspicious demonic energy. During the celebration, she set up illusions as a precaution. Seraphine admitted that her illusion magic was refined, but said that was only one of several possibilities she had calculated. The outcome would still be the same. Kale stated that he preferred a direct fight over a stealthy assassination. Srills realized that those three were different. Their mana had something strange, an unusual sensation. She admitted she had not imagined the Tarsica would be so powerful, and asked why they were interested in Kella. Seraphine replied that she had no obligation to explain anything. To them, everyone there was already nothing more than test subjects. Srills decided to act first. She used the fourth room of the abyss, completely transforming the environment and isolating the space so that other demons would not be affected. She explained that she was not doing it out of fear, but because she hated when children were harmed. Kale found it amusing, saying it looked like an arena. The three Tarsica proved to be extremely coordinated. Sreels vanished into the shadows to better analyze their strength. Seraphine declared that it did not matter how much she hid her mana. With blood magic, she tracked the demonic scent and launched spears of black magic. Sreels dodged, but soon Kale advanced with poison claws. When she was struck, she realized the poison blocked her demonic regeneration and also caused hallucinations. She tried to use dark purification, but Luna interrupted her. It became clear they fought with strategy. First they weakened the mind with poison, then attacked with magic. It was a dirty and efficient combination. To buy time, Sreels created the Division of the Abyss, generating several clones identical to herself. Kale could not distinguish which one was real. Seraphine noticed that the clones replicated even the scent of blood, and ordered Luna to find the original. However, they all emitted the same mental flow. They were not simple illusions, but real avatars created by the Abyss. Seraphine decided to eliminate them all. She opened blood rifts and destroyed the clones one by one. Sreels realized that the mage was stronger than she had expected. Kale attacked again with venomous webs. At that moment, Sreels concluded that she had gathered enough information. She dispelled her spells and summoned her allies to the battlefield. Seraphine realized she had been stalling to gather everyone together. When she felt the overwhelming mana concentrating, she declared that now that the targets were assembled, there was no longer any need to capture them alive. Seraphine ordered Cruentus to collect all the corpses. It was clear that Cruentus was an elite force. Even among the Tarsica, their assault intensified immediately. The pursuit had just risen to another level. Kella said he would handle the glasses-wearing mage, and warned that they were dangerous, and no one should lower their guard. Cyril stated that she would deal with the delicate-looking mage. Rin declared that she would take the boy. She thought she needed to finish quickly in order to help the others. When Kella advanced, Seraphine protected herself, using hematic power. She asked if close combat was his specialty, since his mana seemed superior to hers. She then invoked Rubius Maledictum, blood serpents that wrapped around and bit Kella all over his body. He cut the creatures down, but they regenerated quickly and constantly changed form. Seraphine explained that with his mana it would be natural to resist most spells, but hematic magic was something new to him. The serpents kept attacking while she analyzed the situation and adjusted her incantations in real time. Meanwhile, Sreels launched abyssal spears, but Luna blocked everything with a barrier of light fueled by a strange staff. The energy of that artifact was powerful and unknown. Luna then invoked Draconis Memoria, a massive dragon of light. Sreels managed to protect herself, but the impact was brutal. She realized the staff carried draconic energy. The dragon bit down hard and shattered her barrier. That had not been in her calculations. On the other side, Kale advanced against Ren. He warned that a single strike would be game over. Ren exchanged attacks with her daggers, but Kale coated his own body with venom and told her to put more strength into it. The next punch sent her flying. Wood noticed that Ren had blocked with her body to prevent the daggers from melting from the poison. She was already feeling the pain spreading. Kale said that was only the beginning and unleashed a rain of acid. Wood raised a tree trunk to shield her, but warned that the guard was melting and would not hold much longer. Ren realized he was extremely fast and that the toxin was dangerous. Cal found it all amusing and said it would be boring if they died too quickly. When he advanced again with his claws, Kala broke free from Seraphine blood using a burst of mana. She recognized the technique and commented that it was powerful, but consumed a great amount of energy. He would not be able to use it many times. She would keep the same plan. Kella understood that mana bursts would not be efficient. He needed to neutralize at least one of her grimoires. With his current mana, he would not last more than 3 minutes. Even so, he activated Turk Release and advanced at extreme speed. Seraphine created a blood cage around him. She explained that it was a magical prison that combined physical strength and mana, made from the caster's own blood. The greater the risk, the stronger the spell. Spikes emerged inside the cage to tear him apart. Little by little, she commented that even with regenerative abilities, he would be shredded until he could no longer heal. Meanwhile, Kale pressured Wood defense, eager to see them melt. Rince realized she could barely avoid the venom and would not last much longer. Wood's shield was about to give in. She told him to use that special shield technique. Wood replied that he could only maintain it for a short time. She ordered him to use it on her. With no alternative, he wrapped her body in living wood armor. Kyle said it was impressive, but it would not change anything. He coated his claws with even more venom. Rin decided to ignore the pain and the poison. She needed to use all her remaining mana. In the next instant, she moved so fast that she vanished from Kyle's sight. He was struck in the abdomen without even seeing the blow. He tried to react, but was hit again and again. Rin circled him with fast and precise strikes. She realized that the poisonous rain was strange. It was impossible for an ordinary mage to maintain such a powerful area without an external source. As she kept striking, she noticed symbols at his feet. Kale was draining mana from the earth to sustain the venom. He gathered toxin within his own body to heal, but Rin had already understood the mechanism. She struck his legs, cutting the points that absorbed energy from the ground. Without the mana drain, his regeneration weakened. It was her chance. Even with her body burned by poison and nearly out of strength, she moved at the right moment. In the next instant, Kale's head was separated from his body. Exhausted and wounded, Rin managed to kill him. The wooden armor began to melt. Wood fell to the ground. Exhausted, Rin realized he had used too much power to protect her. She fell shortly after, thinking he had trusted her too much. Their consciousness faded almost at the same time. Even while down, Wood murmured that it hurt a lot, but that she had fought well. On the other side of the field, Luna realized that Kale had been defeated. Without hesitation, she ordered the dragon to finish the job. Draconis Memoria charged even harder against Srill's barrier. She felt the impact and realized it was not ordinary elemental magic. It was pure draconic magic. There was no way to retaliate in the same manner. Pain pierced through her body. But after everything she had endured in the abyss, she would not die there like an idiot. In that endless agony, she had always stood at the edge of death. She remembered when she had stood before the gates of death. Farrell had asked what she was looking at. She answered that there was a great gate before her. Farrell explained that it was the Stargate. She had found it, but in that state she had no right to touch it. Even so, her curiosity grew over time. When she finally reached the 6th circle, she saw the gate of darkness sink into the abyss and disappear. Since then she had tried to ignore it, but she could never forget. Now facing draconic magic, she knew she possessed no ordinary spell capable of confronting it. Only one option remained. She saw herself once again before the gate of darkness and touched it with her power. The doors opened. Before her stood death itself. Luna felt that overwhelming presence. It was not common magic. It was the power of the Reaper. An invisible blade cut through the draconic magic and shattered it. Luna could not react. She faced something she could not comprehend through logic or theory. In the past, the Tarsica sought to understand the fear of the unknown. They tried to unravel the draconic magic hidden behind the veil to prepare themselves against what they did not understand. Now Luna stood before the absolute unknown. Fear consumed her. She cried before that presence and lost consciousness. Completely exhausted, Sorbles asked herself if she had succeeded. Death whispered that she was foolish. She had invoked that power without understanding the true principle of darkness. 5 seconds was her limit. If she wanted the true essence of darkness, she would have to see deeper into the shadows and open the gate again in the future. The presence vanished, the gates closed, and Sorbles fell unconscious. That invocation of only 5 seconds drained all her mana. Even so, her last thought was that she needed to help Kella. Meanwhile, Kella was still trapped inside the blood cage, being pierced by the spikes. Seraphine realized that Kale was dead, and Luna unconscious. She lamented the loss, but kept her focus. Kella was subdued. All that remained was to finish the rest. The blood prison continued to pierce his body. Seraphine declared that it was the end. Kella still tried to break the cage. She said it was useless. No matter how strong his mana was, he would not be able to break a spell made from her own blood. Kella replied that he would show her what was useless. From the moment she appeared, he had already decided he would crush her. She insisted that her magic was different from ordinary magical power. power. He told her to shut up. His mana arrows had not worked before, but that had been part of the plan. Then he ordered Little Stone to act. From the shadows, the small being emerged and swallowed Seraphine Grimoire. She was shocked and asked if that was a slime. Her grimoire had vanished. Kella revealed that he had summoned Little Stone before the fight and hidden it in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. He asked why she needed 2 grimoires. The blood prison began to weaken. Seraphine realized he was absorbing her magic. Kella asked Turk if it was safe to do that. The answer came in the affirmative. He was doing well. Kella then declared that he was releasing reverse power and questioned whether there was any problem in absorbing another caster blood. Turk told him to stop being an idiot. He said the power contained in her blood was absurd and that this was a perfect opportunity to expand the limits of his body. If he combined it with the Demon King crystal, he could take an enormous leap. He told him to drain everything. Kella thought that in that case, her blood was now his. Since Seraphine was using her own blood to keep the cage active, he began pulling everything back. Not only the structure of the prison, but the vital energy mixed within it. She felt the drain and thought it was impossible, but Kella was thirsty. The connection between them intensified. As she was being drained, Seraphine began to sense his intentions. She observed the horn on his head and analyzed his body structure through the blood link. It was similar to dragon bones. The absurd regeneration, the density of his mana, everything pointed to something hybrid. She wondered if he was a half-breed. Demonic blood mixed with dragon blood. Kella fell silent for a moment. Half-breed. Then Turk panicked and told him to stop. He said he was not supposed to kill her. They needed her alive. Kella replied that he was the one who had told him to absorb everything. Turk grumbled that he had exceeded expectations and that it would be useful to keep that woman alive. Reluctantly, Kella cut the drain. It was a waste, but he stopped there. Seraphine fell to her knees. She realized she had lost half of her own blood. Her casting ability was practically nullified. That was completely outside any prediction she had made. Kella approached and asked if she knew why she was still alive. He said she had better explain very clearly what she had implied earlier. Meanwhile, Raiden was receiving reports. He asked if the Krentis had been defeated in such a short time. The other Tarsika were in shock. Their greatest achievement had been neutralized. They wanted to send reinforcements. Raiden said it was useless. He knew very well when a battle was lost. He ordered a retreat. Seraphine and Luna were still alive, but an operation of that size would draw attention. He would personally track the situation. He asked how strong Kella Khaldun had become. That was dangerous. Trying to capture him before Killian might be too much greed. Perhaps even Killian would struggle against the current Kella. Meanwhile, the White Talken resumed their own operation. Audria promised to crush Kella's skull with her axe. Kalka told her to control herself. Even the captain, who hated using dragon power, had accepted the Andarion. Killian, mounted on his dragon, looked serious. Deirdre teased him, saying he must be furious for having lost his arm to that weakling. Now with Hoodwalk arm, he was half man and half beast. Kalka warned them to be careful with their words. Killian declared that this time he would fight seriously. He would kill Srills with his own hands. In his mind, there was no room for error. Back on the field, Kella stared at Seraphine. The blood link was still active, though weakened. He commented that it was strange. With their blood connected, it was possible to feel fragments of information from each other. Seraphine admitted that it was also the first time she had experienced something like that, and that during the battle, things she had never anticipated kept happening. Kella asked directly if it was possible that he was half dragon. She explained that it would make sense. Perhaps it explained why that dragon had helped him in the past. Partners recognize partners. She asked if his mother, Kariste, was a dragon. He asked whether dragons could transform into humans using magic. Seraphine replied that dragons possessed magic superior to that of any other race, but permanently altering their own existence was almost impossible. Perhaps a brief transformation, maintaining it for a long time, would be unlikely. Kella thought about Kariste. He thought about how demons and dragons hated each other. In the Demon King castle, dragons were despised and considered as detestable as humans. It must not have been easy for her to hide who she was. She loved hell, that he knew. Then Seraphine said something completely unexpected. She stated that it was the first time in her life that she had been caught off guard, that during that battle she had understood the truth, a demon with dragon blood. That was extraordinary. She said she would like to become his wife. Kella froze for a second and asked what the hell she was talking about. She replied that she did not expect him to like her that much. His blood reacted, heating up through the connection. He became irritated and told her to cut that link immediately. He said he had only kept her alive because he was considering taking her in as a vassal. Nothing more. Seraphine calmly replied that if he preferred to treat the relationship as obedience, she could accept that. Becoming his wife would simply be the least she could offer. She wondered what she was doing. He began to realize that that Four Eyes was far more dangerous than he had imagined. Since she was young, Seraphine had been called the greatest mage in the history of Tarsika Magical Society. It was not only children her age who followed her. Even veterans respected and obeyed her. Because of that, she always felt it was her duty to protect that society. She had never feared anything. She grew up believing that one day she would rule the world using only her own magic. Everything changed. On the day she faced true terror, humans appeared riding dragons and attacked without mercy. Everyone she cherished, friends, disciples, and even experienced veterans, were reduced to ashes while begging for help. The talent that everyone praised so highly was useless to save them. She could do nothing. It was at that moment that she understood what the draconic magic Tarsika had researched for so long truly was. It was not just power, it was the absolute terror of dragons, a force that crushed any human pride. After that day, Seraphine swore swore she would discover everything about dragons. She never wanted to feel that helplessness again. The philosophy of Tarsica had always been to dominate all magical knowledge in the world. When that philosophy mixed with the trauma she carried, understanding dragons became the only way to prove her own worth. That was when she found a demon with dragon blood. She knew there would never be a better opportunity. Lacaldan would be the key to all the answers she had sought her entire life. When Luna woke up, she was confused and tried to understand where she was. Sronthels realized that she had awakened and could speak normally. After hearing Luna questions, Sronthels concluded that the memory alteration spell had worked. Now Luna remembered nothing, not even who she had been. They told her she was their companion, but she could not recall anything. Sronthel declared that from that moment on, they would stand at his side. Even without memories, the blood connection still existed. He felt it as well. Seraphine could not hand a dragon half-breed over to someone else. He was the core of the research she had pursued her entire life. However, when he exceeded her expectations, something changed. For the first time, her heart raced in a different way. She realized she was feeling something beyond scientific interest. At the same time, he thought that woman was far too dangerous. He had never been involved with anyone, and she was already talking about marriage as if it were simple. The situation became even more tense when Rin reacted with suspicion. To her, it was absurd. They had just been attacked, nearly killed, and now they were talking about marriage. Seraphine declared that she was no longer an enemy. She said that from then on, she would become Kella's wife. Rin did not accept the decision and believed something was being plotted. The atmosphere between them grew heavy, filled with rivalry and jealousy. To avoid a larger conflict, Srills proposed that only the four of them talk calmly. She explained that the mages of Tarsica were monsters far beyond the norm, and that everyone was in danger. Kella acknowledged that they had used spells he did not even know existed. If not for the stone he possessed, the situation would have been even worse. Srills argued that if those two stood at his side, the group firepower would increase greatly. Furthermore, a marriage could prevent Tarsica from becoming a direct enemy in the future. Kella admitted it made sense. They still needed to protect the villagers and build a dungeon to survive. With more powerful allies, their chances would increase. The Taken would not leave them alone, and the dragon controllers of Tarsica were practically human gods. Even so, Rin questioned whether such a marriage made sense. She knew he was destined to become a demon king, and she thought it was wrong to decide something so significant so easily. Srill suggested that it should only be a marriage in name. First, they would use the knowledge of the glasses-wearing woman to strengthen the group and build the dungeon. Later, when he became demon king, the situation could be resolved. Wood agreed with the idea. If it was only a strategic arrangement, there was no reason for panic. Inside, Rin hated that possibility. She hated it so much that she felt like exploding. Even as a mere servant, she wished to stand by Kella in the future. She could not bear to imagine him truly falling in love with Seraphine, or worse, having a child with her. Even so, at that moment she could not disobey. In the end, everyone looked at Kella. The decision was his. He acknowledged that as they were, he did not have enough strength to protect everyone from the dangers gathering outside. If that increased the group chances of survival, he could endure it, so he accepted the proposal. It would be a marriage in name only. He decided they would hold only a simple engagement ceremony. After accepting the engagement, it was agreed that the official wedding would take place when they decided on a fixed place to live. Seraphine answered firmly, without hesitation. Not even she expected the decision to come so quickly. Deep down, she began to wonder if it felt like love at first sight, but she pushed the idea away. She did not need to be ashamed of her feelings, but she also did not want to admit she was being driven by something so simple. Kella thought he had never even dated anyone, and suddenly he was engaged to a demon connected to dragons. Everything was happening too fast. Shortly after, they were already holding a simple ceremony in the village itself. The officiant was a respected elder of the community. Kella felt relieved that no one had witnessed the earlier confrontation between him and Seraphine. During the ceremony, she seemed different. She was more beautiful, wearing a dress that highlighted her presence. He noticed it immediately, even while trying to hide it. She noticed his gaze and teased him. She felt his blood reacting. She said that part of her blood flowed within him, and that she could sense those changes. That made him uncomfortable. He had not expected the connection to be so real. The elder concluded the ritual, and the engagement was officially sealed. Rin watched everything with contained hatred. For her, it was unbearable. She believed she was the only one who truly loved Kella. That woman had appeared out of nowhere and taken a place she had kept in silence. Srills tried to make her understand that nothing could be done at that moment. Rin understood the logic, but her heart refused to accept it. After the engagement, Seraphine declared that they were now one, and that he should not distance himself from her. Kella began to wonder whether that had truly been the right decision. Seraphine, in silence, thought that she was finally closer to reaching the power of dragons. She believed Kella could free her from the fear she had carried since the massacre. 4 days later, they set out on a journey with a large group of 200 people, 150 adults, and 50 children. The journey was difficult. When the supplies began to run low, they decided to feed only the children. No adult complained. Protecting the young was the priority, for both humans and demons. 2 days later, Wood clairvoyance evolved. He began detecting life forms with greater precision. Thanks to the stone given by a dragon, he located an ideal spot to build the dungeon. Kella was certain that dragon had some connection to him, because of the blood they shared. At another moment, Wood sensed a massive flow of mana about 20 kilometers to the west. He concluded they were dormant earth spirits. The location was perfect. Building a dungeon in harmony with nature would increase defense and make it easier to detect enemies. Sriels confirmed that the presence of earth spirits would make everything everything safer. Seraphine found the idea interesting, but her mind remained focused on Kella lineage and the combination of spirits and draconic power. For him, that became a problem every night. At the camp when everyone slept, Seraphine would appear saying she was ready. He did not understand what she meant until he realized she was talking about having a child as soon as possible, for strategy and for the future. For her, it was a logical decision. For him, it was too fast. They had just met. Even so, she insisted they could accelerate the process. When he understood her intention, Kella stepped back and made an excuse that he needed to leave. On the way, he met Rin, who reminded him that it was only a marriage in name. He confirmed he would not forget. She asked him not to kiss Seraphine or hold her hand beyond what was necessary. He assured her he would keep his distance. He asked why she was still awake. Rin said that as a servant, it was her duty to protect her master. He replied that she also needed to take care of her own health. The nights passed in the same pattern. Rin kept watch from a distance while Seraphine tried to get closer and closer. On one of those nights, Kella decided to sleep inside a crate to avoid the situation. It did not help. Seraphine found him, entered the tight space, and settled beside him, saying it was natural for them to stay together, since they were engaged. He noticed her scent, sweet like cotton candy. He did not hate it. On the contrary, it confused him. Afraid of letting himself be carried away, he decided to just sleep. Meanwhile, Turk criticized him mentally. He thought it was absurd for him to ignore a perfect fiancé. To Turk, as a future demon king, it was Kella's duty to continue his own bloodline. That would be the inevitable destiny of someone like him. That night, Turk's voice echoed in Kella's mind, saying he needed to produce heirs and stop acting like an idiot. Kella argued back mentally, saying it was only a marriage in name. He did not even know if Seraphine would truly be his wife. He did not know who would be the mother of his children in the future. At one point, he had even considered killing her. Turk replied that that was before. Now the situation was different. In the current scenario, Seraphine was the best possible partner. Marriage in name or not, he should take responsibility, have a child, guarantee continuity. Kella asked if that was why Turk had insisted so much on keeping Seraphine alive. He questioned whether Turk thought he was someone so calculating. He always acted on impulse, but Turk insisted. He said she had immense potential that had not yet fully manifested, just like him. Besides, Seraphine took him seriously. A demon king needed a wife worthy of his position, and finding someone like that was not simple. The fact that she had come to him could be destiny itself manifesting. Keller admitted he knew she was being sincere. The blood confirmed it. The connection was real. Even so, he hesitated. Turk provoked him, suggesting that perhaps the doubt was connected to that brat. Kella grew irritated, but did not deny that it bothered him. Turk cut off any indecision. He said Kella needed to stop being foolish and accept the role he carried. As the heir of the great demon king, he had to continue the lineage. When Kella woke in the middle of the night, he still wondered if he truly needed to follow that path. The next morning, they decided not to continue the journey. The children were exhausted and needed rest. In truth, he himself was more worn out than anyone else. He had not been sleeping well. One of the children asked how much longer they would keep walking. Kella replied that it was not much farther. Soon they would reach a good place to build their new home. The child asked if, when they arrived, the villains would never invade again. He hesitated for a second, but promised it would be a safe place. The children trusted him, and that weighed on him. Later, they organized a review of combat abilities. Serials began teaching basic magic techniques to those with greater mana reserves. Those with more resilient bodies trained in physical combat with Rin and Wood. Wood explained that if they could not use magic, then they needed to master weapons. The weapons provided had been created with guard power, far more durable than ordinary wood. Rin emphasized that they needed to aim for vital points and anticipate enemy movements. Every step had to be calculated. The group devoted themselves to both magical and physical combat. Kella observed everything and felt that it was a good sign. They were recovering hope. He needed to show that it was possible to build a future, especially for the children. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Celestial Guild, Hermerson met with leaders of other guilds. The master of the Oath Guild reported that Commander Dronzer had been defeated. The news was hard to believe. Rappa, master of the Guardians of Light Guild, stated that it was reason enough to summon all allies. Artemis, from the Wind Trackers Guild, declared she would fulfill her part in the hunt. The Alchemist, master of the Tower of Sages, said they could not allow the descendant of the Demon King to wander freely. Hermerson acknowledged that the bastard had surpassed his expectations. If Dronzer had fallen, any other guild could be next. This was no longer just a demon hunt. It was a matter of survival. On the map, they showed the region where Kella and his group were heading. Approximately 200 demons were on the move, likely to establish a base and build a dungeon. Barak questioned whether they were trying to create a fortress. Hermerson replied that the Alliance could never allow that. They needed to eliminate them before they became established. Artemis agreed that they should act quickly. Hermerson warned that anyone who lowered their guard would share the same fate as Dronzer. Thus, they officially declared the expedition of the allied guilds to subdue Kella Kaldin, under the claim of protecting humanity. 4 days later, Kella and his group were finally approaching their destination. Their combat abilities had improved considerably. Luna began to integrate naturally into the group, even without memories of her past. Everything seemed to be moving in a positive direction. Even so, Kella felt a bad premonition, and he was right. Someone was watching them from a distance, analyzing every movement in silent attention.